Coming down the mountain to toy with my stunning fiancée. Unworthy disciple, stop rubbing it, it's all swollen. Master, after practicing the dragon claw for 10 years, I really can't help myself. Don't just practice the dragon claw, your Qilin kidney is going to be ruined if you don't train it. Chapter 1. Xiao Fan, will it hurt a lot? I'm a little afraid of pain. Don't worry, Master San, not only will it not hurt, but it will actually feel quite good. Then let's begin. On Yuming Mountain, a woman with skin as smooth as jade and a bewitching gaze sat before Lu Fan. Her jade-like face had a faint flush, her teeth lightly biting her red lips, and her head turned to one side. With her delicate hands, she lightly grabbed the bedsheet, signaling Lu Fan with a glance to hurry up and start. The woman's name was Dan Tai Yu, Lu Fan's third master, known as the Immortal Demon Doctor. She was highly skilled in medicine, using her left hand with silver needles to bring the dead back to life, and her right hand wielding a sword that could slay gods and Buddhas. She had once forced the Western nations to sign a pact with the gods. Above the heavens, none were allowed to step into the 9 provinces, or else their entire family would be exterminated. In addition to Master San, Lu Fan had 2 other masters. His first master, Yang Qingwu, was a master of Qi Men Dun Jia, Feng Shui, and mystical arts, known as the world's deadliest killer, invincible in the world. His second master, Yi Putti, was skilled in the arts of the guqin, chess, calligraphy, painting, and martial arts, known as the Bloody Eye Body. When the Bloody Eye opened, it brought death to all. My dragon claw hand, perfected over years, is finally going to be put to use, Lu Fan said solemnly. He extended both hands, filled with a sense of resolve, and pressed against Dan Tai Yu's chest. The sounds of heavy breathing filled the room. By the time Lu Fan finished the massage, Dan Tai Yu was drenched in sweat, lying limp on the bed, her mind blank. She never imagined that one day she would possess such a proud, soft chest. You little brat, I didn't expect your dragon claw hand would have this effect, Dan Tai Yu said, licking her seductive lips, gazing fixedly at Lu Fan. Lu Fan felt a chill run down his spine, his body stiff like a frightened rabbit. He covered his chest and pitifully said, Master San, you can't be reckless. Master said that until my Qilin bone fully recovers, I mustn't break my body. You little brat, I was lying to you. Your Qilin bone was already cured by me, Dan Tai Yu lightly raised Lu Fan's chin with her finger, smiling seductively. How about we take advantage of it while Master and second sister aren't here, and I'll show you something fun. Before she could finish her words, a terrifying gust of wind blew through the bamboo house, tearing it apart in mid-air. When Lu Fan turned around, he saw, through the swirling sand and dust, a beautiful woman dressed in a red long gown, carrying a purple gourd. Her long, fair legs were wrapped in thin red stockings, exuding a sensual charm. Behind her was a little girl with a ponytail, sucking on a lollipop. Master, you're finally back. If you didn't come back, I'd have lost my virginity. Lu Fan quickly slid onto his knees, tightly clutching Yang Qingwu's legs, rubbing them up and down in sheer pleasure. At this moment, Yi Putti, who had a ponytail, stepped out from behind Yang Qingwu. She grabbed Lu Fan's ear angrily and said, You brat, all you know is to take advantage of big sister. Don't you think my advantage is worth taking? Lu Fan awkwardly glanced at Yang Qingwu. Seeing that she wasn't angry, he breathed a sigh of relief. Yang Qingwu casually placed the purple gourd on the ground, her face cold as she said, Xiao Fan, you need to leave the mountain now. Don't, Master. I haven't had enough of your legs yet, how can you bear to send me down the mountain? Lu Fan wailed, hugging Yang Qingwu's sexy leg once more. Seeing Lu Fan's shamelessness, Dan Tai Yu's mouth twitched. She thought to herself, this little brat really has no shame. If it were anyone else, Yang Qingwu would have long since crushed their skulls. Yang Qingwu gently patted Lu Fan's head and said in a low voice, Xiao Fan, your mother's relic, the 9-dragon jade bai, has resurfaced in the world. You must leave the mountain. What? The 9-dragon jade bai. Lu Fan's pupils contracted, and he clenched his fists, making cracking sounds. His previously frivolous demeanor disappeared, and a fierce killing intent radiated from him. Hearing 9-dragon jade bai, Lu Fan's memories flooded back. He was born with the Qilin bone, the rightful heir to the Lu family in the capital. At the age of 4, his father, Lu Longtu, allied with the powerful and kicked Lu Fan and his mother out of the family, marrying Zhao Wanga, the daughter of one of the 5 great families of the capital. To eliminate future threats, Zhao Wanger ordered assassins to chase after Lu Fan and his mother. Fortunately, Lu Fan and his mother survived and escaped. After many hardships, they finally settled in Jiang City. But on Lu Fan's 14th birthday, a group of black-clad assassins descended from the sky, all searching for the 9-dragon jade by. Lu Fan would never forget that day. To cover his escape, his mother had to lead the assassins away. After that, she disappeared without a trace. Lu Fan assumed the black-clad assassins were sent by Zhao Wanger. In a fit of rage, Lu Fan went to the Lu family to confront Zhao Wanger, but she crippled his Qilin bone with a single palm and threw him into the mountains to die. Fortunately, fate was on Lu Fan's side, and he was saved by Dan Taiyu, who was collecting herbs in the mountains, and brought him to Yuming Mountain. Seeing Lu Fan's eyes bloodshot, Yang Qingwu took off the ring from her thumb and said coldly, "Xiao Fan, this is the Yuming ring. From now on, you will be the Lord of Yuming Hall, the King of Souls. You can command all the 3,000 souls in Yuming Hall. Xiao Fan, this is the body knife. From now on, you will be the leader of the Blood Moon, Shui Futuor." Second Master Yi Putti, unwilling to be outdone, took a soft knife as thin as a cicadar's wing from her waist and casually tossed it to Lu Fan. Lu Fan knew that the Blood Moon was one of the 3 great assassins of the Darxia Kingdom, specializing in executing evildoers. The body knife was a symbol of the leader of Blood Moon. "You little brat, having the Qilin Kidney alone is not enough. I'll teach you the techniques of the bedroom. You'll be able to control 3,000 women and ascend to the heavens in the daylight," Dan Taiyu said, smiling seductively as she tossed a yellowed ancient book at Lu Fan. Lu Fan lazily flipped through the book on bedroom techniques and pouted, "Master San, this is useless. Where am I supposed to find 3,000 women to control? You little brat, this is the 9 marriage contracts. Go ahead and control them," Dan Taiyu said, her eyes filled with longing, as she handed him the marriage certificates she had prepared earlier. Lu Fan took the documents, grinning, "Master San, once I've mastered the techniques, I'll come back and honor you." "You little brat, you even dare to flirt with me," Dan Taiyu's face flushed with embarrassment. Her proud chest swelled, tempting Lu Fan to stare in awe. After bidding farewell to his 3 masters, Lu Fan packed his things and headed down the mountain. Watching him leave, Yi Putti looked worried and said, "Big sister, the 9-dragon jade by reappearing in the world might be a trap, designed to lure Xiao Fan out. HMPH, I don't care if it's a trap. Anyone who dares to harm Xiao Fan, I'll destroy their entire family," Yang Qingwu said, her voice full of killing intent, exuding a domineering aura. After 10 years of hard training, Lu Fan was finally qualified to go down the mountain and seek revenge. But for now, his priority was to find the 9-dragon jade by and uncover the truth about his mother's fate. When Lu Fan reached the foot of the mountain, he suddenly heard a voice like a nightingale's, "Fans, I really saw a red-dressed immortal woman carrying a purple gourd, stepping 10 meters at a time, ascending Yuming Mountain. 10 meters at a time. Streamer, are you exaggerating? To get famous, you'd even throw away your face." Hearing the harsh voices in the live stream, the woman angrily turned off the broadcast. In her haste, she stumbled and fell into Lu Fan's arms. Lu Fan felt a soft sensation on his chest, as though he had bumped into cotton. Looking down, he saw a pair of snow-white, deep, irresistible breasts, exuding an enchanting magic. The woman's natural beauty was stunning. She had a devilishly attractive figure, wearing a white over-the-knee skirt. Her long black hair hung over her shoulders, and her fair legs were wrapped in white stockings. Her toes were soft and delicate, like a cute elf. Chapter 2, Whoever dares to save you, I'll castrate them. The woman was completely stunned, her clear and innocent eyes staring incredulously at Lu Fan. How could anyone start by touching someone's chest right away? She looked like a frightened little rabbit, pushing Lu Fan away, clutching her ample chest, and retreating hastily. The woman's name was Du Lingxian. She was an outdoor streamer who loved to do live broadcasts in remote wilderness areas. While Du Lingxian was near Yuming Mountain filming, she suddenly saw a woman in a red dress carrying a purple gourd, walking with giant strides, each step covering dozens of meters, climbing the mountain. To avoid scaring her fans, Du Lingxian only mentioned that the woman took 10-meter strides, which was already a conservative estimate. Tears welled up in Du Lingxian's eyes as she pitifully said, "Why did you start by touching my chest? Beauty, you've misunderstood I've practiced Dragon Claw Hand for 10 years, and I couldn't help myself." Lu Fan's face reddened, seeming a little embarrassed. "Still making excuses? Still saying you couldn't control yourself. Du Lingxian suddenly had a bad feeling. Could she have run into a wilderness pervert? And nothing else wrong, Du Lingxian stammered, shaking her head repeatedly and quickly running towards the car by the roadside. But just as she was about to get into the car, Lu Fan opened the passenger door and sat down next to her. As Du Lingxian was about to fasten her seatbelt, she turned pale in fright. What are you trying to do? Fearing Du Lingxian would misunderstand, Lu Fan quickly explained, Beauty, you've misunderstood. I came to treat you. You actually have a lump in your left breast, about 2 centimeters in diameter. At first, Du Lingxian thought Lu Fan was just trying to take advantage of her and was spouting nonsense. But what shocked her was that Lu Fan's description was precise. Du Lingxian really did have breast cancer, and according to Western medicine, surgery was necessary to remove it. However, being a woman who valued her beauty, Du Lingxian couldn't bear to accept that. So, she had hoped to find a miracle doctor while out in the wilderness. Finally, she had come across someone who seemed extraordinary, a person carrying a purple gourd, but she had lost track of her. Du Lingxian nervously asked, Do you have a way to treat it? The first treatment method is surgery, Lu Fan said casually. Du Lingxian immediately shook her head vigorously, No way. I can't have surgery. My chest is this big, do you think it's easy? Lu Fan smiled wickedly, then there's only the second treatment method. Du Lingxian felt goosebumps as Lu Fan's gaze landed on her. She timidly asked, What's that? Lu Fan said seriously, circulating blood and dissolving the stasis. Du Lingxian quickly asked, How do you circulate the blood? One word, massage. Lu Fan extended a finger and pretended to sound profound. The theory is that yin creates form, and yang transforms into energy. A lump is just stagnated energy and blood, which accumulates as impure energy. As long as you dissolve it, you'll be cured. Du Lingxian's face darkened with annoyance. You bastard, you're just trying to take advantage of me again. Seeing that Du Lingxian didn't believe him, Lu Fan shrugged and said, Do you remember the woman in the red dress with the purple gourd? You know her. Du Lingxian's eyes lit up, and she grabbed Lu Fan's arm, her soft chest once again pressing against his. Lu Fan arrogantly replied, She's my master. Seeing the sincerity in Lu Fan's eyes, Du Lingxian hesitated but then gritted her teeth and said, Fine. You can massage me, but just think of it as being bitten by a dog. No matter whether it was true or not, Du Lingxian had to try. If it worked, she wouldn't need surgery. Once Du Lingxian took off her bra and Lu Fan moved in to examine her chest, he nearly got kicked away. He quickly started chanting a calming mantra to steady his nerves, thinking, Little rabbit, white as snow, with ears upright. Lu Fan kindly reminded, Beauty, this might hurt a little at first. Please bear with it. Stop talking and hurry up, Du Lingxian grumbled, turning her head to one side. Her face was already flushed. This was the first time someone had been so shameless with her. As Lu Fan applied the massage, Du Lingxian instinctively clenched her fists, letting out soft moans. Within just a few minutes, Du Lingxian was drenched in sweat, gasping heavily. With a final breathy gasp, Du Lingxian felt a foul-smelling liquid expel from her chest. As the liquid was expelled, Du Lingxian felt a wave of relief in her left breast, and the earlier pain was gone. Lu Fan wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled, Beauty, you've been cured. If you don't believe me, you can go check with a hospital. Just a quick massage, and he had cured her breast cancer? No one would believe it if they hadn't seen it for themselves. Just one massage and it's all gone. Du Lingxian put her clothes back on, her face full of disbelief. Lu Fan rolled his eyes and joked, What? Do you want me to do it a few more times? Du Lingxian's face turned red, and she shook her head quickly, No, I don't. All right, I'll stop teasing you. My hand's sore from all that rubbing. It's time to head back to Jiangcheng. Lu Fan stretched, casually buckling his seatbelt and leaning back in the chair. Du Lingxian was startled. How did you know I was going back to Jiangcheng? Lu Fan yawned and said, The license plate told me. And so, the journey continued. Du Lingxian drove Lu Fan straight towards Jiangcheng. Along the way, the two chatted and laughed. After they got off the highway, Du Lingxian turned to ask, By the way, what's your name? Lu Fan. What about you? I'm Du Lingxian. Du Lingxian? Do you know Du Lingxi? Lu Fan had come to Jiangcheng not only to track down his mother's whereabouts but also to meet his fiancée, whom he had never met before. and Du Lingxi was one of his 9 fiancés. Besides Du Lingxi, Lu Fan also had another fiancée in Jiangcheng Shenfeishue, the daughter of Shen Nanfeng, Jiangcheng's richest man. You know Du Lingxi? Du Lingxuan's heart trembled slightly. She casually probed, trying to remain calm. Could it really be such a coincidence? The Du Lingxi Lu Fan mentioned was her twin sister. Lu Fan smiled. She's my fiancée. What? Your fiancée? Du Lingxian was stunned and immediately slammed on the brakes, pulling over to the side of the road. She initially thought Lu Fan was joking. But after seeing the marriage certificate with Du Lingxi's signature, her father, Du Huxiao's signature, in fact Du Lingxian fell silent. In other words, the marriage certificate was real. That meant Lu Fan was going to be her future brother-in-law? Thinking back to the blood circulation treatment earlier, Du Lingxian wished she could just vanish into a crack in the ground. Noticing her unusual expression, Lu Fan couldn't help but ask, do you know her? Her, she's on a business trip and isn't in Jiangcheng. Oh, I see. Then can you take me to meet Shenfeishue? She's also my fiancée. How can you be so much of a playboy? How am I a playboy? I'm just a traditional man. Du Lingxian looked at him speechlessly. Traditional? How are you traditional? Lu Fan scratched his nose, grinning awkwardly. I don't oppose having 3 wives and 4 concubines. Isn't he that traditional enough? 3 wives and 4 concubines. But, a man's words are always deceiving. Better to believe in ghosts than trust a man's empty promises. Just then, a young man standing in the passenger seat of a convertible sports car took off his sunglasses and cursed, "Damn it, Du Lingxian, how dare you secretly meet with some pretty boy behind my back?" As soon as he finished speaking, 3 vans appeared behind the sports car, surrounding Du Lingxian's car. The van doors swung open, and a group of thugs with wooden clubs swaggered out. Du Lingxian quickly got out of the car, glaring at the young man leading the thugs. "Huang Xiaoyan, forcefully picking fruit doesn't make it sweet? Can you stop pestering me? Whether it's sweet or not doesn't matter. As long as it quenches my thirst." Huang Xiaoyang's face twisted into a lewd grin as his greedy gaze moved down from Du Lingxian's face, stopping only when it reached her silky stockings. Huh? Huang Xiao, what's that yellow stain on Big Sister's stockings? Did Big Sister lose her virginity? My god, someone actually dared to cuckold Huang Xiao in Jiangcheng. The thugs behind Huang Xiaoyang muttered among themselves. Just 1 day without seeing her, and Du Lingxian had been taken? How could Huang Xiaoyang tolerate that? You slut, stop pretending to be pure. Today, in front of this pretty boy, I'll ravage you. Huang Xiaoyang sneered, shoving Du Lingxian onto the hood of the car. Du Lingxian's eyes widened in horror. Help! Who dares to help you? I'll castrate them. Huang Xiaoyang grinned wickedly, reaching out to tear apart the white stockings on Du Lingxian's slender legs. Suddenly, a shadow appeared in front of Huang Xiaoyang like a ghost, materializing out of thin air. Chapter 3, Can a corpse be revived? What exactly is this person, alive or dead? Lu Fan didn't move his feet, yet he suddenly appeared in front of Huang Xiaoyang. This Lu Fan truly hides his abilities well. Slap! Lu Fan swung his hand like he was swatting a fly, sending Huang Xiaoyang flying several meters. Oh! Huang Xiaoyang screamed, blood dripping from his mouth, and his head slammed heavily into the ground. Afraid that Lu Fan might accidentally kill Huang Xiaoyang with a single step, Du Lingxian quickly rushed forward and said, Lu Fan, don't be impulsive. Huang Xiaoyang is the heir to the Black Dragon Association, and he has connections in both the underworld and the legitimate world. Anyone from Jiangcheng would know that the mere mention of the Black Dragon Association would send a chill down their spine. Even Jiangcheng's wealthiest man, Shen Nanfeng, wouldn't dare offend them. It wasn't that Shen Nanfeng was afraid of the Black Dragon Association. It was just that the Black Dragon Association had no morals and would do anything no one knew what they were capable of. Seeing Lu Fan hesitate, Huang Xiaoyang, in a fit of anger, sneered, "Little brat, now you know my power, right? If you know what's good for you, go ahead and castrate yourself, so I don't have to do it myself." What a joke, Lu Fan scoffed, clearly uninterested. He swung his hand again and slapped Huang Xiaoyang, sending him flying once more. With a painful scream, Huang Xiaoyang's mouth cracked, and one of his front teeth flew out. As Huang Xiaoyang crashed to the ground, the rest of his thugs rushed in, surrounding Lu Fan. Du Lingxian was stunned. In her memory, no one had ever dared slap Huang Xiaoyang in the face. Xiaoyang, you're too merciful, don't let him. Du Lingxian was about to plead for Lu Fan, but was interrupted by Huang Xiaoyang's furious shout, shut up. You damn woman, after I deal with this wild man, I'll deal with you. 100,000 for an arm. 200,000 for a leg. Whoever kills him will get 1,000,000. Huang Xiaoyang's fists were clenched tightly, veins bulging on his forehead in extreme fury. When there's a big reward, there is always someone brave enough to act. As soon as Huang Xiaoyang finished speaking, the thugs began swinging their clubs, charging toward Lu Fan with murderous intent. Du Lingxian nervously shouted, be careful. For Lu Fan, dealing with these thugs was as simple as stamping his foot. Crash! Suddenly, Lu Fan stomped his foot, and the ground instantly cracked open. A terrifying force surged like a flood, spreading outwards. The thugs who were just a few steps away were instantly struck by the force, their legs snapping in half as they screamed in agony and collapsed to the ground. How is this possible? Huang Xiaoyang rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. A single step had released such terrifying power? Could Lu Fan be the legendary martial arts grandmaster? Du Lingxian, as if she had found a treasure, stood on her tiptoes and planted a kiss on Lu Fan's cheek. It's only fair to return the favor. Miss Du, you really have no sense of martial ethics. Lu Fan smiled wickedly, one hand supporting Du Lingxian's hips, the other cradling her head, before domineeringly kissing her back. This kiss completely overwhelmed Du Lingxian. Thinking that Lu Fan was going to be her future brother-in-law gave her an indescribable thrill. She instinctively squeezed her legs together, trying to calm the flames of desire burning inside her. You've gone too far. Huang Xiaoyang's eyes turned bloodshot with anger. He leaped a few times in place, feeling utterly humiliated. How could Lu Fan kiss her like that? Not only a kiss, but now he was even sticking his tongue out. Huang Xiaoyang's words brought Du Lingxian back to reality. It was so embarrassing. She had never imagined that her first kiss would go to her future brother-in-law. Talk too much. Lu Fan gave Huang Xiaoyang a slap that sent him reeling, making his head spin and blood pour from his mouth. Huang Xiaoyang covered his swollen face and sobbed, you're too much. Not only did you steal my woman, but now you're hitting me too. My woman? Lu Fan sneered, and with another slap, he slammed Huang Xiaoyang's head to the ground. Huang Xiaoyang groaned, she's your woman. HMPH, if you keep pestering Du Lingxian, I'll castrate you myself, Lu Fan said coldly, landing a powerful punch between Huang Xiaoyang's legs. The blow made Huang Xiaoyang's legs tremble, and a foul yellow liquid began to seep out of his pants. This was truly the height of humiliation. Huang Xiaoyang swore silently that he would make Lu Fan pay for this. The Black Dragon Association had its own powerful enforcers and was capable of doing anything to take revenge. On their way to the city, Du Lingxian couldn't help but ask, Lu Fan, are you really a martial arts grandmaster? Lu Fan thought for a moment and shook his head, not exactly. I knew it, Du Lingxian said with a raised eyebrow. You're just in your early 20s. How could you possibly be a martial arts grandmaster? Even the top genius of Jiangnan, Yu Jialong, is only at the peak of the Xian level. Yu Jialong? That name sounds familiar. I think she is also one of my fiancés. Lu Fan casually said, pulling another marriage certificate from his envelope. When Du Lingxian saw the certificate, she was once again stunned. What kind of person was Lu Fan? How could he have Yu Jialong's marriage certificate as well? Yu Jialong. The top elite family of Magic City, the Jade family's daughter. She was a medical and martial arts prodigy, and the granddaughter of Lei Juntian, the leader of the Qinxia Society. In ancient martial arts, practitioners learn killing techniques, which are divided into 4 realms, the Heaven, Earth, Xian, and Huang realms. The Huang realm is the lowest, while the Qian realm is the highest. Each realm is further divided into the early, middle, late, and peak stages. Huang realm, cultivating essence to refine energy and developing internal strength. Xian realm, cultivating inner breath, strengthening bones, tendons, and skin, allowing internal energy to be released and enabling techniques like disarming with bare hands. Di realm, with blood like a dragon, one can turn leaves into projectiles, block acupoints with flying leaves, and kill without a trace. This realm also earns the title of martial arts grandmaster. Qian realm, this is an almost unreachable level. There are rumors that stepping into the Chen realm can extend one's life by 50 years. Though Yu Jielong was still only in her 20s, she was already a peerless genius at the peak of the Xian realm. She was just one step away from the legendary martial arts grandmaster. Upon arriving at the Shen manor, Du Lingxian kindly advised, Lu Fan, I know you're strong, but compared to someone like Yu Jielong, you still have quite a bit of distance. Please listen to me, don't try to mess with her. No matter how good she is, she'll still fall under my flower print boxer shorts, Lu Fan said nonchalantly as he got out of the car and waved to Du Lingxian, signaling her to leave. If Yu Jielong heard that, Lu Fan would probably be killed by her in an instant. With Yu Jielong's arrogance, how could she ever look at someone as ordinary as Lu Fan? Du Lingxian secretly shook her head and drove away. Shen manor. At this moment, the Shen family was in a state of deep mourning, with crying echoing through their halls. Just half an hour ago, Shen Nanfeng, the richest man in Jiangcheng, had passed away due to illness. Miss Shen, it's my fault for lacking the skill to save President Shen. Please accept my condolences. The renowned Dr. Sun, known throughout Jiangnan, sighed as he helped the grieving Shen Feishue to her feet. Shen Feishue was stunningly beautiful, dressed in a black gown, but at that moment, she was in tears, unable to hold herself together. Miss Shen, there's a man claiming to be Lu Fan, saying he can bring your father back to life. A bodyguard, wearing a white flower on his chest, rushed in. How can a dead person be revived? But, after all, the man seemed to have good intentions. Thinking this over, Shen Feishue turned to the bodyguard and said, give him 10,000 yuan for his travel expenses. But just as she was about to give up on him, Lu Fan appeared at the door, carrying an old, worn-out bag. Seeing Lu Fan dressed in shabby clothes, his jeans faded from frequent washing, and his canvas shoes patched up with several stitches, it was hard to believe that this man could possess any real medical skills. It seemed more likely that he was just trying to get attention or perhaps flirt with Shen Feishue. Shen Feishue shot a cold glance at Lu Fan and said impatiently, our Shen family's reward isn't he something that can be easily fooled? Before I get angry, you better leave. Har! These young people today are so arrogant. How could a corpse be revived? Dr. Sun, who was renowned in Jiangnan, stroked his beard and walked forward with an expression full of disdain. Lu Fan raised an eyebrow, then coldly asked, has President Shen's body started to rot? Dr. Sun was taken aback and shook his head, no. Then it can be revived. Lu Fan gave Dr. Sun a dismissive glance, bypassed him, and hurried toward Shen Nanfeng's body. Who does this little fraud think he is, coming to Shen family to make a scene? Does he not know that death is sacred, and the deceased must be respected? Who dares cause trouble in the Shen family? Are you tired of living? Guards! Shen Feishue clenched her fists, shouting at the bodyguards to stop Lu Fan. Bang! Bang! Lu Fan charged forward, knocking the bodyguards out of his way effortlessly. This was too powerful. Just as Shen Feishue was about to call for more help, she heard Lu Fan confidently declare, your father still has a breath left in him. With just a few needles, I can bring him back to life. Chapter 4, 9 Needles Defying the Heavens, Bringing the King of Hell Back to Life. As soon as Lu Fan stepped into the Shen manor, he could sense that Shen Nanfeng's life force had not completely dissipated. There was still a faint breath hanging on, though it was extremely weak and could fade at any moment. To Lu Fan, as long as there was a breath left, there was hope. After all, he was a disciple of the immortal, indestructible Dr. Dan Tai Yu. How could Lu Fan lack skills? When it came to medical expertise, Lu Fan had probably already surpassed Dan Tai Yu himself. Miss Shen, are you really going to just stand by and watch as this country bumpkin desecrates President Shen's body? Lu Fan's arrogance completely infuriated Dr. Sunday. Shen Feishue did not speak, her gaze fixed on Lu Fan. In fact, Shen Feishue also hoped for a miracle to occur. Seeing Lu Fan expertly checking Shen Nanfeng's pulse, Dr. Sun could not help but sneer, kid, ambition is good, but if you have ambition without the corresponding medical skill, you'll just end up killing yourself. As a renowned doctor in Jiangnan, Sun Baifu had never been so belittled. If Lu Fan really managed to bring Shen Nanfeng back to life, how could Sun Baifu show his face? Right now, Shen Nanfeng had no pulse, his body was cold. Even the highest level gods couldn't revive him, let alone someone like Lu Fan. The more Sun Baifu thought about it, the angrier he became, continuing to mock, kid, do you really think you're Huor Tuor reincarnated? If you can bring Shen Nanfeng back to life, I, Sun Baifu, will become your disciple. You? My disciple? After finishing checking Shen Nanfeng's pulse, Lu Fan raised an eyebrow and gave Sun Baifu a disdainful glance. Hearing Lu Fan's words, Sun Baifu felt a deep sense of humiliation, his face turning red with anger. He yelled, "You little brat! Why are you talking so much nonsense?" Lu Fan was annoyed by Sun Baifu's incessant complaining and, with one swift motion, slapped him, sending him sprawling to the floor. Sun Baifu trembled with rage, cursing, "You're so crude. How could someone like you have profound medical skills? HMPH, I'm crude because I slapped you. But you repeatedly insult me, and that's not crude." Lu Fan chuckled, bending down to grab a silver needle pouch from Sun Baifu's medical box. Throughout this entire exchange, Shen Feishue remained silent, quietly watching Lu Fan while holding her chest. When Lu Fan took out a silver needle and began preparing to insert it into Shen Nanfeng's head, Shen Feishue, walking in her high heels, stepped closer. She spoke softly, "If you can save my father, I'm willing to give you half of the Shen family's fortune." Half of the Shen family's fortune. That was an astronomical amount of money. Even someone like Sun Baifu, who valued money as little as dirt, could not help but swallow his saliva. "Miss Shen, I'm your fiancée. Saving your father is the right thing to do." Lu Fan grinned, looking directly into Shen Feishue's eyes. Shen Feishue's lips twitched slightly. Could this country bumpkin really be the fiancée her father had mentioned so often? No matter how she looked at him, Lu Fan seemed completely out of place with her status. As the daughter of Jiang Cheng's wealthiest man, how could Shen Feishue possibly settle for someone like him? Raising an eyebrow, Shen Feishue asked, "Do you have the marriage certificate?" "Here you go." Lu Fan pulled out a wrinkled marriage certificate from his pocket and casually handed it to Shen Feishue. With a mix of hesitation and curiosity, Shen Feishue carefully unfolded the marriage certificate. It read, "A marriage between the two families, bound in union. May this good match last forever, with equal standing for both." At the end of the certificate was Shen Nanfeng's handwritten signature. This marriage certificate, was it real? Sun Baifu glanced at the crumpled document, then smirked, "Miss Shen, in my opinion, this certificate is definitely fake. Lu Fan must have forged it after hearing about President Shen's death, trying to blackmail you for some money. Whether it's forged or not, we'll know once my father wakes up." Lu Fan smiled confidently, and with a flick of his wrist, he picked up a silver needle and stabbed it into Shen Nanfeng's Baihui acupoint at the top of his head. First needle to drive away evil. Second needle to calm the soul. Third needle to wash the marrow. Fourth needle to shape the pulse. Fifth needle to awaken the spirit. Sixth needle to strengthen the heart. Seventh needle to open the channels. Eighth needle to invigorate the blood. Ninth needle to return the soul. Lu Fan's hands moved like lightning, each needle striking a vital point on Shen Nanfeng's body. Sun Baifu rubbed his eyes, his face filled with disbelief as he exclaimed, "Is this the legendary 9 needles defying heaven? You're not completely useless, you have a little bit of discernment." Lu Fan's words made Sun Baifu feel thoroughly embarrassed. Sun Baifu awkwardly smiled, unable to resist approaching Lu Fan to ask, "Mr. Lu, isn't he the 9 needles defying heaven incomplete?" Just moments ago, the arrogant Sun Baifu had now begun addressing Lu Fan respectfully as Mr. Lu. Clearly, Sun Baifu had already been conquered by Lu Fan's needle technique. "I've completed it," Lu Fan replied in a calm tone, as though perfecting the 9 needles defying heaven was no big deal, not something worth boasting about. After speaking, Lu Fan stretched out his hand, and the 9 silver needles began to tremble, moving in a specific rhythm. Controlling the needles with qi? Sun Baifu was once again shocked. He had never expected that such a young man like Lu Fan could possess such profound inner strength. It is often said that medicine and martial arts are inseparable. However, despite Sun Baifu's decades of practice, he had only reached the Yellow Realm, far from the level where one could control needles with their qi. Within 3 minutes, President Shen will wake up, Lu Fan flicked his fingers, and the 9 silver needles seemed to be summoned back into his hand. The 9 needles defying heaven, bringing the king of hell back to life. Thud. Without warning, Sun Baifu kneeled in front of Lu Fan. "Mr. Lu, I want to become your disciple and learn the 9 needles defying heaven," Sun Baifu said with great excitement. "Dr. Sun, you're joking. I'm just a crude person. How could I possibly be qualified to be your teacher?" Lu Fan gave a self-deprecating laugh, not even bothering to look at Sun Baifu again. Sun Baifu, realizing his mistake, could only grumble and stand up, retreating to one side. As for Shinfei, she was stunned. Could it really be possible for someone to come back to life just from a few needle pricks? It was simply too unbelievable. Lu Fan seemed to read her mind and smiled as he explained, "Your father only suffered a sudden heart attack, falling into a state of apparent death. Hasn't he truly passed away?" Apparent death. That made sense now. No wonder Shen Nanfeng's pulse had stopped. Soon, Shen Nanfeng coughed a few times and slowly opened his eyes. "Thank you, Dr. Sun, for saving my life." Sun Baifu's face turned red with embarrassment, and he awkwardly replied, "President Shen, it was your son-in-law who saved you." "Where is my son-in-law?" Shen Nanfeng asked, struggling to sit up. Before Shinfei could approach, Lu Fan quickly supported Shen Nanfeng's arm and smiled, "Dad, my name is Lu Fan. I've come on my master's orders to marry your daughter." This guy kept calling him Dad. It made Shinfei feel like an outsider in her own family. "Lu Fan, who says I'll marry you?" "My husband." Before Shinfei could finish her sentence, Shen Nanfeng raised his hand to stop her, sternly saying, "Your husband can only be Lu Fan." Shinfei was so furious that she stamped her feet. "Dad, how could you make me marry this country bumpkin?" "I don't agree." Shen Nanfeng laughed heartily. "I don't care whether you agree or not. In any case, half of the Shen family's fortune must go to Lu Fan." Upon hearing this, Shinfei was completely flustered. "Who's really my father here?" "Lu, you son of a bitch, get out here and die." As he spoke, Huang Xiaoyang stormed in, followed by a man in a black shirt, exuding an intimidating presence. "Who are you? Daring to make trouble at my Shen family's manor? Are you looking for death?" A dozen or so of Shen's bodyguards rushed forward, blocking Huang Xiaoyang's path. Huang Xiaoyang slightly tilted his head and sneered, "Uncle Jiang, it's all yours." The man in black, Jiang Hualong, nodded and stepped forward. His cold gaze swept over the room. "My name is Jiang Hualong. Anyone here who can stop one of my punches is welcome to try. If anyone succeeds, I will gladly offer my neck for them to strike." "Bloodhound Jiang Hualong?" Hearing Jiang Hualong's name, Shen Nanfeng trembled, his face turning pale as he quickly turned to Lu Fan and said, "Xiaofan, this man is ruthless. He loves to punch through people's stomachs. Quickly, go out the back door and escape." Sun Baifu rubbed his eyes, his face filled with disbelief as he exclaimed, "Is this the legendary 9 needles defying heaven? You're not completely useless, you have a little bit of discernment." Lu Fan's words made Sun Baifu feel thoroughly embarrassed. Sun Baifu awkwardly smiled, unable to resist approaching Lu Fan to ask, "Mr. Lu, isn't he the 9 needles defying heaven incomplete?" Just moments ago, the arrogant Sun Baifu had now begun addressing Lu Fan respectfully as Mr. Lu. Clearly, Sun Baifu had already been conquered by Lu Fan's needle technique. "I've completed it," Lu Fan replied in a calm tone, as though perfecting the 9 needles defying heaven was no big deal, not something worth boasting about. After speaking, Lu Fan stretched out his hand, and the 9 silver needles began to tremble, moving in a specific rhythm. Controlling the needles with qi? Sun Baifu was once again shocked. He had never expected that such a young man like Lu Fan could possess such profound inner strength. It is often said that medicine and martial arts are inseparable. However, despite Sun Baifu's decades of practice, he had only reached the Yellow Realm, far from the level where one could control needles with their qi. Within 3 minutes, President Shen will wake up. Lu Fan flicked his fingers, and the 9 silver needles seemed to be summoned back into his hand. The 9 needles defying heaven, bringing the king of hell back to life. Thud. Without warning, Sun Baifu kneeled in front of Lu Fan. "Mr. Lu, I want to become your disciple and learn the 9 needles defying heaven," Sun Baifu said with great excitement. "Dr. Sun, you're joking. I'm just a crude person. How could I possibly be qualified to be your teacher?" Lu Fan gave a self-deprecating laugh, not even bothering to look at Sun Baifu again. Sun Baifu, realizing his mistake, could only grumble and stand up, retreating to one side. As for Shinfei, she was stunned. Could it really be possible for someone to come back to life just from a few needle pricks? It was simply too unbelievable. Lu Fan seemed to read her mind and smiled as he explained, "Your father only suffered a sudden heart attack, falling into a state of apparent death. Hasn't he truly passed away? Apparent death. That made sense now. No wonder Shen Nanfeng's pulse had stopped. Soon, Shen Nanfeng coughed a few times and slowly opened his eyes. Thank you, Dr. Sun, for saving my life. Sun Baifu's face turned red with embarrassment, and he awkwardly replied, President Shen, it was your son-in-law who saved you. Where is my son-in-law? Shen Nanfeng asked, struggling to sit up. Before Shen Feishue could approach, Lu Fan quickly supported Shen Nanfeng's arm and smiled, Dad, my name is Lu Fan. I've come on my master's orders to marry your daughter. This guy kept calling him Dad. It made Shen Feishue feel like an outsider in her own family. Lu Fan, who says I'll marry you? My husband. Before Shen Feishue could finish her sentence, Shen Nanfeng raised his hand to stop her, sternly saying, Your husband can only be Lu Fan. Shen Feishue was so furious that she stamped her feet. Dad, how could you make me marry this country bumpkin? I don't agree. Shen Nanfeng laughed heartily. I don't care whether you agree or not. In any case, half of the Shen family's fortune must go to Lu Fan. Upon hearing this, Shen Feishue was completely flustered. Who's really my father here? Lu, you son of a bitch, get out here and die. As he spoke, Wang Xiaoyang stormed in, followed by a man in a black shirt, exuding an intimidating presence. Who are you? Daring to make trouble at my Shen family's manor? Are you looking for death? A dozen or so of Shen's bodyguards rushed forward, blocking Wang Xiaoyang's path. Wang Xiaoyang slightly tilted his head and sneered, Uncle Jiang, it's all yours. The man in black, Jiang Huolong, nodded and stepped forward. His cold gaze swept over the room. My name is Jiang Huolong. Anyone here who can stop one of my punches is welcome to try. If anyone succeeds, I will gladly offer my neck for them to strike. Bloodhand Jiang Huolong? Hearing Jiang Huolong's name, Shen Nanfeng trembled, his face turning pale as he quickly turned to Lu Fan and said, Xiaofan, this man is ruthless. He loves to punch through people's stomachs. Quickly, go out the back door and escape. Chapter 5 Assassinating Yu Jiaolong. No wonder Wang Xiaoyang dared to be so arrogant and only brought one person to seek revenge. It turned out that the man in front of him was the notorious blood hand Jiang Huolong. It is said that Jiang Huolong has a bad temper, is cruel and ruthless, and likes to punch people in the stomach. No matter who it is, if they dare to provoke Jiang Huolong, there is no possibility of survival. But in Lu Fan's eyes, the so-called blood hand is no different from an ant. Seeing Shen Nanfeng's pale face, Lu Fan comforted him, Don't worry, he is not my opponent. Shen Feishue said with a cold face, Lu Fan, now is not the time to brag. If you want to live, run away quickly, the farther the better. Wife, I'm not bragging. Lu Fan shrugged and smiled, pointed at Jiang Huolong, and said lightly, This dog thing, I can slap it to death with a slap. Hiss. The whole audience was gasping. Looking at Jiang Huolong again, his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Since he debuted, no one has ever dared to look down on him like this. Stinky boy, you are about to die, and you still dare to be so arrogant. Seeing Lu Fan was so arrogant, Wang Xiaoyang gritted his teeth and said, Uncle Jiang, I haven't seen you perform a punch through the belly for a long time. Jiang Huolong took a step forward and smiled sinisterly, Since Wang Xiao wants to see it, then I will show it. Hearing that Jiang Huolong was going to perform a punch through the belly, the Shen family bodyguards who were blocking the way retreated like frightened birds. Shen Nanfeng cursed angrily, What a bunch of trash, you admit your weakness before the fight, what's the point of me hiring you at a high price? Don't be angry, Mr. Shen, let me try, the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce owes me a favor. At this time, Sun Baifu stroked his beard and walked straight towards Jiang Huolong. It's so stupid. How could a vicious person like Jiang Huolong give face to Sun Baifu? I am Sun Baifu, and I once saved President Wang. Before Sun Baifu finished speaking, he was punched away by Jiang Huolong. Puff. Sun Baifu raised his head and vomited blood, and his back hit the floor heavily. Lu Fan dies, but your Shen family can live. Jiang Huolong walked forward slowly, staring at Shen Nanfeng. Shen Nanfeng protected Lu Fan and said nervously, Master Jiang, name a price, I am willing to pay for Lu Fan's life. Is it great to be rich? Jiang Huolong didn't buy Shen Nanfeng's tricks at all, and slapped him several meters away. As Shen Nanfeng landed, Shen Feishue looked nervous, and hurriedly helped him up, then turned to glare at Lu Fan. Lu Fan, didn't you say that you could kill him with one slap? Show me now. It's too bloody to kill him with one slap. Lu Fan seemed a little reluctant, and walked straight to the money tree and picked a leaf. Huang Xiaoyang thought Lu Fan was scared and laughed. It's really funny, you don't want to kill the famous bloodhound with a broken leaf. Lu Fan shrugged and laughed, no. Hey, it seems that he is really scared by the reputation of Bloodhound. Yeah, how can you kill Bloodhound with just a leaf? Humph, such an arrogant person is worthy of being the son-in-law of the Shen family. The bodyguards of the Shen family looked at him with contempt and laughed continuously. Shen Feishue said angrily, Dad, this is the fiancé you carefully selected for me. Shen Nanfeng was speechless for a moment and could only smile awkwardly. He originally thought that the disciple of the peerless killer Yang Qingwu, no matter how bad he was, couldn't be that bad. But now it seems that Lu Fan is good for nothing except bragging. How can a leaf kill Bloodhound? Unless Lu Fan is a martial arts master. But is this possible? Even Yu Jiaolong, the #1 prodigy in Jiangnan, is only at the peak of the Xian realm. Young Master Huang, watch carefully. I'm going to perform a punch through the belly now. Lu Fan's contempt completely angered Jiang Hualong. He took a step and rushed up with a punch. Bang! Suddenly, Lu Fan flicked his finger and a leaf flew out, hitting Jiang Hualong's throat. In an instant, Jiang Hualong's throat was shattered by the leaf. Pick leaves to make darts, fly leaves to seal acupuncture points. How is this possible? Jiang Hualong's eyes were filled with horror, and he slowly fell to the floor and died on the spot. Seeing Jiang Hualong fall, Huang Xiaoyang exclaimed, Uncle Jiang, what happened to you? He's dead. Lu Fan picked another leaf and looked at Huang Xiaoyang coldly. Tell me, Huang Xiao, do you want your throat to be shattered, or do you want your head to be blown up? With the Grandmaster in front of him. How could Huang Xiaoyang be so presumptuous? Thump. Huang Xiaoyang was so scared that he knelt on his knees and begged for mercy. Spare my life, Master Lu, I have offended you for not recognizing the great man. Unlike Jiang Hualong, Huang Xiaoyang has a deep background and is backed by the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce, so he can't be killed easily. Shen Nanfeng smiled bitterly and said, Lu Fan, spare his life. Thank you, Mr. Shen, for pleading for me. Huang Xiaoyang kowtowed to Shen Nanfeng repeatedly, not daring to pause for a moment. Lu Fan still had to give Shen Nanfeng face. However, a master should not be insulted. Moreover, Lu Fan's strength was for more than that of a master. The death penalty can be avoided, but the living crime cannot be escaped. I'll cut off one of your fingers as a punishment. Lu Fan flicked his finger and flicked out a leaf, and the leaf, like a dart, broke Huang Xiaoyang's thumb. Huang Xiaoyang screamed and kowtowed, Thank you, Master Lu, for not killing me. Get lost. Lu Fan was frugal with words and uttered a word coldly. Huang Xiaoyang was as if he had been pardoned, and hurriedly helped Jiang Hualong's body away. Master? Lu Fan was actually the legendary master. Shen Nanfeng hugged Lu Fan and said excitedly, Good son-in-law, you and Sheshue should go get the marriage certificate now. Shen Feishue smiled bitterly and said, Dad, isn't it a bit too hasty? I just met him. Yes, Uncle Shen, how about we talk for a while? Lu Fan also felt that it was a bit too early to get the marriage certificate. After all, he still had 8 engagements in his hand, and he couldn't make up his mind who would be the eldest and who would be the youngest. Shen Nanfeng suddenly felt that it made sense, and kept urging, Then why don't you go on a date quickly and try to have a big fat boy? Dad, Shen Feishue was about to speak when she was pushed out of the Shen mansion by Shen Nanfeng. Bang. As the courtyard door closed, only Lu Fan and Shen Feishue were left staring at each other, messy in the wind. Lu Fan, I think. Shen Feishue was about to speak, but saw Lu Fan raised his hand to interrupt her. Sheshue, you don't need to feel inferior. No matter how outstanding I am, I will be loyal to you until death. I feel inferior? Shen Feishue's mouth was crooked with anger. Where did this bastard get his confidence from? It's like this, Lu Fan. Master Mo Yu's famous paintings appeared in Mingyu Zhai. I want to go and admire them, so I won't accompany you. Here is 10,000 yuan. Go buy some decent clothes. Shen Feishue smiled slyly, stuffed a wad of money into Lu Fan's hand, and turned to get in the car. Master Mo Yu. That's Lu Fan himself. Needless to say, it must be second master Yi Putti who resold Lu Fan's calligraphy and paintings. Just as Lu Fan was about to call to question, Yi Putti called him. Xiao Fan, I received news that the four ghosts from Xiangxi are going to assassinate Yu Jialong at the airport. Go and take a look. I'm worried that Yu Jialong is not their opponent. Lu Fan asked, Second master, what's the matter with Master Mo Yu? Har, the signal is not good on the mountain. Let's talk later. Yi Putti laughed awkwardly and hung up the phone. Over the past 10 years, Lu Fan lost himself in Yi Putti's praises and painted for her. But who would have thought that all the paintings Lu Fan made were resold by Yi Putti? But Lu Fan didn't see a penny. Even so, Lu Fan still had to listen to Yi Putti's words and had to take a taxi to the airport. Jiangcheng Airport. As soon as she got off the plane, Yu Jialong received news that the four ghosts from Xiangxi were coming to assassinate her. Yu Jialong was tall and slender, wearing military boots, heroic, and had a kingly demeanor in every move. After entering the underground garage, Yu Jialong's assistant said nervously, Miss, I heard that the four ghosts from Xiangxi can kill the master together. Do you want to notify Huang Sihai, the president of the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce, to come to support? They are just for little ghosts. I, Yu Jialong, can kill them with a flick of my finger. Yu Jialong just chuckled and didn't take the four ghosts from Xiangxi seriously at all. Swish, swish. Suddenly, four black shadows fell from the sky and killed Yu Jialong with swords. Chapter 6 Where are you touching? The four ghosts of Xiangxi. Yu Jialong was full of disdain and grabbed the four falling swords with her bare hands. At Yu Jialong's level, she was no longer afraid of swords and could grab the blades with her bare hands. Crack. A series of cracking sounds were heard, and the falling swords were instantly broken by Yu Jialong's bare hands. With this little strength, you dare to assassinate me, Yu Jialong. Yu Jialong sneered and chopped four palms in the air, directly chopped the four ghosts of Xiangxi 7 or 8 meters away. The terrifying palm power instantly shattered the black robes of the four ghosts of Xiangxi. Even the skull masks on their faces were injured by the energy and cracked. With just one move, the four ghosts of Xiangxi were severely injured. From this, it can be seen how terrifying Yu Jialong's strength is. My young lady is the most outstanding person in Jiangnan, and the future leader of the Changxia Hui. She is destined to be extraordinary in her life. It is your blessing that you bastards can die in her hands. Lu Xiaowan, the assistant following behind Yu Jialong, raised her head and looked down at the four ghosts from Xiangxi, with contempt in her eyes. After hearing Lu Xiaowan's words, the four ghosts from Xiangxi looked at each other and surprisingly knelt down in front of Yu Jialong. Who would have thought that the four ghosts from Xiangxi, who were so powerful in the world, were so scared that they knelt down and begged for mercy? Miss Yu, we are willing to follow you and be a hound by your side. I hope you can take us in. The four ghosts from Xiangxi kowtowed and shouted. The four ghosts from Xiangxi have been wandering around the Miajiang area for many years, burning, killing, looting, and doing all kinds of evil. How can such trash be worthy of being Yu Jialong's hound? It doesn't matter whether the words of the four ghosts from Xiangxi are true or false. Because they are about to die. You are not worthy of being a hunting dog. Yu Jialong slowly raised her hand, ready to kill the four ghosts of Xiangxi. But at this moment, the four ghosts of Xiangxi suddenly jumped up and sprinkled white powder on Yu Jialong. Soon, Yu Jialong was swallowed by their white powder. Despicable. You. Lu Xiaowan just took a sip of the powder, and suddenly felt dizzy and slowly fell to the ground, unconscious. Yu Jialong exhaled to disperse their white powder, but it was still a step too late. She felt her whole body soften and suddenly knelt on one knee, thinking, is this soft muscle powder? Below the master, as long as you are hit by the soft muscle powder, your whole body will be soft and your internal strength will be gone in a short time. Oh, is this the first pride in Jiangnan? Didn't you fall into our trap and kneel on the ground like a dog? Yu Jialong, you should still be a novice, right? One of the four ghosts of Xiangxi touched his chin and looked at Yu Jialong with a wretched face. I don't know why. After inhaling the muscle-softening powder, Yu Jialong felt hot all over and tore her clothes involuntarily. Looking at her ecstatic expression, she must still be a virgin. At this time, one of the four ghosts from Xiangxi rubbed his hands, his face full of wretchedness. Brothers, what are you waiting for? Why don't we go together? Don't come over. Yu Jialong's eyes were blurred and she struggled to move back. In a daze, Yu Jialong saw one of the four ghosts from Xiangxi rushing towards her. Yu Jielong, who had never been in a relationship, was frightened. But at this time, Yu Jielong was a lamb to be slaughtered, without the slightest power to fight back. Stop. Just when Yu Jielong was desperate, a cold voice came from behind her. The four Xiangxi ghosts who were about to pounce on Yu Jielong suddenly felt disappointed and pointed at Lu Fan's nose and cursed, "You little bastard, if you don't want to die, get out of here. Brothers, give her some face and let her go," Lu Fan said as he walked, his expression indifferent, without a trace of tension. The four Xiangxi ghosts laughed lightly. "Who do you think you are? You have no face." "My face is nothing, what about this one?" As he said that, Lu Fan untied the soft knife shaped like a ribbon from his waist. Swish! The piercing sound of breaking through the air scared the four Xiangxi ghosts back together. The knife is 3 feet long, 3 fingers wide, as thin as a cicadar's wing, like a ribbon. "Is this a body knife? You are the new leader of Blood Moon, Xuefutu." Looking at the body knife in Lu Fan's hand, the four Xiangxi ghosts were so scared that their anus tightened and subconsciously stepped back a few steps. "Xuefutu?" Yu Jielong silently prayed in her heart, struggling to turn her head and look, trying to see Lu Fan's true face. Unfortunately, Yu Jielong could no longer bear the effect of the soft muscle powder, and slowly passed out. "Say your last words." Lu Fan flicked the blade of the body knife with his fingers, looking at the four ghosts of Xiangxi with cold eyes. "Spare my life, Master Xuefutu. We didn't know you were patrolling in Jiangcheng. Please spare our lives." The four ghosts of Xiangxi suddenly knelt in front of Lu Fan, kowtowed and begged for mercy. How could the four ghosts of Xiangxi deceive Lu Fan with such little tricks? As a disciple of the immortal demon doctor, Lu Fan has long been immune to all poisons. Lu Fan didn't take the soft muscle powder seriously. In the territory of Daxia, the blood moon is coming. Gods and demons are forbidden to travel. Lu Fan's voice was cold, and he raised his knife to kill the four ghosts of Xiangxi. The four ghosts from Xiangxi certainly couldn't accept their fate. They suddenly jumped up and threw their muscle-softening powder at Lu Fan. Originally thought, Lu Fan, who was hit by the muscle-softening powder, would be as soft as Yu Jielong. But who would have thought that Lu Fan would be like nothing happened and slashed the throats of the four ghosts from Xiangxi with a knife? When Lu Fan put away the knife, the four ghosts from Xiangxi had dull eyes and knelt on the ground one after another. Hot, so hot. At this time, Yu Jielong tore at her collar, revealing her white collarbone. In order to deal with Yu Jielong, the four ghosts from Xiangxi actually mixed aphrodisiac drugs into the muscle-softening powder. Masters like Yu Jielong have much better blood and qi than ordinary people. Once the poison enters their heart, the consequences will be disastrous. "Kiss me." Yu Jielong hugged Lu Fan and kissed him unskillfully. Without waiting for Lu Fan to stop her, Yu Jielong's slender and white jade legs suddenly clamped his neck and rode him under her. As Yu Jielong's hips moved, Lu Fan suddenly felt hot all over, his heartbeat accelerated, and he almost fired his gun. "What's this? How can I, the great Hades, be ridden by a little girl like you?" Lu Fan turned around and pressed Yu Jielong to the ground. When Yu Jielong fell on her back, the whiteness on her chest was like the wind blowing wheat waves, one wave after another. The ecstatic panting really made Lu Fan a little dry in the mouth. But Lu Fan disdained to take advantage of others. In order to detoxify Yu Jielong, Lu Fan held her on his legs and slapped her sexy buttocks hard. Because Yu Jielong has been practicing martial arts for many years, her buttocks feel good and elastic when slapped. Slap harder, don't stop. Yu Jielong, who was in a coma, bit her red lips and moaned, "Hit harder, I want more." Fortunately, there was no one around. Otherwise, Lu Fan's reputation in this life will be ruined. Par. Lu Fan suddenly increased his strength and slapped Yu Jielong's buttocks several times. When Yu Jielong's moaning disappeared, Lu Fan laid her flat on the ground, pressed her chest with one hand, pinched her philtrum with the other, and whispered, "Miss Yu, wake up. You bastard, where are you touching? Take it away." As soon as Yu Jielong opened her eyes, she saw Lu Fan's left hand pressing her plump breasts, and rubbing them several times with an intoxicated look, which scared her and made her scream loudly. Chapter 7. This marriage is ruined. As the most arrogant person in Jiangnan, Yu Jielong was insulted like this? If this gets out, where will Yu Jielong put her face? Sorry, I can't help myself. I'll take my hand away now. Lu Fan knew he had lost his composure, and quickly retracted his left hand and changed to his right hand. Shameless man! Why did you change your hand? Yu Jielong was so angry that her lips trembled. She pushed Lu Fan to the ground with both hands. If it were any other time, Yu Jielong would have killed Lu Fan with a palm. But now Yu Jielong's body was still a little weak, and she couldn't use any strength at all. At this time, Lu Xiaowan coughed a few times and said weakly, "Miss, where are the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi?" After hearing what Lu Xiaowan said, Yu Jielong stood up and turned to look at the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi who were kneeling. At this moment, the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi were kneeling on the ground, with their heads drooping, as if they had fainted. Yu Jielong stepped forward to sniff the breath of the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi, and raised her eyebrows slightly. "Dead? Miss, didn't you kill them?" Lu Xiaowan rubbed her head. Because the amount of soft muscle powder she inhaled was relatively small, and she was weak, she felt no discomfort except a little softness. Yu Jielong shook her head and said, "No." "Who killed them?" Lu Xiaowan looked around with a puzzled look on her face, and her arrogant eyes did not stay on Lu Fan for long. No matter how you look at it, Lu Fan doesn't look like a master. Judging from Lu Fan's dress, he should be a scavenger near the airport. At this time, Lu Fan walked forward slowly and said with a smile, "I killed them." "Shut up." Yu Jielong glared at Lu Fan, then touched the knife marks on the necks of the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi, and said with a gloomy face, "The one who killed the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi was someone else." Although Yu Jielong was hit by the soft muscle powder. But before she fainted, she heard the name of Xuefu Tu. In other words, it was Xuefu Tu who killed the 4 ghosts of Xiangxi with one sword. One sword cut the throat. It's been a long time since I saw blood. This must have been killed by the master. While speaking, Yu Jielong turned her head and looked at Lu Fan, her eyes full of contempt. Looking at Lu Fan's age, he was only in his early 20s. How could he be a master? Yu Jielong thought Lu Fan was just her crazy fan, and then waved her hand to drive him away. "You have seen my true face, and your wish has come true. You can leave. Miss Yu, I am here to fulfill the marriage contract." Lu Fan smiled bitterly and took out a marriage certificate from his sleeve. Hearing the word marriage contract, Yu Jielong couldn't help but exclaimed, "Are you Lu Fan?" "Yes, this is the marriage certificate." Lu Fan nodded and handed over the marriage certificate. Yu Jielong took the marriage certificate and saw that it was indeed signed by her grandfather Lei Juntian. Lu Fan? Yu Jielong was not unfamiliar with this name. As early as several years ago, when Yu Jielong learned that her fiancé was called Lu Fan, she sent people to conduct a detailed investigation. It turned out that Lu Fan was just an abandoned child of the Lu family in Kyoto. 10 years ago, Lu Fan offended Zhao Weiner and was crippled by her palm and thrown into the wilderness to feed the wolves. It's just that I don't know where Lu Fan's marriage certificate came from. But how can a mere marriage certificate bind the 9 heavens phoenix? I ruined this marriage. Yu Jielong tore up the marriage certificate casually, looking down at Lu Fan with a look of contempt on her face. Yu Jielong's eyes were full of arrogance. It seemed that she, Yu Jielong, was the 9 heavens phoenix. And Lu Fan was just an ant, insignificant. Lu Xiaowan said sarcastically, "An old crow and a phoenix are wishful thinking. As a person, you should know yourself. My lady is born with a general's bones. It is a foregone conclusion that she will become a general in the future. You are just a lowly scavenger. You are not worthy of my lady at all." While speaking, Lu Xiaowan looked at Lu Fan's patched canvas shoes with disgust, and then shook her head with a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. Par. Lu Fan slapped Lu Xiaowan and said coldly, "You are a maid, do you have the right to speak? You dare to hit me, you little brat." Lu Xiaowan was born in an extraordinary family. She was the daughter of the Lu family in the provincial capital. Since she could remember, no one had ever dared to hit her in the face. Just when Lu Xiaowan was about to teach Lu Fan a lesson, Yu Jielong shouted, "Back off." "Miss, he knew I was yours, but he still dared." Before Lu Xiaowan could finish, Yu Jielong sighed, "Well, no matter what, I was the one who broke off the engagement first, so it's understandable that he's angry." Lu Xiaowan wanted to say something else, but was forced back by Yu Jielong's eyes. "Lu Fan, I know you're angry, but you should also know that you and I are not from the same world at all. Putting aside my illustrious family background, I, Yu Jielong, am only in my 20s, but I'm already a peerless master at the peak of the Shen realm. Even if you marry me, you're only worthy of living under my shadow. Yu Jielong said arrogantly, and her words revealed her superiority. Lu Fan's eyes were cold and his fists were clenched. Yu Jielong handed over a business card and said coldly, "As compensation, I can fulfill one of your wishes. Whether you are seeking wealth, sex, or power, I, Yu Jielong, can satisfy you. Isn't Yu Jielong a little too self-righteous? Lu Fan now has no shortage of these vulgar things. Not to mention you, even your grandfather Lei Junqian, I have never taken him seriously. Yu Jielong, you are too self-righteous." Lu Fan was too lazy to look at Yu Jielong, but turned away. Originally, Yu Jielong wanted to compensate Lu Fan out of guilt. But Lu Fan was really too ignorant. Hey, it seems that my regret of marriage has hit him too hard, and he actually talked nonsense. It's really sad. Yu Jielong smashed the business card with a snap of his fingers, turned around and got in the car, signaling Lu Xiaowan to drive. As Qilin drove away quickly, Yu Jielong glanced at Lu Fan through the rearview mirror, and seeing his lonely expression, she couldn't help but feel pity. But Yu Jielong knew that her future life would not have any intersection with Lu Fan. While driving, Lu Xiaowan said, "Miss, I have notified Huang Sihai to come and clean up the scene." Yu Jielong nodded first, then said, "Xiaowan, go to Mingyue's high." Lu Xiaowan asked, "Miss, do you want to admire Master Moryu's paintings?" Yu Jielong nodded, "Yes, my grandfather said that Master Moryu's paintings have profound artistic conception. If I can comprehend a little bit, maybe I can break into the realm of the Grandmaster. It's only a few miles from the airport to Mingyue's high." Lu Fan ran all the way and finally arrived at the door of Mingyue's high. "Stinky beggar, if you want to beg for food, go somewhere else." Lu Fan was about to enter Mingyue's high when he was stopped by the black-clad security guard at the door. Lu Fan angrily said, "Who told you that I'm here to beg?" The leading security guard poked Lu Fan's chest and said with disdain, "You stinky beggar, you're wearing such tattered clothes, what else can you do but beg for food?" Crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound was heard, and the security guard's fingers were directly crushed by Lu Fan. Lu Fan sneered, "You look down on others. How dare you? How dare you act wild in Mingyu Jai? Surround them." As he spoke, the security guards of Mingyu Jai swarmed up and surrounded Lu Fan. Just at this moment, Yu Jielong stepped forward in military boots with Lu Xiaowan. When she saw that the person surrounded was Lu Fan, Yu Jielong said coldly, "Lu Fan, my promise to you is still valid. As long as you speak, I will help you deal with them." Chapter 8 White and Tender, do you want to touch it? With Yu Jielong's identity. She only needs one sentence to make the boss of Mingyue's high kneel down in front of Lu Fan and repent. There is no way, who let Yu Jielong have a prominent family background. Leaving aside the Yu family, Yu Jielong is a peerless master at the peak of the Xian realm. Looking at the whole Jiangcheng, who can pass 3 moves from her? Hey, another madman, what do you think my Mingyue's high is? A soft persimmon, you can step on it as you want. At this time, Qi Yu, the boss of Mingyue's high, came forward with a black-clad bodyguard. Qi Yu is short, white and fat, and wears an emerald ring on his thumb. Don't look at this person's unattractive appearance. But he is the president of the Jiangcheng Calligraphy and Painting Association. In the upper class of Jiangcheng, he also has some face. I wonder if I, Yu Jielong, can step on your Mingyue's high. Yu Jielong stepped down, but saw the floor tiles burst, and a visible crack spread towards Qi Yu's feet. Yu Jielong. When this name came out, their whole audience was in an uproar. Especially Qi Yu, who was so scared that his face turned pale and looked at a loss. It really fits the saying that a person's name is like a tree's shadow. The 3 words Yu Jielong alone are enough to scare away most of the dignitaries in Jiangcheng. I'm sorry, Miss Yu, I didn't know it was you who came. Qi Yu trotted to Yu Jielong, bowed to her, and was full of flattery. Yu Jielong didn't bother to deal with a small character like Qi Yu. Knowing that Yu Jielong came to Mingyue's high. Some people who came here for her fame came forward one after another, wanting to see her peerless beauty. Yu Jielong glanced at Lu Fan and said coldly, Lu Fan, it's not shameful to beg me. Mind your own business. Lu Fan said indifferently, not taking Yu Jielong seriously at all. Seeing that Lu Fan didn't appreciate it, Yu Jielong shook her head and sighed, alas, a rotten tree can't be carved. Compared with life. What does the so-called backbone count for? Now Lu Fan has long been a tiger in the plain, and any wild dog can bite him to death. But Lu Fan, he didn't have any self-knowledge at all. Xiao Wan, let's go. Yu Jialong stepped on military boots and took Lu Xiaowan into Mingyue's high. When Yu Jialong walked away, Qi Yu narrowed his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. Qi Yu came back to his senses, glanced at Lu Fan, and said indifferently, "Boy, I cannot beat you because you know Miss Yu, but you must kneel in front of Mingyue's high to repent." Lu Fan chuckled and said, "Who dares to threaten me, Lu Fan? How dare you? How dare you scold?" Qi Yu just said half of his words, his eyes suddenly locked on the ring on Lu Fan's thumb. The Netherworld ring. Qi Yu shuddered with fear. Could it be that the gentleman in front of him was the Nether Emperor of the Nether Palace? With a nervous mood, Qi Yu walked carefully in front of Lu Fan and looked at the Netherworld ring on his thumb. The Netherworld ring is crystal clear and thin as a cicadar's wing. If you don't look carefully, you can't tell that Lu Fan is wearing a ring. Only a ghost like Qi Yu can recognize it at a glance. The security guard whose finger was crushed by Lu Fan before shouted arrogantly, "Stinky boy, why don't you kneel down and apologize to my boss? Let the Nether Emperor apologize. Unless Qi Yu is crazy." Par. Qi Yu raised his hand and slapped the shouting security guard several meters away. "You bastard, do you think you can mess with Mr. Lu?" After teaching the security guard a lesson, Qi Yu walked to Lu Fan. Lu Fan looked Qi Yu up and down and asked, "Are you the painter Qi Yu?" The Netherworld Palace also planted many ghosts in Jiangnan province. The most famous ones are the 3 masters, 9 masters and 18 craftsmen. The so-called 3 masters are the 3 great masters. Any one of them can sweep the area. As for the 9 masters, they are the big men in the 9 major fields of Jiangnan province. And the 18 craftsmen are 18 craftsmen. The painter is the head of the 18 craftsmen. Yes. Qi Yu nodded and quickly stretched out his hand to signal, "Mr. Lu, please come in." Entered Mingyue's high. Qi Yu dismissed his attendants and took Lu Fan into a studio. As soon as he closed the door of the studio, Qi Yu knelt on one knee and greeted, "Painter Qi Yu, I greet the Underworld Emperor. Get up and talk." Lu Fan sat down on the armchair and poured himself a cup of tea. Qi Yu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said nervously, "Thank you, Underworld Emperor." Lu Fan took a sip of tea, looked up and asked, "What is your strength?" "The peak of the Shen realm." When speaking, Qi Yu's words were actually a little proud. Lu Fan curled his lips and said, "So weak." Qi Yu smiled bitterly and said, "I have tried my best." Lu Fan did not say anything, but blew the tea and asked casually, "Do you know what Yu Jialong came to Mingyue's high for?" Qi Yu said slowly, "She should come for Master Mo Yu's painting of a tiger descending the mountain." Picture of a tiger descending the mountain? In Lu Fan's memory, he had never painted this painting. Could this painting of a tiger descending the mountain be a fake? Thinking of this, Lu Fan stood up and said, "I'm afraid this painting is a fake." Fake? No way. Qi Yu was full of disbelief. He personally authenticated this painting. How could it be a fake? As a painter of his generation, Qi Yu naturally has his pride. But in front of Lu Fan, Qi Yu did not dare to question it at all. The exhibition hall was already full of people who came to admire the tiger descending the mountain. Among them were Shenfei and Yu Jialong. Shenfei hugged her breasts and turned her head to ask, "Miss Yu, what do you think of this painting? This should be the early work of Master Mo Yu. The brushstrokes are sharp, the momentum is soaring, and the tiger's eyes are staring, which is quite intimidating. It is undoubtedly the original." Yu Jialong talked freely, and after a review, she received a lot of praise. "Miss Yu is really good at both literature and martial arts. Yes, your comments really make us admire you. The first pride in Jiangnan, worthy of the name." People who came to admire the paintings flattered her. Only Shenfei remained silent, as if she had a different opinion. Yu Jialong glanced at Shenfei and said provocatively, "Miss Shen, what do you think?" Shenfei pondered for a moment and said, "I always feel that this painting is a fake." Shenfei words made Yu Jialong's face gloomy to the extreme. "You know, Yu Jialong is a famous Chinese painting master in Jiangnan. No one has ever dared to question her eyesight." Shenfei words really made Yu Jialong a little embarrassed. "Shut up. My lady said it is an authentic work, it must be an authentic work, even if it is not." At this time, Lu Xiaowan walked out from behind Yu Jialong and scolded Shenfei. Seeing Lu Xiaowan biting like a mad dog, Shinfei Shue sneered. Is your young lady the master of Moryu? You? Lu Xiaowan was speechless for a moment and had to retreat in dismay. Yu Jialong raised her head and said coldly, Miss Shen, what basis do you have to say it is a fake? Shinfei Shue said truthfully, based on my feeling. Based on my feeling. Humph, what a joke. You said this painting is a fake just because you said it is based on your feeling. What is your intention? Could it be that you want to take this painting for yourself? With every word Yu Jialong said, her aura would condense a little. Finally, Shinfei Shue couldn't bear it anymore. Her snow-white legs softened and she was about to kneel in front of Yu Jialong. But at this moment, Lu Fan stepped forward and held Shinfei Shue's white and tender arm. My fiancé is right. This painting is indeed a fake. Fiancé? Yu Jialong was so angry that her breasts trembled up and down. This bastard clearly had a fiancé, but he still wanted to take advantage of her. How abominable. Lu Fan. Shinfei Shue was secretly delighted. She grabbed Lu Fan's arm and pressed her plump and white breasts against him. Fortunately, Lu Fan arrived in time. Otherwise, Shinfei Shue would have been forced to kneel down by Yu Jialong and lost face. Yu Jialong's face was cold and murderous, and he said, Lu Fan, you'd better not lie, otherwise, I will break Shinfei Shue's legs. I, Yu Jialong, will keep my word. Chapter 9. Even the geniuses have to bow their heads. For some reason, when Lu Fan stood up to defend Shinfei Shue, Yu Jialong felt very uncomfortable. Women are jealous. Even Yu Jialong, a peerless genius, is no exception. How could this painting be a fake? Yes, this picture of a tiger descending from the mountain was personally authenticated by President Xi, and it is undoubtedly authentic. Humph, a stinky beggar is qualified to question Miss Yu's eyesight. The onlookers pointed at Lu Fan with disgust. At this time, Lu Xiaowan walked out from behind Yu Jialong and said arrogantly, Lu Fan, my lady is not only a martial arts genius, but also a famous Chinese painting master in Jiangnan. She said this painting is authentic, so it must be authentic. Is your lady a master of black jade? Lu Fan chuckled, his face full of sarcasm. Lu Fan's words made Lu Xiaowan's face extremely ugly. Whether in terms of fame or painting skills, Yu Jialong is far inferior to Master Mo Yu. Otherwise, Yu Jialong would not have come to Mingyue's High to admire Master Mo Yu's paintings. Lu Fan, I still say the same thing. If you can produce evidence, I, Yu Jialong, will let Shinfei Shue go. Otherwise, she will have to spend her whole life in a wheelchair. Yu Jialong stood with her hands behind her back, looking like a master, as if she could change the fate of countless people with just one word. Yu Jialong's words completely angered Shinfei Shue. Shinfei Shue just questioned Yu Jialong, and she was about to break her legs. Is there still lore in this world? Shinfei Shue angrily scolded, Yu Jialong, you are too arrogant. Don't be unconvinced. Maybe you still have some face in Jiangcheng, but in the provincial capital, or in the magic city, people like you can be trampled to death with just one foot. You can question me, but you must show evidence. Otherwise, I will regard it as a provocation. Anyone who provokes me, Yu Jialong, must pay the price. Yu Jialong was arrogant. When she spoke, she deliberately glanced at Lu Fan. Obviously, Yu Jialong was waiting for Lu Fan's so-called evidence. Lu Fan smiled and walked forward. Miss Yu, if I can prove that this painting is a fake, what will you do? Yu Jialong asked back, what do you want me to do? Lu Fan said word by word, apologize to my fiancé. Yu Jialong frowned. I, Yu Jialong, have never apologized to anyone in my life, but after all, I regretted my marriage first, and I feel guilty about you. If you can prove that this painting is a fake, I can apologize. Violated the marriage first. Oh my god, the toad almost ate the swan meat. No wonder Miss Yu tolerated him, it turned out that she felt guilty. The onlookers whispered. Shinfei Shue was getting more and more curious about Lu Fan. Lu Fan obviously has strong strength and profound medical skills, but why is he so low-key? Even Yu Jialong, a peerless genius, is his fiancé. You can imagine how terrifying Lu Fan's background is. Oh my, it's a pity that Mr. Shen's beautiful legs are about to be broken. Lu Xiaowan looked down at Shinfei Shue's beautiful legs in stockings and said sarcastically. Snap. Lu Fan raised his palm and slapped Lu Xiaowan directly. If you dare to humiliate my fiancé again, I will kill you. Lu Fan's tiger eyes glared, and the terrifying murderous aura instantly swept Lu Xiaowan's body. At this moment, Lu Xiaowan had been frightened and couldn't say a word. Bang! Suddenly, Yu Jielong stepped down and crushed the floor tiles. Lu Fan, my guilt for you is also limited. Yu Jielong threatened and slowly retracted his right foot. When Yu Jielong retracted his right foot, he saw that the floor tiles within a radius of 3 meters had been shattered. It really deserves to be the peak of the mysterious realm. The power of a kick is so terrifying. Lu Fan pointed at the picture of a tiger descending from a mountain and said slowly, if you magnify the tiger's tail 50 times, you should be able to see the words Shen Yu. What? Shen Yu. She is a top master in the counterfeit world. The calligraphy and paintings she copied are even more authentic than the real ones. No wonder Miss Lian Yu made a mistake. Some calligraphy and painting enthusiasts took out magnifying glasses and came closer. Qi Yu picked up the magnifying glass, took a look at the end of the tiger's tail, and exclaimed, it is really a copy by Master Shen Yu. Impossible. How could I, Yu Jielong, make a mistake? Yu Jielong's face was as pale as snow. She grabbed the magnifying glass and looked at the end of the tiger's tail. The words Shen Yu were so dazzling. Yu Jielong was so angry that she crushed the magnifying glass and turned around and said, Xiao Wan, let's go. Lu Fan smiled and said, Miss Yu, you can't afford to lose, right? You want me to apologize? No way. Yu Jielong was arrogant and didn't take Lu Fan seriously at all. Seeing that Yu Jielong was about to leave, Lu Fan turned his head to look at Shenfei Xue and said intentionally or unintentionally, wife, don't you have a painting of Master Mo Yu's Fengming Zhuqian in your hand? Shenfei Xue just opened her mouth and was interrupted by Lu Fan, is it in Boss Qi's studio? An old-fashioned person like Qi Yu could naturally hear the implication of Lu Fan's words. Qi Yu nodded quickly, yes, Mr. Lu, Miss Shen did have a painting in my studio. Boss Qi, you. Before Shenfei Xue finished speaking, she was forcibly dragged away by Lu Fan. As soon as she entered the studio, Lu Fan walked straight to the easel, took out a blank scroll, and spread it flat on the red painting table. Lu Fan, what are you doing? How come I have Master Mo Yu's Fengming Zhuqian 2 in my hand? Shenfei Xue turned her back and closed the door of the studio. Lu Fan picked up the brush and said casually, wife, grind the ink for me. Shenfei Xue seemed not to hear Lu Fan's words, but turned her head and said, Lu Fan, grind the ink for me quickly. Lu Fan was stunned and looked at Shenfei Xue in confusion. Shenfei Xue snatched the brush and complained, what? Why don't you grind the ink quickly? Fortunately, I have copied Fengming Zhuqian 2 before, hoping to get away with it. But Master Mo Yu's Fengming Zhuqian 2 has a profound artistic conception. How can it be so easy to copy? Lu Fan, you really shouldn't talk nonsense. If I can't take out Fengming Zhuqian 2, where can I put my face? No matter what, I can only try. Shenfei Xue's heart was set, and she pounded her left hand with her right hand holding the brush, and then turned to look at the drawing table. But the scene in front of her stunned Shenfei Xue. I saw Lu Fan holding the brush with both hands, painting unrestrainedly. Soon, a lifelike phoenix appeared on the paper. When Shenfei Xue looked closer, she saw that the mountains in the painting were undulating and the fairy mist was lingering. Shenfei Xue just took a look and felt like she was there. Especially when she saw the phoenix, Shenfei Xue's blood was boiling, and she wished she could turn into the phoenix in the painting, break through the clouds, and be reborn in nirvana. The world cannot stop the resentment of the people, and nirvana can also be passed through the 9 days. Lu Fan silently recited while writing promotion. When the last word was written, Lu Fan threw away the brush, shook his head, took out a seal from his arms, blew a breath, and stamped it hard. On the seal, the word Mo Yu was written. Shenfei Xue was puzzled. Lu Fan, how do you have the seal of Master Mo Yu? Lu Fan said vaguely, how can I make a living without a seal? Shenfei Xue was puzzled, but how can you paint so fast? This is slow enough. Lu Fan skillfully rolled up the scroll, pulled Shenfei Xue out of the studio, and went straight to the exhibition hall. Chapter 10 I Want to Sleep With You. The exhibition hall was already in a mess. Almost everyone was waiting to see Shenfei Xue's joke. Master Mo Yu's Fengming Zhuqian 2 has a profound artistic conception. It is said that as long as one can comprehend the artistic conception of Fengming Zhuqian 2, one can enter the realm of the Grandmaster. As for whether it is true or not, there is no way to verify it. Yu Jialong sat upright on the chair, drinking tea quietly. Lu Xiaowan, who was standing aside, said resentfully, "Miss, Lu Fan is full of nonsense, his words cannot be believed. If he dares to play tricks on me, I don't mind smashing his mouth." Yu Jialong put down the teacup heavily, as if he was really angry. Anyone can see it. Yu Jialong's patience with Lu Fan has reached its limit. Look. The man surnamed Lu is here with the painting. Now we have something interesting to watch. Playing tricks on Miss Yu will cost you a price. Some people who are interested in this matter were gloating. Lu Fan handed the painting to Qi Yu and said calmly, "President Qi, hang it up." "Okay, Mr. Lu." Qi Yu nodded, and hurriedly took the Fengming Juqian painting and ordered someone to hang it up. In an instant, the calligraphy and painting enthusiasts present rushed forward, picked up magnifying glasses, and carefully observed it. This Fengming Juqian painting has a profound artistic conception. The mountains are undulating, and the setting sun is like blood. The fairy air is lingering in the forest, and there are 3 or 5 cranes playing in the lake. My God, why is there a butterfly on the crane's head? You can't see it clearly without a magnifying glass. Qi Yu took a magnifying glass and looked at one of the cranes, and his words were full of shock. The painting style is majestic and has the momentum of swallowing mountains and rivers. The phoenix nirvana is even more profound. Huh? Why hasn't Tiber's ink dried yet? One of the sharp-eyed Chinese painting masters pointed at Tiber and asked in confusion. Lu Fan cleared his throat and smiled, "The weather in the south is humid." Lu Fan's explanation did not arouse the suspicion of the people present, because their attention was all on the Fengming Juqian picture. The world cannot stop the resentment of the people, and they can also be reborn in the 9 heavens. At this time, Yu Jialong broke the teacup with her fingers, stood up and walked forward, saying, "I want this painting." Anyone can see that the reason why Yu Jialong broke the teacup is to threaten them. What a pity. Faced with such a Fengming Juqian picture, who would take Yu Jialong's threat seriously? "Mr. Shen, my Mingyue's Hai lacks a treasure to guard the store. Why don't you sell it to me? I'll offer 200 million. Qi Yu took the lead in opening the price at the signal of Lu Fan's eyes. 200 million. President Qi, aren't you a bit too stingy? I'll bid 300 million. A pot-bellied calligraphy and painting merchant shouted loudly. Qi Yu said with a gloomy face, "I'll bid 500 million. 500 million? After hearing Qi Yu's offer, those who planned to continue bidding shook their heads and sighed, and withdrew from the bidding. At this time, everyone was waiting for Yu Jialong to bid. Yu Jialong pondered for a moment and shouted, "I'll bid 600 million. As soon as this offer came out, the whole Mingyue's Hai could hear a pin drop. Spending 600 million just to buy a painting is really not worth it. Qi Yu shook his head and didn't bid again. 600 million. Shen Feishue looked incredulous and turned to look at Lu Fan. Could it be that Lu Fan is the legendary master Mo Yu? If it is true, then Lu Fan is a walking gold mountain. Fearing that Lu Fan would be snatched away by someone, Shen Feishue didn't care about her goddess image at all and hugged his arm tightly. Xiao Wan, transfer the money. Yu Jialong was about to take off the Fengming Juqian painting when she was stopped by Lu Fan. Lu Fan sneered, "Yu Jialong, who told you that I was going to sell the painting to you?" Yu Jialong's face turned cold and she said angrily, "Lu Fan, don't go too far." "I go too far." "Yu Jialong, you are really good at confusing right and wrong. Who was shouting to break my fiancée's legs just now?" Lu Fan didn't give in at all and held the Fengming Juqian painting tightly. Fearing that Lu Fan would annoy Yu Jialong, Shen Feishue hurriedly pulled his arm and said with a wry smile, "Forget it, Lu Fan, I'm not injured anyway." Lu Fan said domineeringly, "She offended you, so she must apologize." For Yu Jialong, apologizing is absolutely a shame. However, Master Moryu's paintings are hard to come by, so Yu Jialong had no choice but to bow her head. "I'm sorry, Mr. Shen, I offended you." Yu Jialong suppressed her anger and bowed to Shen Feishue to apologize. Lu Fan joked, "I didn't expect that the #1 prodigy in Jiangnan would apologize." The villain succeeded. Yu Jialong snorted and looked up at the Fengming Juqian picture. Just a glance, Yu Jialong suddenly felt the energy in her body resonate, and a crisp sound like the thunder of tigers and leopards was heard. In an instant, Yu Jialong's energy burst out, like a gust of wind sweeping away fallen leaves, forcing the onlookers to retreat. Miss, what's wrong with you? Lu Xiaowan thought that Yu Jialong was angry with Lu Fan, and hurried forward to ask. Break through the realm with one thought. I have entered the earth realm. Yu Jialong smiled knowingly and took off the Feng Ming Juqian picture. Qi Yu said in disbelief, Miss Yu, can a painting help you break through? You don't understand the world of genius. Yu Jialong put away the painting, turned around and ordered, Xiaowan, remember to transfer the money to Mr. Shen. Lu Xiaowan nodded first, then deliberately raised her voice, Miss, we haven't seen the master take action yet, can you demonstrate the master's skills in public? Someone said, yes, Master Yu, please let us open our eyes. Seeing that it was hard to refuse the kindness, Yu Jialong had to walk to the potted plant, picked a leaf, and shot it at Lu Fan. Swoosh! Accompanied by a sound of breaking through the air. The leaf was like a dart, close to Lu Fan's ear, and sank into the big red pillar behind him. Picking a leaf into a dart, 3 points into the wood. This is the master's method. Yu Jialong glanced at Lu Fan and said calmly, see, Lu Fan, the gap between you and me is getting bigger and bigger. Now you are not even worthy of carrying my boots. I knew it would be like this. No matter what, Lu Fan would not paint the Feng Ming Juqian too. Now it's good, Yu Jialong will show off everywhere again. When the 600 million arrived, Shen Feishue took Lu Fan's arm and said with a smile, let's go, Lu Fan, I'll take you to experience the nightlife of Jiancheng. Night bar. This is the most luxurious bar in Jiancheng. After Shen Feishue entered the bar, Lu Fan seemed to have stepped into a new world. One by one, bunny girls wearing black silk stockings shuttled through the crowd. When they walked, their breasts trembled, instantly attracting many people's attention. But when Shen Feishue appeared, everyone's attention was attracted. Mr. Chen, isn't that Shen Feishue? I heard that she made 600 million with just one painting. Oh my god, Shen Feishue's legs are so white, I won't get tired of playing with them for a year. A few hooligans on one of the booths pointed at Shen Feishue and said. As for Lu Fan beside Shen Feishue, he was directly ignored by those hooligans. The young man surnamed Chen is not simple. He is the nephew of Huang Sihai, the president of the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce. Like this night bar, it is Chen Feng who manages it. Chen Feng raised his mouth and said with a wretched face, as long as you enter the night bar, even if Yu Jialong comes, you have to stick your butt out and wait for my favor. Mr. Chen is domineering. He, Mr. Chen, as long as you can take down Shen Feishue, the whole Shen family will be yours. When that time comes, even the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce will have to rely on you. The lackey sitting on the booth flattered Chen Feng. When Chen Feng picked up the wine glass and walked forward, he saw Shen Feishue flirting with a young man. He was immediately jealous. How could a stinky beggar win her heart? Shen Feishue's usual coldness was all fake. Miss Shen, your legs are white and tender. I want to play with them. I hope you can cooperate. Chen Feng didn't even look at Lu Fan. He pushed him away and sat on the booth opposite Shen Feishue. Chapter 11 Spare my life, hero. So what if she is the daughter of the richest man in Jiancheng? As long as she enters the night bar, it is equivalent to entering Chen Feng's harem. In the night bar, Chen Feng is like an emperor. Any woman that Chen Feng likes must climb onto his bed obediently, stick out her buttocks, and wait for him to rush. Chen Feng drank red wine elegantly, and said with a wretched face, Miss Shen, why don't you sit on my lap and let me touch you well? Are you sick? Shen Feishue's jade face turned cold, and she picked up the cocktail in front of her and splashed it on Chen Feng's face. Bold. Shen Feishue, don't be shameless. Mr. Chen is willing to play with your legs, that's your blessing, just be happy. Seeing that Chen Feng was splashed with wine, those lackeys stood up and surrounded the booth where Lu Fan was. Chen Feng pulled out a tissue, wiped the wine stains on his face, and then pointed at Lu Fan, is he your little puppy? Shen Feishue raised her eyebrows and said coldly, he is my fiancé. Fiancé? Is Shen Feishue blind? She would rather give a stinky beggar a bargain than let Chen Feng take advantage of her. This made Chen Feng feel frustrated. Fiancé, right? Then you can be a widow. Chen Feng smashed the wine glass, pointed at Lu Fan's nose, and said grimly, I don't know how many stinky beggars like him I have stepped on to death in a year. Lu Fan was too lazy to pay attention to a clown like Chen Feng. But he was too crazy and wanted to kill Lu Fan. Lu Fan shook the cocktail glass and sneered, from what Mr. Chen said, you want to kill me. If you are alive, I will be very unhappy, so I can only send you to see the King of Hell. Chen Feng suddenly grabbed the fork on the table and stabbed Lu Fan's throat fiercely. How dare he be so rampant? Is Night Bar a place outside the law? Shenfeishue was so frightened that her face turned pale. No wonder people say that Night Bar is a woman's devil's den. Go down and ask the King of Hell, does he dare to take me in? Lu Fan's right hand fell down suddenly, and slid down, tearing off Chen Feng's right arm holding the fork. Puff. Blood splashed all over Chen Feng's face. Without waiting for Chen Feng to scream, Lu Fan elbowed him and broke his throat. Chen Feng raised his head and vomited blood, his head tilted, his body flew out, and he died on the spot. Just killed like this. The whole place was dead silent. Even the noisy music stopped at this moment. Boy, how dare you kill young Master Chen? He is the nephew of Huang Sihai, the president of the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce. If you dare to kill the nephew of President Wang, even the Shen family can't protect you. Brothers, kill him and avenge young Master Chen. Chen Feng's lackeys raised their fists and rushed towards Lu Fan. Bang! Suddenly, Lu Fan slashed with a palm, knocking the lackey who rushed towards him more than 10 meters away. When the lackey fell to the ground, his chest was pierced by the energy and he died on the spot. I'll call Hailang to deal with you. One of the lackeys had already been frightened by the aura emanating from Lu Fan, and stumbled and ran towards the box. Stinky boy, you're dead. Hailang is the gold medal fighter of the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce. No matter who dares to make trouble in the Night Bar, he will break all the bones in his body. The other lackeys roared loudly. As he was talking, a muscular man with a burly figure came forward with his men. There was a black wolf head tattooed on his chest. Under the light, the wolf head tattoo looked so hideous and bloodthirsty. The man in front of him was the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce's gold medal fighter Black Wolf. Black Wolf glared with his tiger eyes and shouted angrily, "Who killed Chen Xiao?" "Me." Lu Fan said calmly, protecting Shenfeishue. Shenfeishue was actually a little moved at this moment. Let's not talk about Lu Fan's identity as Master Mo Yu. Just his momentum of protecting his wife was enough for Shenfeishue to entrust her life to him. You little dwarf, you are so brave. You even dare to kill President Wang's nephew. Black Wolf, who was more than 2 meters tall, looked down at Lu Fan, obviously not taking him seriously. Lu Fan held Shenfeishue's hand and said indifferently, "It's not too late for you to apologize now." "I apologize to your mother." Hailang cursed, pulled out the steel knife from his waist, and chopped it towards Lu Fan's head. A dragon has reverse scales, and touching it means death. No one dared to insult Lu Fan's mother. You are looking for death. Lu Fan suddenly reached out and grabbed Hailang's neck, pulling him to him. As Lu Fan exerted force with his right hand, Hailang felt a sense of suffocation and his whole body was soft and weak. So much so that the steel knife in Hailang's hand fell to the ground. Hailang's face was full of horror. "Spare my life, hero." Crack. With a crisp sound, Hailang's neck was directly twisted by Lu Fan. With the death of Hailang, no one dared to stop Lu Fan anymore. On learning that Chen Feng and Hailang were killed, Huang Sihai was furious and brought about 100 people to the Night Bar. President Wang. Some onlookers came forward to greet Huang Sihai when they saw him coming forward. Huang Sihai just had a gloomy face and said nothing, and walked straight towards the bodies of Chen Feng and Hailang. Killed in one move. Where did the Shen family hire this expert? Huang Sihai checked Hailang's neck, his face full of fear. At this time, a hunchbacked man in a black gown walked forward slowly and said grimly, "President Wang, in my opinion, the one who killed them is the same person who killed Blood Han Jiang Huolong." Huang Sihai nodded, "Yes, it should be." The hunchbacked old man stood with his hands behind his back and smiled sinisterly, "President Wang, 10 million, I will help you kill him." Even Blood Han Jiang Huolong was not a match for him. To be honest, Huang Sihai really doubted the strength of the hunchbacked old man. Huang Sihai raised his eyebrows and said, "Master Miao, how sure are you?" "President Wang, don't humiliate me like this." Master Miao snorted and said proudly, "My Jiu technique is unrivaled in the world. Even Du Huxia was tricked by it, let alone a young boy. This is not wrong. Even a peerless master like Du Huxia was tricked by Master Miao's Jiu technique and tortured to death. Let alone a young boy." Huang Zihai said ruthlessly, Master Miao, I will chop off his head with my own hands to avenge my nephew. Warm up a pot of wine and drink it when I come back. Master Miao nodded, put his hands behind his back, and walked out of the night bar step by step. Looking at Master Miao's back, Huang Zihai was secretly shocked. Masters are masters, and they speak so domineeringly. At this time, Lu Fan didn't know that Huang Zihai had sent a GU technique master to hunt him down. Following Shen Feishue into the Jade Emperor Hotel, Lu Fan suddenly became a little nervous. After all, this was Lu Fan's first time. As soon as she entered the room, Shen Feishue took off her black high heels, revealing her beautiful feet wrapped in stockings. When she moved her neck, her snow-white breasts trembled up and down, like a little white rabbit bouncing. The hip skirt slit from the back looked so sexy. My feet are so sore. Shen Feishue pouted and sat down on the sofa. Looking at Shen Feishue's black silk feet, Lu Fan smiled and said, Wife, how about I give you a foot massage? Shen Feishue asked in confusion, Do you know how to do foot massage? I'm a professional. Lu Fan squatted down and put Shen Feishue's right foot wrapped in black silk on his leg. Shen Feishue blushed, I haven't washed my feet yet. Lu Fan said seriously, I like the original flavor. Original flavor? This guy's taste is too strong, right? Seeing Lu Fan staring at her beautiful feet, Shen Feishue bit her red lips and thought, is he trying to lick them? How shameful. Rustle. Suddenly, a red snake, spitting out its core, came in through the crack of the door. There's a snake. Shen Feishue turned pale with fear, and quickly jumped onto Lu Fan, hugging his neck tightly. Chapter 12 What is random touching? A beauty in his arms. A virgin-like body fragrance permeated his nose, making Lu Fan feel hot all over. Adding to the stimulation of Shen Feishue's hips, Lu Fan swallowed his saliva subconsciously. Where did the snake come from in the hotel? Lu Fan was puzzled and turned his head to look at the door. Snake poison. Who wants to harm Lu Fan? Once you are poisoned by this snake poison, your whole body will be soft. The most terrifying thing is that this snake poison can also stimulate lust. If the poisoning is deeper, you will become a wild beast in heat. Evil beast. Lu Fan shouted and stomped on the red snake's head. In an instant, a group of red smoke with a strange fragrance came out of the red snake's body and instantly filled the whole room. Shen Feishue just took a breath and her whole body became soft, her jade face flushed, and she kept tearing her skirt. It's so hot. Shen Feishue panted, revealing her white collarbone. Despicable. Lu Fan never thought that someone would put a strong aphrodisiac in the snake poison. This aphrodisiac can not only stimulate sexual desire, but also damage brain nerves. If he is not treated in time, he will become an idiot. Hee, little ghost, I will humiliate your employer in front of you. At this time, Master Miao walked in from the door with his hands behind his back. Lu Fan said with a murderous look on his face, Who sent you? You are going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter if I tell you. Huang Zihai gave me 10 million and asked me to capture you alive. Master Miao walked forward with his hands behind his back, not taking Lu Fan seriously at all. The poison technique originated from Miajiang. The person in front of him is most likely from the GU sect in Miajiang. In the past 10 years, the Changxia Hui has developed rapidly, which has overwhelmed the GU sect. According to Lu Fan's guess, the 4 ghosts in Xiangxi are most likely sent by the GU sect to assassinate Yu Jialong. It's hot, so hot. Shen Feishue's skin became redder, and her breath was heavy and rapid. It was obvious that she couldn't hold on any longer. Master Miao rubbed his hands and said obscenely, Boss Shen, don't be afraid, I'll help you clear away heat and detoxify. You're looking for death. Lu Fan suddenly reached his hand to his waistband and pulled out a silver ribbon. Puff. The knife fell. On Master Miao's neck, there was a thin blood mark. Body knife? You are a bloody pagoda. Master Miao felt a chill on his back, and he turned around and ran away. When the body knife was unsheathed, blood would be seen. Master Miao had no chance of survival. The reason why Master Miao hadn't fallen down was that he was relying on the witchcraft to hold on. When Master Miao rushed out of the hotel, he couldn't hold on any longer. His legs softened and he slowly fell into a pool of blood. Miss, someone is dead here. At this time, Lu Xiaowan shouted, squeezed through the crowd of onlookers, and came to Master Miao. Yu Jialong, who followed closely behind, checked Master Miao's neck and recognized at a glance that he died from the body knife. Could it be that Xue Futu was also in the Jade Emperor Hotel? Seeing Yu Jialong's solemn expression, Lu Xiaowan whispered, "Miss, is Xue Futu here to find you? Looking for me?" Yu Jialong was suspicious and a little confused. Lu Xiaowan analyzed, "Miss, in my opinion, Xue Futu appeared in the Jade Emperor Hotel because he likes you." "Like me?" Yu Jialong was shy and seemed to be a little happy. After all, Xue Futu is the leader of the Blood Moon, holding a license to kill, and can kill first and report later. People like him have long stood at the top of the pyramid. Even if Yu Jialong is a master now, he dare not have any delusions about Xue Futu. Presidential Suite. At this time, Shen Feishue had already lost her mind, and like a tiger and wolf, she threw Lu Fan on the sofa. "I want it, give it to me." Shen Feishue's eyes were blurred. She tore off Lu Fan's clothes and rode him under her. Although Lu Fan was immune to all poisons, but his unicorn kidney was extremely excited. Under Shen Feishue's constant teasing, Lu Fan finally lost control, like a wild horse, tearing her black silk and began to gallop on the grassland. This gallop lasted for 2 hours. The next morning, Lu Fan, who was still asleep, was awakened by a scream. Lu Fan, what did you do to me last night?" Shen Feishue hugged the quilt, her face full of grievance. Seeing the bright red on the bed sheet, Lu Fan smiled bitterly and said, "You forced me last night, I couldn't escape." "Escape?" Shen Feishue's jade face flushed, and the scene last night flashed through her mind like a movie. Last night, Lu Fan just wanted to escape, but was pulled back by Shen Feishue. When Shen Feishue thought of the madness of last night, she felt ashamed and angry. "Wife, if you don't believe me, look, you scratched my back." Fearing that Shen Feishue would not believe him, Lu Fan turned his back and pointed at the scratches on his back. Shen Feishue felt guilty and said with a red face, "I'm going to take a shower." While Shen Feishue was taking a shower, Lu Fan picked up a book from the bed. It was The Art of Sex that his third master Tan Tai Yu gave him. It's a pity. Last night, Lu Fan was too involved and had no intention of practicing the art of sex. I heard from the third master that this art of sex was passed down by the Yellow Emperor. If you practice it to perfection, you can have sex with 3,000 women and ascend to heaven in broad daylight. Oh, you are so eager to learn. Shen Feishue walked out of the bathroom after taking a shower and glanced at Lu Fan with resentment. Lu Fan flipped through the book of bedroom arts and muttered to himself, the ancients were so imaginative that they could even think of such postures. "What did you say?" "Postures." Shen Feishue's mouth twitched a few times, and she said with a dark face, "What book are you reading?" Lu Fan casually flipped open the cover. His face was not red, his heart was not beating. Bedroom arts. Shen Feishue blushed and said angrily, "You are vulgar." "What's vulgar about men and women making love?" Lu Fan shrugged and carefully put away the book of bedroom arts. After last night's madness, Shen Feishue actually developed a little affection for Lu Fan. Although Lu Fan was naughty, he was really fierce last night. Shen Feishue glanced at the time and looked up and said, "Lu Fan, go to the airport to pick up my best friend. Her name is Chu Luo Shui. You should have heard of her name. Your best friend is Chu Luo Shui." Lu Fan's jaw almost dropped. If he remembered correctly, Chu Luo Shui should be his third senior sister, that is, the disciple of Tan Tai Yu. When they were in the Netherworld Mountain before, Chu Luo Shui had played with Lu Fan's little Ding Ding a lot. In order to avoid being deflowered, Lu Fan had to wear iron shorts for a while. Lu Fan loved and hated Chu Luo Shui. After taking the car keys from Shen Feishue, Lu Fan drove straight to the airport. When he arrived at the airport, Lu Fan quickly contacted Chu Luo Shui. Soon, a plump woman with loose curly hair walked out of the airport in red high heels. She was wearing a red split-hip skirt, and her snow-white legs were wrapped in a layer of red stockings. The most eye-catching thing was her 2 snow-white peaks. "Little junior brother, long time no see." Chu Luo Shui spread out her slender white jade hands and pressed Lu Fan's head to her plump and sexy chest. Lu Fan suddenly felt suffocated and struggled desperately, saying, "Third senior sister, I'm almost suffocating to death." Chu Luo Shui hooked Lu Fan's neck and smiled charmingly, "Junior brother, can your Qilin kidney be used?" "No." Lu Fan shook his head repeatedly. Chu Luo Shui patted Lu Fan's butt and said with a lecherous look, "You can only know if it can be used after trying it. Why don't we try it in the car?" Boom. Boom. As they were talking, they saw a black Mercedes-Benz coming one after another, surrounding Lu Fan and Chu Luo Shui. Chu Luo Shui raised her eyebrows and murmured, "Why is it this scabby dog again?" Third senior sister, is the person coming your admirer? Lu Fan suddenly became jealous and patted Chu Luo Shui's sexy and charming buttocks with his right hand. Chu Luo Shui said coquettishly, "You are so brave, do you know who is coming? He is Zhao Tai, the fifth leader of the Red Flower Society, with thousands of disciples under his command. If he stomps his feet, Jiancheng will tremble." Zhao Tai, who was sitting in the car, happened to see Chu Luo Shui being attacked on the buttocks. He was so angry that he kicked open the car door and rushed forward with his men. Zhao Tai was wearing a Zhongshan suit and had a small back hair. His sinister eye swept over Lu Fan. "Stinky boy, if you dare to touch me with your claws again, I will chop it off." "What do you mean by touching me? Is that so?" Lu Fan pretended to be confused, and his right hand went down along Chu Luo Shui's collarbone until it reached the ravine, without any intention of stopping. Chapter 13. Senior sister, don't stop. No one in Jiangcheng dared to provoke Zhao Tai like this. As the fifth leader of the Red Flower Society, Zhao Tai has more than 1,000 disciples under his command. With a wave of his arm, who dares not to give him face? Since he took office, Zhao Tai has acquired 80% of the entertainment clubs in South City with thunderous means. Secretly, Zhao Tai even regards himself as their Prince of Dark Night. Of course, Zhao Tai's achievements are inseparable from his father Zhao Bancheng. In terms of financial resources, Zhao Bancheng is not inferior to Shen Nanfeng, the richest man in Jiancheng. In Jiancheng, no one dares to snatch women from me, Zhao Tai. Zhao Tai took off his sunglasses, pressed his thumb, and crushed the lens directly. Anyone can see it. Zhao Tai wanted to kill Lu Fan. As the fifth leader of the Red Flower Society, Zhao Tai wanted to kill someone, but it was just a matter of a word from him. But Lu Fan didn't take Zhao Tai's threat seriously. "Now I have it," Lu Fan said, holding Chu Luo Shui's head and kissing her domineeringly. While Lu Fan was kissing, he also touched Chu Luo Shui's sweet buttocks skillfully. The most annoying thing is that Chu Luo Shui still catered to Lu Fan with an intoxicated look on her face. You two dogs and that woman are bullying too much." Zhao Tai roared, jumped, and punched Lu Fan's head. Without waiting for Zhao Tai to get close, Lu Fan picked up Chu Luo Shui and kicked him 7 or 8 meters away with a spinning kick. As Zhao Tai landed, dozens of disciples of the Red Flower Society swarmed forward and killed Lu Fan. Chu Luo Shui glanced at the time and smiled charmingly. "Junior brother, if you can beat them within 1 minute, I will give you a surprise." Lu Fan's eyes lit up and he said excitedly, "What surprise?" "You know." Chu Luo Shui licked her rosy and sexy lips with her snake-like tongue. This is clearly the rhythm of draining Lu Fan dry. Even if Lu Fan has the protection of the Qilin Kidney, he can't stand Chu Luo Shui's tongue. But for some reason, when Lu Fan saw Chu Luo Shui teasing him, he felt his blood and qi were strong. He punched out and directly blasted the disciple 3 meters away, more than 10 meters away. Bang! Another crisp sound came out, and Lu Fan kicked a disciple's knee. Lu Fan was like a phantom, shuttling between the disciples, almost one by one, and knocked all the disciples who rushed towards him away. In just 30 seconds, the disciples of the Red Flower Society brought by Zhao Tai fell to the ground, wailing non-stop. "Damn it!" Zhao Tai pounded the ground in anger, and said with red eyes, "Boy, do you dare to tell me your name? You are beast, and you are worthy of knowing my name." Lu Fan chuckled, stepped on Zhao Tai's face, and twisted it hard a few times. This twist almost rubbed the skin off Zhao Tai's face. What a shame! Since he came to power, Zhao Tai has never been humiliated like this before. At this time, Chu Luo Shui walked forward slowly, took Lu Fan's arm, looked down at Zhao Tai on the ground, and said indifferently, "Zhao Tai, I have no interest in you at all, don't bother me anymore in the future." Zhao Tai's eyes were red, and he asked, "Why am I not worthy of you? You are a good person." Chu Luo Shui glanced at Zhao Tai indifferently, took Lu Fan's arm, turned around and got into the car. Is he given a good guy card? As the son of Zhao Bancheng, the god of wealth, how could Zhao Tai suffer such humiliation? Looking at the car going away, Zhao Tai roared, "Chu Luo Shui, I swear, one day, you will beg for mercy under my crotch." On their way to the Jade Emperor Hotel, Chu Luo Shui took off her high heels and put her beautiful feet wrapped in red stockings on Lu Fan's legs. Lu Fan, who was driving, smiled bitterly. Third senior sister, what are you doing? I want to give you a surprise. Chu Luo Shui's beautiful feet were as soft as water. Just a few gentle strokings, Lu Fan's whole body tensed up, as if he was electrocuted. It was really tormenting. Chu Luo Shui was born with a charming bone and extremely seductive. It must be difficult for a man to resist her teasing. Lu Fan coughed dryly a few times and changed the subject. By the way, third senior sister, how much do you know about the Red Flower Society? Seeing Lu Fan asking, Chu Luo Shui said, there is a poem circulating in the underworld, red flowers, white lotus roots, and green lotus leaves, and the red flowers refer to the Red Flower Society. White lotus roots refer to the White Lotus Society. As for the green lotus leaves, they refer to the Green Gate. The three major forces have been entrenched in Jiancheng for many years. Among them, the Red Flower Society is the strongest. It is rumored that Chen Qianluo, the leader of the Red Flower Society, was already a martial arts master as early as 10 years ago. Masters are like dragons. As long as Chen Qianluo lives one day, he will always be the ceiling of Jiancheng's combat power. Just when he arrived at the entrance of the Jade Emperor Hotel, Lu Fan saw Yu Jielong and Lu Xiaowan walking towards him. Yu Jielong wore high boots, and her flawless white legs were wrapped in flesh-colored stockings as thin as cicada wings. When she walked, her ponytail swayed back and forth. When she looked at Lu Fan, she didn't hide her contempt in her eyes. Lu Fan, why are you like a piece of shitty plaster that can't be shaken off? At this time, Lu Xiaowan walked out from behind Yu Jielong and glared at Lu Fan. I think you made a mistake. Before Lu Fan finished the word mistake, he heard Yu Jielong shouting, you can't even think about it, it's a sin to think about it. How can a pheasant be matched with a phoenix? You will never be in my eyes in this life. Also, listen to my advice and go back to apologize to Zhao Wanger. Maybe Zhao Wanger can give you a meal. No matter what, it's better than you eating gigolo in the Shen family. Yu Jielong said sincerely and preached to Lu Fan. Lu Fan laughed angrily, you want me to apologize to a mistress? Is she worthy? It's a bit shameful for Zhao Wanger to be a mistress. But it's undeniable that Zhao Wanger is indeed very resourceful. The Longmen she founded took less than 20 years to control the underground world in the north. Even the Martial Arts League in the north had to act according to her mood. Good advice doesn't work, damn ghost, you should do what you want. Yu Jielong shook her head secretly, as if she was extremely disappointed with Lu Fan. Lu Fan said speechlessly, are you sick? At this time, Chu Luo Shui patted Lu Fan on the shoulder and joked, junior brother, Yu Jielong is a fierce horse. It's not easy to ride her. It's fun to ride a fierce horse. Lu Fan stared at Yu Jielong's back, his eyes full of desire to conquer. Just as he was about to enter the hotel, Du Lingshuan's phone suddenly called, Lu Fan, can you come to Tiger Roar Villa? My dad has a strange disease, his eyes are red, his head is splitting, and he beats people when he sees them. I really have no way. Tiger Roar Villa. Isn't that Du Huxiao's manor? Could it be that Du Lingxian is Du Huxiao's daughter? As far as Lu Fan knows, Du Huxiao has no sons, only a pair of twin daughters. So, Du Lingxian should be Lu Fan's sister-in-law. There is no time to think about it. Lu Fan hurriedly drove straight to Huxiao Villa. At this time, Huxiao Villa was filled with a pungent smell of blood. Just half an hour ago, Qingmen leader Du Huxiao suddenly got sick and beat anyone he saw. Fortunately, Yu Jielong arrived in time and subdued Du Huxiao. When Bao, one of the four great Varger of Qingmen, begged, Miss Yu, please, you must cure my master's illness. Yu Jielong took Du Huxiao's pulse and said lightly, Master Du is just suffering from evil spirits. I can cure his illness with a few needles. When Bao knelt on one knee and vowed, Miss Yu, as long as you can cure my master's illness, my life will be yours in the future. This time I came to Huxiao Villa. Yu Jielong wanted to win people's hearts and prepare for her to conquer Qingmen. At most 3 needles, your master's headache will disappear. Yu Jielong was full of confidence, spread out the silver needle bag, twisted out a silver needle from it, and pierced it into the Baihui point on the top of Du Huxiao's head. As the silver needle turned, Du Huxiao's headache seemed to be relieved. Yu Jielong took a deep breath, twisted another silver needle, and prepared to pierce Du Huxiao's temple. Stop. This injection of yours will not only fail to cure Master Du's illness, but will aggravate his headache and even endanger his life. Just as Yu Jielong was about to give him the injection, Lu Fan suddenly rushed in with Du Lingxian. Chapter 14, Lustful and Daring. Most people in Jiangnan have heard this saying. Yu Jielong is invincible in the world in martial arts. As a doctor, she can revive the dead. As a businessman, she can be rich enough to rival a country. It is because of this that Yu Jielong is named the #1 prodigy in Jiangnan. But now, someone dares to question Yu Jielong's medical skills in public? This makes Yu Jielong feel deeply humiliated. Lu Fan. Yu Jielong turned her head and saw the person she least wanted to see. Lu Xiaowan, who was standing by, was so angry that she cursed, "You toad, why are you everywhere? Who do you think you are? How dare you question my lady's medical skills?" Par Lu Fan raised his hand and slapped Lu Xiaowan, saying coldly, "Uneducated thing. How dare you? Who are you to come to my Huxia mountain villa and make trouble?" Seeing that Lu Fan dared to hit Lu Xiaowan, Wen Bao waved his hand and shouted, "Destroy him for me. He is one of the 4 great kings of Qing men. Wen Bao is extremely powerful and has the courage of 10,000 men. In Qing men, Wen Bao's words are very important, second only to Du Huxiao. Stop. I invited him to treat my father." At this time, Du Lingxian walked out from behind Lu Fan and shouted back the disciple who rushed forward. Wen Bao's face changed slightly, and he pondered, "Lingxian, where did you find the charlatan?" Seeing that Wen Bao had a misunderstanding of Lu Fan, Du Lingxian hurried forward to explain, "Big brother, Lu Fan is not a charlatan." Wen Bao frowned and said, "Lingxian, you are simple-minded, don't be fooled by him. Big brother, you can't judge a person by his appearance." Lu Fan's medical skills. Before Du Lingxian finished speaking, Wen Bao raised his hand to interrupt her and turned his head to order, "Come on, drive this little charlatan out." It would be too easy for him to drive Lu Fan out like this. When Yu Jielong thought of what happened in Mingyue's High before, she was furious. Thinking of this, Yu Jielong said, "Wen Bao, let him stand aside and watch." "Miss, how can this be possible? What virtue and ability does Lu Fan have? What qualifications does he have to watch your 13 ghost needles?" Lu Xiaowan covered her swollen and painful face and looked at Lu Fan resentfully. The 13 ghost needles are extremely mysterious. Even Yu Jielong only understood 10 of them. So, Yu Jielong is not afraid of Lu Fan stealing her skills. Lu Fan, just watch carefully. If you can understand one of them, you will never have to worry about food and drink in this life. Yu Jielong said arrogantly, and then inserted the needle into Du Huxia's temple. With the piercing of this needle, Du Huxia's originally red eyes actually returned to normal. With the twisting of the silver needle, Du Huxia's headache gradually disappeared. "You are worthy of being the disciple of the 9-fingered ghost doctor. Miss Yu's medical skills are really unfathomable. Yes, Miss Yu only gave 2 needles and cured the master's headache. Unlike some people, who only know how to attract attention." While speaking, Wen Bao glanced at Lu Fan intentionally or unintentionally. It turns out that Yu Jielong is the disciple of the 9-fingered ghost doctor. No wonder she is so arrogant. As far as Lu Fan knows, the broken finger of the 9-fingered ghost doctor was the one that was cut off by the queen of Tantaiyu when she lost the battle with poison. Du Lingxian tugged at Lu Fan's arm and said with a wry smile, "I'm sorry, Lu Fan, I made you run for nothing." Lu Fan pondered for a moment and said, "Yu Jielong's medical skills are good." "That's nonsense. My lady's medical skills are the true teachings of the 9-fingered ghost doctor." Lu Xiaowan snorted and said as if showing off, 5, 4, 3. Lu Fan stretched out his right hand, and every time he called a number, he would retract a finger. Lu Xiaowan was puzzled and said, "What do you mean?" "Humph, you are just being mysterious." Yu Jielong chuckled with disdain on her face, thinking that Lu Fan was just a clown and didn't bother to look at him anymore. At this time, Du Huxiao took a breath and clasped his fists and said, "Thank you Miss Yu for saving my life." 2. 1. Lu Fan put away the last 2 fingers and snapped his fingers, vomiting blood. Poof. Suddenly, Du Huxiao raised his head and vomited blood, and sat down on the armchair. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Du Lingxian was very anxious and rushed forward. Seeing Du Huxiao's weak breathing, Wen Bao anxiously said, "Miss Yu, what's wrong with my master?" Yu Jielong's face turned pale and trembled. How could this happen? Lu Fan joked, "Yu Jielong, your medical skills are really good. You can make Master Du sober for 5 seconds. How could this happen? Yu Jielong took Du Huxiao's pulse and turned to glare at Lu Fan. Is it you who did it? Lu Fan sneered, Yu Jielong, your medical skills are not good, but your ability to shirk responsibility is first class. What should I do? At this moment, Du Huxiao's pulse was actually the leaky pulse, one of the 7 deadly pulses. The so-called leaky pulse is slow and weak, like water dripping from a leaky roof, and it beats only once in a long time. Yu Jielong was frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. If Du Huxiao died, she was afraid that she would be imprisoned. Yu Jielong forced herself to remain calm and said, from what you said, can you cure it? Lu Fan smiled evilly, I can cure it, but why should I cure it? Don't you just want money? Name a price. Yu Jielong looked like she had Lu Fan in her hands. Lu Fan shook his head, I don't want money. Yu Jielong said with a wary face, then what do you want? Lu Fan glanced at Yu Jielong's buttocks and joked, your sweet buttocks are really nice, I want to take enough pictures. Are you crazy? You dare to take pictures of the master's buttocks? Take enough pictures. You think your life is too long? Wen Bao and others were really shocked by Lu Fan's shocking words. How could Yu Jielong be humiliated like this? This Lu Fan is really bold and dares to take pictures of Yu Jielong's sweet buttocks. But Yu Jielong cherishes her feathers very much. Her life must not have stains, let alone a criminal record. Thinking of this, Yu Jielong endured the humiliation and said, okay. I promise you, but the premise is that you can cure Master Du's disease, otherwise, I will tear your mouth apart. What about the little fierce horse? Isn't it still submissive to Lu Fan? Yu Jielong, I'm determined to take a picture of your sweet ass. Lu Fan laughed and turned to walk towards Du Huxiao. Snap. Suddenly, Yu Jielong's palm fell and smashed the tea table beside her. Lu Fan took Du Huxiao's pulse and said lazily, Master Du is not suffering from evil spirits entering his body, but from Jiu. Jiu. Du Lingxian was stunned and couldn't help asking, Lu Fan, is there really Jiu in this world? Lu Fan nodded, yes, there are 2 Jiu worms in Master Du's body. Wen Bao angrily threw his sleeves and shouted, Humph, what nonsense! Come on, drive this little charlatan out. Du Lingxian said anxiously, Big brother, what if there is really a Jiu worm in my dad's body? Lingxian, where is there any Jiu worm in this world? Wen Bao snorted lightly, with disdain on his face, thinking that Lu Fan was just trying to attract attention. Bang. Suddenly, Lu Fan put his fingers together and hit Du Huxiao's Yintang acupoint. Then, Lu Fan put his fingers together and slid slowly down along Du Huxiao's nose bridge. Soon, 2 white poisonous insects crawled out of Du Huxiao's nostrils. Oh my god, what the hell is this? Wen Bao panicked and hid behind Lu Fan. When the 2 poisonous insects crawled out completely, Du Huxiao coughed a few times and slowly opened his eyes. Without the erosion of the poisonous insects, Du Huxiao's spirit and energy were also restored a lot. Plop. Wen Bao knelt on the spot and admired Lu Fan. At this moment, all the disciples of Qingmen were grateful to Lu Fan. Only Yu Jielong had a sullen face and said nothing. Miss Yu, is it time to fulfill the agreement? Lu Fan shook his right hand and smiled evilly, hurry up and stick your butt up, let me pat it enough. Chapter 15 Your butt is so soft. Do you really have to stick your butt up and endure Lu Fan's humiliation? I'm not willing to do that. However, as a master, how can Yu Jielong break her promise? Lu Fan, my lady is just joking with you, don't take it seriously. At this time, Lu Xiaowan stepped forward to help Yu Jielong out. Lu Fan shrugged and smiled, I didn't expect that the words of a master of a generation are like farting. Yu Jielong was so angry that she tightened her fist and glared at Lu Fan. If it weren't for her status, Yu Jielong would have to tear Lu Fan's mouth apart. Wen Bao patted the dust on his legs and said meaningfully, Miss Yu, as far as I know, Changxia regards reputation as more important than life. Do you want everyone in Changxia to laugh at you? Changxia has a deep foundation and has 100,000 disciples. If Yu Jielong breaks her promise, how can she convince everyone? It seems that this time, Yu Jielong can't escape this humiliation. Yu Jielong said with a sullen face, Lu Fan, I asked you to take a photo, do you dare to do it? Don't forget, I am a master. Du Huxiao, who had just woken up, learned the whole story from Du Lingxian. But the master's buttocks must not be slapped. At Yu Jielong's level, she can gather all the internal strength of her body to her buttocks. I am afraid that Lu Fan's hand can be shattered in an instant. Du Huxiao, with the help of Du Lingxian, walked slowly to Lu Fan and kindly advised, Dr. Lu, listen to my advice, you can't slap the master's butt. Lu Fan said casually, why can't you slap it? I see that you don't want it anymore. Yu Jielong turned his back and said coldly, if you are a man, don't say stop. Looking at the arrogant Yu Jielong, Lu Fan said unhappily, what are you talking about? Hurry up and stick your butt up. Damn it. Yu Jielong hated secretly and glanced around coldly, everyone turn your back. Whoever dares to peek, I will dig out his dog eyes. After speaking, Yu Jielong fell with one foot, shattering the floor tiles. Some disciples who were closer were swept several meters away by the energy on the spot. This is the power of the master. Even a big guy like Du Huxiao did not dare to disobey Yu Jielong's wishes, so he had to turn his back. As soon as Yu Jielong raised her butt, she saw Lu Fan raised his big hand and slapped her hard. Aren't you aloof? Lu Fan slapped her twice in a row, making Yu Jielong gasp. Yu Jielong blushed and shouted, Lu Fan, you are shameless, you actually sneak attack. Tell me, can a pheasant be matched with a phoenix? Lu Fan slapped her again, making Yu Jielong's whole body soft. I don't know why. Yu Jielong actually liked this feeling. Could it be that she, Yu Jielong, has a masochistic tendency? Par. While slapping Yu Jielong's honey butt, Lu Fan teased, Yu Jielong, your butt is so soft. Lu Fan, I hate you. Yu Jielong felt humiliated, her eyes red, and looked at Lu Fan murderously. Seeing the tears in Yu Jielong's eyes, Lu Fan rolled his eyes and said, you're crying now? I didn't cry even though I was humiliated by you. Who's crying? Get out of here. Yu Jielong held back her tears, pushed Lu Fan away, and walked away with Lu Xiaowan. After all, Yu Jielong is just a little girl who has not yet opened her heart to love. However, she has never been desecrated like this since she was a child. This is considered to have offended Yu Jielong to death. However, Yu Jielong's buttocks are really soft, and the more he shoots, the more addicted he becomes. Until now, Lu Fan still feels a little unsatisfied. Du Huxiao clasped his fists and smiled, thank you, Dr. Lu, for saving my life. Lu Fan said, father-in-law, you are too polite. It's my duty to save you. You call me father-in-law. Du Huxiao was stunned at first, and then asked, are you her disciple? The one Du Huxiao was talking about was Yi Putti, Lu Fan's second master. 3 years ago, if Yi Putti hadn't come to the rescue, the Du family would have been wiped out. I remember that at that time, Yi Putti fell in love with Du Lingxi at first sight, saying that she had the appearance of a hero and was qualified to be the wife of her apprentice. In this way, Lu Fan and Du Lingxi had an engagement. Du Huxiao said excitedly, my dear son-in-law, you finally came to visit. Father-in-law, where is Lingxi? Lu Fan frowned slightly. It was a bit strange that Du Lingxi didn't show up when such a big thing happened in the Du family. Seeing Lu Fan asking, Du Huxiao lowered his voice and said, Lingxi went to Yangjing to participate in the selection of Blood Moon and will be back soon. As far as Lu Fan knew, Du Lingxi was a martial arts genius. Although not as evil as Yu Jielong, she was not much worse. Otherwise, Du Lingxi would not have caught Yi Putti's eye. My dear son-in-law, this is the tiger roaring order. Just as Lu Fan was about to leave, Du Huxiao handed him a green token. With this token, it will be much easier for you to act in Jiangcheng. No matter who it is, as long as they hold the tiger roaring order, they can dispatch the 3,000 disciples of Qingmen. Even the 4 great Vajras of Qingmen have to obey orders. After leaving the tiger roaring villa, Lu Fan drove back to the Jade Emperor Hotel. As soon as he entered the hotel, Lu Fan heard Shen Feishue's angry voice, despicable. The Red Flower Society is really despicable. Lu Fan asked, wife, what happened? Shen Feishue hung up the phone and said gloomily, Zhao Tai of the Red Flower Society and the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce have launched a ban on our Shen family, and threatened that whoever dares to cooperate with our Shen family will have to buy a coffin and keep it at home as a backup. Now many medicinal material merchants in Jiangcheng have chosen to break the contract. Only the medicinal material tycoon Zhang Zhuxiao has not expressed his position. I must fight for it, said Shen Feishue, dragging Lu Fan out of the hotel. From Shen Feishue, I learned that Zhang Zhuxiao is a medicinal material tycoon in Jiangnan with a deep background. Not to mention a small red flower society, even the Qinxia society would not dare to offend him easily. When Lu Fan followed Shen Feishue to the Zhang family villa, he saw Zhao Tai and Huang Sihai sitting on the sofa, watching a Taoist taking Zhang Juxia's pulse. The moment she saw the Taoist priest, Shen Fei's face turned pale, and she smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that they would invite Master Qiu to come. Lu Fan asked curiously, who is Master Qiu? Zhao Tai glanced at Lu Fan and said sarcastically, a bumpkin is a bumpkin. He doesn't even know Master Qiu Lingyu, who is famous in Jiangnan. Lu Fan's eyes were cold. Zhao Tai, doesn't your face hurt? When Zhao Tai thought of the scene of being stepped on and rubbed by Lu Fan, he was furious. Little beast, don't be so arrogant. When the Shen family goes bankrupt, you will be homeless on the street. You still dare to scold me? Lu Fan raised his right hand and pretended to hit Zhao Tai. Originally, I thought Zhao Tai would dodge. But who would have thought that Zhao Tai not only did not dodge, but instead put his face forward? Hit me. Hit me if you have the guts. I don't believe you dare to do it in John's house. Zhao Tai looked at Lu Fan with a face that deserved a beating, and put his face close to his hand, arrogant. Fearing that Lu Fan would act impulsively, Shen Feishue hurried forward to stop him and said, Lu Fan, you must not act impulsively. No one dares to act rashly in the Zhang family. Because of Shen Feishue's face, Lu Fan had to withdraw his right hand. But Zhao Tai was relentless. You coward, I gave you a chance but it's useless. Weren't you very arrogant at the airport before? Zhao Tai thought Lu Fan was just cowardly, and poked his chest arrogantly, aggressively. You bastard, you're the only one who barks loudly. Lu Fan suddenly grabbed Zhao Tai's neck, raised his fist, and hit him hard. Chapter 16, Stealing Wealth with a Sword, Taking Life with a Sword. A medicinal material tycoon like Zhang Juxiao is naturally protected by masters. The old man in black standing behind Zhang Juxiao never took his eyes off Lu Fan. His name is Huijinxuan, he is from Barji sect, a true martial arts master. No wonder Zhao Tai dared to be so fearless. Huang Sihai, who was sitting on the sofa, was watching a show. He was eager for Lu Fan to beat Zhao Tai to death. Bang, bang. 3 consecutive punches fell. Zhao Tai's nose was bleeding and he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. How dare you? Do you have my master in your eyes? At this time, Huijinxuan jumped lightly, grabbed Zhao Tai's shoulders, and pulled him behind him. Seeing the opportunity coming, Huang Sihai hurriedly stood up and scolded, Lu Fan, you are so bold that you dare to act wild in the Zhang family. This time, Lu Fan is finished. Even if he doesn't die, he will lose a layer of skin. No one dared to act wildly on Zhang Juxiao's territory. Lu Fan said domineeringly, what about the Zhang family? I will beat anyone who dares to provoke me. For so many years, I, Zhang Juxiao, have never seen anyone as arrogant as you. At this time, Zhang Juxiao slowly stood up and said indifferently, Mr. Hua, slap me in the face. Yes. Huijinxuan nodded and was about to attack Lu Fan. Seeing this, Shen Feishue hurriedly protected Lu Fan and said angrily, Mr. Zhang, you are a bit too unreasonable, right? It's obviously Zhao Tai's fault. If it weren't for him. Shut up. Zhang Juxiao frowned and pondered, I, Zhang Juxiao, am not a judge. I don't ask right or wrong. I only know that the person you brought offended me, so he must be punished. Perhaps, Zhao Tai is hateful. But from beginning to end, Zhao Tai did not take action. But Lu Fan was beaten up by Zhao Tai just because Zhao Tai provoked him. People like this are destined to be difficult to achieve great things. You are about to die, but you are still so generous. Lu Fan suddenly spoke and walked out from behind Shen Feishue. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was in an uproar. It was a taboo to take action in the Zhang family. But Lu Fan cursed Zhang Juxiao without knowing whether to live or die. Shen Feishue was frightened and her face turned pale. She said bitterly, Lu Fan, what nonsense are you talking about? I am not talking nonsense. Zhang Juxiao's forehead is black, and there will be a bloody disaster. Lu Fan counted with his fingers and stared at Zhang Juxiao. Qiu Lingyu walked out from behind Zhang Juxiao with a whisk in his hand, and said grimly, Little kid, your hair has grown out, and you dare to learn to read people's faces. Old Hua, cripple him for me. Zhang Juxiao shook his sleeves and signaled Huijinxuan to take action. It's over. This time, Zhang Juxiao was completely offended. Not to mention cooperating with Zhang Juxiao, it's hard to say whether he can walk out alive. Just when Hu Jinshuan was about to take action, Lu Fan spoke again. Mr. Zhang, have you been unlucky recently? And there is a blood line on your lower abdomen. How do you know? After hearing Lu Fan's words, Zhang Zhuxiao raised his hand to stop Hu Jinshuan from coming forward. Just as Lu Fan said, Zhang Zhuxiao has been unlucky recently, and no matter what project he invests in, he will lose everything. In addition, there is indeed a 10-inch long blood line on his lower abdomen. The weird thing is that the blood line can not only not be washed off, but also spreads upwards. Lu Fan pointed at the statue of Guangong in the hall and said with a smile, Mr. Zhang, there is something wrong with your statue of Guangong. Nonsense. What's wrong with this statue of Guangong? Qilin Yu flicked his whisk and said sarcastically, young man, don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. Lion, even if you say it to the sky, you can't escape the fate of being abandoned. Zhao Tai glared at Lu Fan fiercely, and secretly swore in his heart that he would take his life as soon as he left the Zhang family. Snap. Lu Fan slapped Zhao Tai again, and he flew several meters away. Seeing Lu Fan so rampant, Huang Sihai gritted his teeth and said, Mr. Zhang, you saw it all, Lu Fan didn't take you seriously at all. Shut up. Zhang Zhuxiao kicked Huang Sihai away with a fierce look on his face. If you dare to sow discord again, I will kill you. Don't look at Zhang Zhuxiao, who is over 50 years old. But the dandy spirit in him did not dissipate because of this. As Zhang Zhuxiao went berserk, Zhao Tai and the others were so frightened that they dared not even breathe. After teaching Huang Sihai a lesson, Zhang Zhuxiao turned to look at Lu Fan and said coldly, young man, you'd better tell me the truth, otherwise, you can only leave sideways. Over the years, Zhang Zhuxiao has also encountered many charlatans. But in the end, they were all broken and thrown out. Lu Fan pointed to the statue of Guangong standing with a sword and said with a smile, Mr. Zhang, look at the eyes of this Guangong statue, are they open or closed? Open. Zhang Zhuxiao was a little confused. Guangong closes his eyes to keep you safe, and Guangong opens his eyes to kill the world. Every time you worship the Guangong statue, you will be stabbed, so there is a 10-inch long blood line on your lower abdomen. Lu Fan pointed at the eyes of the Guangong statue and turned to look at Zhang Zhuxiao, and you are worshipping a statue of Guangong standing with a knife. Zhang Zhuxiao asked in confusion, what's wrong with the statue of Guangong standing with a knife? Lu Fan frowned and said in a concentrated voice, the horizontal knife takes away wealth, and the standing knife takes away life. In my opinion, the person who gave you this Guangong statue should want your life, and the knife evil will take shape and cut open your intestines and stomach. What knife evil will take shape and cut open your intestines and stomach? Boy, don't make alarmist remarks here. In my opinion, the blood line on Mr. Zhang's lower abdomen is just formed after the capillaries rupture. Qilin Yu threw their whisk and scolded Lu Fan. Capillaries ruptured. Zhang Zhuxiao was a little unsure, so he had to tear open his shirt and reveal his hideous belly. There's really a blood line. Shen Feishua was shocked. Lu Fan pressed Zhang Zhuxiao's belly and said thoughtfully, Mr. Zhang, fortunately you are financially strong, so you can spend money to avoid disaster, otherwise, you would have become a corpse. Lu Fan's words became more and more mysterious, and Zhang Zhuxiao was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. A medicinal material tycoon like Zhang Zhuxiao still cherishes his life. But Lu Fan is too young after all, who can guarantee that he is not fooling Zhang Zhuxiao? Relatively speaking, Zhang Zhuxiao is still more willing to believe Qilin Yu. After all, Qilin Yu is a famous feng shui master in Jiangnan. Thinking of this, Zhang Zhuxiao turned his head and asked, Master Qiu, do you have a way to resolve this blood line? There is a way. Qilin Yu pretended to be profound and said slowly, but I have a condition. Zhang Zhuxiao said anxiously, no matter what the condition is, I will agree to it. Qilin Yu pointed at Lu Fan and said jokingly, Boss Zhang, this man has repeatedly offended Mr. Zhao. I want one of his hands. It's not too much, right? In order to survive, Zhang Zhuxiao made up his mind and shook his head, it's not too much. Lu Fan, when you are disabled, my Red Flower Society can give you a meal. Zhao Tai's face was full of gloating. This Qilin Yu was invited by him at a high price, so naturally she would stand on his side. Huang Sihai said sarcastically, my Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce is still short of a guard dog. You can come and try. Where did this mad dog come from? It makes people feel annoyed. Lu Fan raised his hand and slapped Wang Sihai several meters away. Wang Sihai's front teeth were knocked out by the slap. How cruel! Zhao Tai suddenly felt cold sweat on his back, and he suddenly regretted being an enemy of Lu Fan. But fortunately, Lu Fan was about to become a disabled person. Mr. Zhang, I'm going to give him acupuncture. Qilin Yu nodded to Zhang Zhuxiao, then picked up a silver needle and pierced it into his Chihai acupoint. As the silver needle twisted, the blood line on Zhang Zhuxiao's lower abdomen dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. When the blood line dissipated completely, Qilin Yu pulled out the silver needle, turned his head and looked at Wu Jinshuan, and said grimly, Master Hua, I want his right hand, you must not cut the wrong one. Chapter 17 I'm going to get you today. What kind of knife evil spirit takes shape and rips open your stomach? Lu Fan in front of him seems honest, but he is full of lies. After a long time, the blood line on Zhang Zhuxiao's lower abdomen was just formed by the rupture of capillaries. After acupuncture by Master Qiu, the blood line has disappeared. Hey, little kid, don't lie to people anymore. It's better to lose a hand than to lose your life. Wu Jinshuan sighed, as if he felt sorry for Lu Fan. Zhang Zhuxiao waved his hand impatiently, Mr. Hua, go out and chop him. It's not appropriate to see blood in front of the Guangong statue. Shen Feishua's heart tightened, and she defended Lu Fan, Mr. Zhang, Lu Fan didn't mean it. He also meant well. He cursed me, but he also meant well. Zhang Zhuxiao snorted, and said with a sullen face, what I, Zhang Zhuxiao, hate most in my life is liars. Mr. Hua, take him out. The most excited were Zhao Tai and Wang Sihai. Zhao Tai secretly swore that when Lu Fan's right hand was chopped off, he would take people to capture Chu Luoshui. In Zhao Tai's eyes, Chu Luoshui had long been regarded as a forbidden delicacy. Since it was a forbidden delicacy, how could he allow others to touch it? Wu Jinshuan put his hands behind his back, glanced at Lu Fan, and said lightly, let's go, kid. Before leaving, Lu Fan did not forget to remind him, Boss Zhang, you must not worship the statue of Guangong, otherwise, you will have a bloody disaster. You little brat. I have tolerated you for a long time. Seeing that Lu Fan dared to curse him, Zhang Zhuxiao was so angry that he smashed the teacup and shouted, Old Hua, cut off his limbs for me. Zhao Tai gloated, Lu Fan, is there a hole in your brain? Boss Zhang was cured by Master Qiu, how dare you curse him? Wang Sihai followed up with sarcasm, do you really think you are a fortune teller? I don't believe that Boss Zhang will have a bloody disaster if he worships the statue of Guangong. Boss Zhang, you can worship it. If something happens, I will take the blame for you. Qilin Yu stroked his goatee, extremely arrogant. Even Shen Feishua felt that Lu Fan's words were a bit too sensational. How could there be a bloody disaster after worshipping the Guangong statue? After leaving the villa, Wu Jinshuan said expressionlessly, little kid, Mr. Zhang wants your limbs, I can't do anything. Lu Fan raised the corner of his mouth and said jokingly, the toad yuans, what a big tone. You are so arrogant. The master cannot be insulted. Wu Jinshuan felt that his dignity was challenged, and he put his 5 fingers together and grabbed Lu Fan's right arm. It seemed that Wu Jinshuan was going to tear Lu Fan's arm off. Kneel. Lu Fan stepped down with a foot, and the terrifying energy fell down like a mountain. Par. Wu Jinshuan felt his knees softened and knelt in front of Lu Fan involuntarily. Is the master awesome? Lu Fan said jokingly, pinched Wu Jinshuan's neck, and slowly lifted him above his head. In an instant, the master could kneel down. Shen Feishua was really shocked. No wonder Lu Fan was so fierce. Wu Jinshuan was so scared that his heart and gallbladder broke. Supreme Lord, spare my life. If you dare to disrespect me again, I will kill you without mercy. Lu Fan threw Wu Jinshuan to the ground like throwing away garbage. How could there be such a young Supreme Lord in the world? Who is he? Wu Jinshuan was terrified and kept thanking Lu Fan for not killing him. My head. Just at this moment, a scream came from the villa. Hearing this shrill scream, Wu Jinshuan was shocked. Oh no, something happened to Mr. Zhang. Could it be that Lu Fan was right? Shen Feishua hurriedly pulled Lu Fan to follow. The moment she stepped into the hall, Shen Feishua smelled a pungent smell of blood. Mr. Zhang, are you okay? Qilin Yu was terrified. If Zhang Zhuxiao died, he would also be buried with him. It was really thrilling. Fortunately, the Guangong sword was not sharpened. Otherwise, Zhang Zhuxiao's head would have been split in half. But even so, Zhang Zhuxiao's head was still injured by the Guangong sword, and blood was flowing. My stomach hurts so much, save me. Zhang Zhuxiao screamed in pain, and he tore his shirt open. As the shirt was torn open, the blood line on Zhang Zhuxiao's lower abdomen spread upward at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qilin Yu hurriedly stepped forward. "Don't be afraid, Mr. Zhang, let me save you. Get out of the way. You dead liar, if anything happens to Mr. Zhang, I will blow your dog head." Hu Jinshuan grabbed Qilin Yu's head and pressed him to the ground. At this moment, Zhao Tai and Huang Sihai were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. "Master Lu, save me." Zhang Zhuxiao knelt and crawled in front of Lu Fan, kowtowed repeatedly. Lu Fan joked, "Aren't you going to cut off my limbs?" "Master Lu, I'm too short-sighted. I'll make amends." Zhang Zhuxiao kowtowed hard, and the stabbing pain in his abdomen made him feel like dying. Hu Jinshuan knelt down and begged, "Master Lu, please save Mr. Zhang's life." "Oh, forget it, it's his fate to meet me." Lu Fan sighed, and used his finger as a pen to skillfully draw a talisman on Zhang Zhuxiao's chest. A talisman to break the evil spirit. Qilin Yu's pupils shrank, and her face was full of disbelief. The Taoist talisman that can dissolve the evil spirit is extremely rare. Could it be that this Lu Fan is a descendant of the Taoist sect? The sky and the earth are boundless, and the universe borrows the lore. "Command!" Lu Fan's thunderous voice rolled, and he pointed at Zhang Zhuxiao's Yintang acupoint. A magical scene happened. I saw a stream of bloody evil spirits gushing out along Zhang Zhuxiao's crown. As the blood evil spirit was discharged, the blood line on Zhang Zhuxiao's abdomen also dissipated. "Thank you, Master Lu, for saving me." Zhang Zhuxiao hurriedly knelt down to thank Lu Fan. Lu Fan's eyes were cold and he asked, "I heard from my fiancée that you want to cancel the cooperation with Shin Group." "Rumors, this is absolutely a rumor." Zhang Zhuxiao denied it flatly and looked at Shin Feishue with a look of help. "Miss Shin, you have to beg for me." Shin Feishue took Lu Fan's arm and smiled. "Lu Fan, in my opinion, Mr. Zhang must have been deceived by the villain." Zhao Tai and others seemed to be a little guilty and wanted to take the opportunity to slip away. But how could Zhang Zhuxiao let them go? Zhang Zhuxiao slowly stood up and shouted, "Old Hua, break one of their arms and throw them out." Zhang Zhuxiao, think it over, my father is Zhao. Before Zhao Tai finished speaking, Hu Jinshuan reached out and grabbed and directly twisted his right arm. Crack, crack. Accompanied by a sound like bone fracture. Huang Sihai and Qilin Yu also had their right arms twisted off by Hu Jinshuan and were thrown out of the villa. In the eyes of Zhao Tai and others, all this was caused by Lu Fan. Zhao Tai shouted with red eyes, "Lu Fan, I must cut you into pieces." Qilin Yu smiled sinisterly, "Mr. Zhao, revenge is not easy, but everyone has his weaknesses." "Hey, according to my investigation, Lu Fan's weakness is only Shin Feishue. Do you dare to kidnap her?" Huang Sihai sighed, his face full of helplessness. Kidnapping the daughter of Jiangqing's richest man is no different from seeking death. Once the matter gets out of hand, the Zhao family and the Black Dragon Chamber of Commerce will have to be buried with her. What's more, Shin Feishue's background is for more than it seems. Zhao Tai said with a murderous look on his face, in addition to Shin Feishue, Lu Fan has another weakness, that is Chu Luo Shui. Chu Luo Shui was taking the filming team to shoot an advertisement at the beach at this time. Chu Luo Shui was barefoot, stepping on the beach, wrapped in transparent gauze, like a fairy. When she ran, her breasts trembled, and her legs wrapped in white stockings alternated back and forth. Indistinctly, a slender mark could be seen. "Stinky bitch, I'm going to kill you today, even Jesus can't save you." Just when the director was about to shout, "Cut," Zhao Tai rushed forward with Qilin Yu and others. Chapter 18. Wherever the ghost passes, no grass grows. In order to kill Lu Fan, Zhao Tai brought more than 200 people. No matter how good Lu Fan is at fighting, he will not escape death today. Zhao Tai just doesn't believe that Lu Fan can watch Chu Luo Shui being ravaged by him. Red Flower Society is doing things. Everyone kneel down. Zhao Tai was domineering and walked forward with a dense crowd of disciples. The director shouted angrily, "Who are you? Why do you want us to kneel down?" "Why?" Zhao Tai shrugged and laughed at the sky. "Just because I am Zhao Tai, I wonder if this reason is sufficient." "What? He is Zhao Tai, the fifth leader of the Red Flower Society. If you don't want to lose your hands and feet, kneel down quickly. The director, who was still proud before, trembled with fear and knelt on the ground. Chu Luo Shui wrapped the gauze tightly around her body and said with a gloomy face, Zhao Tai, what do you want to do? I want to fuck you. Why are you pretending to be so noble? If Lu Fan can fuck you, I can fuck you too. Zhao Tai's words were vulgar and his face was ferocious. Although Chu Luo Shui was a disciple of Tan Tai Yu, but she was not good at fighting. Facing so many people, Chu Luo Shui was inevitably a little scared. Now only Lu Fan could save her. Unfortunately, Chu Luo Shui's cell phone was not in front of her. It was almost impossible to ask Lu Fan to save her. Chu Luo Shui gritted her teeth and said coldly, Zhao Tai, if you leave now, I will pretend that nothing happened, otherwise, you will definitely regret it. You bitch, dare to threaten me. Zhao Tai spitted, raised his hand and slapped Chu Luo Shui to the ground. Bang, bang. Zhao Tai seemed a little unsatisfied, and kicked Chu Luo Shui a few more times. Fearing that Zhao Tai would kick Chu Luo Shui to death, Qilin Yu hurriedly said, Mr. Zhao, if you kick her to death, what are we going to do? After Qilin Yu's persuasion, Zhao Tai finally stopped. At this time, Chu Luo Shui curled up, sweating in pain, and stared at Zhao Tai with her phoenix eyes. Chu Luo Shui said with red eyes, Zhao Tai, Lu Fan will definitely kill you. I'm so scared. Zhao Tai pretended to be scared, patted his chest, and then handed over the phone, call him and ask him to come and kill me. Zhang family villa. For some reason, Lu Fan was a little uneasy, always feeling that something was going to happen. Lu Fan didn't listen to a word of Zhang Zhuxiao's words. Mr. Lu, this is the key to Ling Yu Pavilion, please keep it. Zhang Zhuxiao glanced at Lu Fan and handed over the key carefully. Shenfei Xue was shocked and said, Ling Yu Pavilion. Mr. Zhang, you can't do that. Ling Yu Pavilion is the most expensive building in Jiangcheng and is worth 2 billion. It's too expensive. 2 billion in one shot. He is indeed a Jiangnan herbal medicine tycoon. But Lu Fan has no concept of money. My life is worth more than 2 billion. Zhang Zhuxiao was full of pride in his words, and then knelt on his knees, Master Lu, if you don't take it, I will kneel forever. A strange man like Lu Fan must not be offended. Especially when Hu Jinshuan said that Lu Fan just stomped his feet and forced him to kneel. Just imagine how terrifying Lu Fan's strength is. Seeing Zhang Zhuxiao's sincerity, Lu Fan had to take the key and said calmly, get up. Ho. Zhang Zhuxiao took a deep breath and said with a smile, Master Lu, if you need me in the future, just ask. There is one thing. Lu Fan seemed to think of something, turned his head and asked, Boss Zhang, have you ever heard of the 9-Dragon Jade? 9-Dragon Jade. Zhang Zhuxiao muttered silently and shook his head, no, but I can help you find out. Lu Fan clasped his fists and smiled, then I'll have to trouble you, Boss Zhang. It's my blessing to be able to serve Master Lu. Zhang Zhuxiao lowered his posture and was no longer as arrogant as before. The 9-Dragon Jade is related to the life and death of his mother Yao Chimen. Lu Fan must get it no matter what. As long as the 9-Dragon Jade is in hand, there is no need to worry about those men in black not showing up. Just when Lu Fan was secretly calculating, a strange phone call came in, Junior brother, come to Jiangshui Bay to save me, I've been kidnapped by Zhao Tai. Snap. Suddenly, a crisp slap sounded from the other end of the phone. Then, there was Chu Luoshui's scream. Lu Fan said with a murderous look on his face, Zhao Tai, you are looking for death. Stop talking so hard, I'll wait for you in Jiangshui Bay. After that, Zhao Tai hung up the phone directly. Seeing Lu Fan's face was livid, Shenfei Xue said nervously, Lu Fan, what happened? Chu Luo Shui was kidnapped by Zhao Tai. When he spoke, a hint of murderous intent flashed in Lu Fan's eyes. Seeing the opportunity to show off, Zhang Zhuxiao hurriedly said, Master Lu, I have some face in Jiangcheng, why don't you let me come forward to mediate? Do you think it is necessary to mediate? Lu Fan said in a cold tone, turned around and said, Mr. Zhang, please take care of mission for me, I'll be back soon. As soon as he left the villa, Lu Fan called Qi Yu. Things like killing should be left to the Nether Palace. When the call was connected, Lu Fan said with a murderous look on his face, sound the assembly call, target Jiangshui Bay. As soon as the assembly call sounded, All the ghosts in Jiangcheng must gather as soon as possible. It seems that this Jiangshui Bay is destined to be stained with blood. At this time, Zhao Tai did not realize that the end of the world was coming. Looking at Chu Luoshui curled up on the beach, Zhao Tai smiled sinisterly. Chu Luoshui, I will humiliate you in front of Lu Fan later. Chu Luoshui said angrily, you are shameless. I am shameless, what can you do to me? Zhao Tai pinched Chu Luoshui's chin and said sinisterly, stop talking nonsense and open your mouth. Ignoring Chu Luoshui's resistance, Zhao Tai stuffed a pill into her mouth. The pill melted as soon as it entered her mouth. Chu Luoshui felt hot all over, her consciousness became blurred, and her hands touched her snow-white jade neck involuntarily. Seeing Chu Luoshui react so quickly, Zhao Tai's face was full of obscenity. Master Chiu, your Xiao Yao pill is really powerful. Chiu Lingyu stroked his goatee and said with a lecherous look, of course, Chu Luoshui is now no different from a prostitute. As long as he is a man, she will pounce on him. You are too shameless. Chu Luoshui's face flushed, and her nails dug into the flesh, trying to stay awake. But the medicinal properties of Xiao Yao pills are too overbearing. Soon, Chu Luoshui was sweating profusely, and her breathing became more and more rapid. Is this the jade girl in the entertainment industry? In my opinion, it's a lustful woman. Humph, an actor dares to cuckold Zhao Xiao. The disciples of the Red Flower Society pointed at Chu Luoshui. Zhao Tai felt dry in the mouth and said anxiously, Chu Luoshui, I'm a little angry, why don't you come over and serve me? Zhao Tai, your death is coming. Just when Zhao Tai was about to use force on Chu Luoshui, a black shadow came and chopped the disciple standing at the back more than 10 meters away. Following closely behind was the painter Qi Yu. Standing side by side with Qi Yu were the umbrella maker, bricklayer, carpenter and barber among the 18 craftsmen. Seeing that Lu Fan actually brought 5 migrant workers, Zhao Tai couldn't help laughing. Lu Fan, are you crazy? You brought these guys to kill me. Killing you beasts is enough. Lu Fan's eyes were cold, and he waved his hand and ordered, don't spare any, kill. Chapter 19. The Qilin Kidney is in full force. With Lu Fan's order, Painter Qi Yu rushed out first with a stylus in his hand. He swung the stylus in his hand and it turned into a residual shadow, piercing through the chests of 4 Red Flower Society disciples one after another. Puff, puff. Blood splattered like fireworks. When the disciples fell to the ground, Qi Yu grabbed the flying stylus and killed the other disciples again. Boss Qi, don't fight with me for heads. The umbrella maker held a black umbrella and jumped lightly, landing in the center of the disciples. Swoosh. Suddenly, the black umbrella in the umbrella maker's hand spun at high speed. The disciples who rushed towards the umbrella maker all had their throats cut and fell in a pool of blood. Next, it was the carpenter's turn. He bared his big yellow teeth, held an axe, and chopped and killed all the way, not taking the disciples seriously at all. Relying on the hard qigong to protect his body. The carpenter was not afraid of the steel knife. In my eyes, you are just pieces of wood. The carpenter killed faster and faster, and the iron axe in his hand turned into a series of afterimages, chopping at the disciples who rushed towards him. In less than a minute, the carpenter killed dozens of disciples. At this time, the barber took out a razor from his arms and said with a smile, everyone, do you need a shave? I really shave your head. Puff, puff. The barber swung the razor and cut the necks of 2 disciples. The barber only shaved the head, not the hair. Brothers, leave a few for me. Seeing more than 200 disciples of the Red Flower Society falling to the ground one after another, the bricklayer hurriedly swung the brick knife and chopped the disciples several meters away like bricks. Who are these people? How can they be so cruel? Zhao Tai was completely dumbfounded. When did the migrant workers become so powerful? Especially the bricklayer, who brought the aesthetics of violence to the extreme. Any bricklayer would blow up a disciple. My God, what kind of monsters are these? I want to quit the society. Please spare my life, I surrender. Some Red Flower Society disciples were so frightened that they knelt down and begged for mercy. Fortunately, these ghosts were not indiscriminate killers. All the disciples who knelt down and surrendered survived. Seeing that the people brought by Lu Fan were so fierce, Zhao Tai pinched Chu Luoshui's neck and shouted angrily, Lu Fan, if you don't want Chu Luoshui to die, kneel down. Chu Luoshui's face turned red because of being pinched, and he shouted anxiously, little junior brother, don't worry about me, kill him. Zhao Tai grinned, with a beautiful woman like you by my side, I won't feel lonely even if I die. No. You will be very lonely. As he said, Lu Fan took a 10-meter step and landed in front of Zhao Tai, pulled out the body knife at his waist, and chopped at his arm. Puff. Blood splattered 3 feet high. Zhao Tai pinched Chu Luoshue's right arm, which was directly cut off by the body knife. Body knife. Qiu Lingyu's face was ashen, and her legs limply knelt on the ground. Puff, puff, puff. Lu Fan chopped 3 more times in a row, cutting off Zhao Tai's left arm and legs. Save me. Zhao Tai's half-body fell to the ground, and soon dyed the beach red. Spare my life, Master Zuefutu. I'm innocent. I didn't know Chu Luoshue was your woman. Qiu Lingyu's face was full of horror, and she kowtowed and begged for mercy. Puff. Lu Fan raised his knife and cut Qiu Lingyu in half. Lu Fan threw the soft knife and said expressionlessly, no wrong souls are left under the body knife. Zuefutu? How could you be Zuefutu? Zhao Tai spit out blood and shook his head. He never thought that Lu Fan was the legendary Zuefutu. Lu Fan said with murderous intent, Zhao Tai, you shouldn't touch my senior sister. Zhao Tai struggled desperately and said, Lu Fan, you can't kill me, I am a branch of the Zhao family in Kyoto. Even if it was Zhao Wanga, I never took it seriously, let alone you. Lu Fan smiled evilly and cut Zhao Tai's neck with a knife. The 5th leader of the Red Flower Society, who was famous in Jiangcheng, was killed just like that. With the death of Zhao Tai, some surviving disciples of the Red Flower Society kowtowed and begged for mercy. Lu Fan put away the body knife and ordered, notify Blood Moon and clean up the scene. 10 minutes later, Du Lingxi, who had just participated in the Blood Moon selection, appeared in Jinshui Bay with a group of people in black military uniforms. Du Lingxi wore military boots, and her snow-white legs were wrapped in a layer of thin black stockings, and her knee-length skirt tightly wrapped her plump and sexy buttocks. She had a hot body, comparable to Chu Luoshue. The only flaw is that Du Lingxi's breasts are a little small. One day, I will surpass Xuefu too. Du Lingxi was not frightened by the scene in front of her, but encouraged herself. These members of the Blood Moon are well trained. In less than 10 minutes, the blood-stained beach was restored to its original state. Who killed my son? Just as Du Lingxi was about to withdraw the team, a fat man with a big belly rushed forward with his men. His name is Zhao Bancheng, the god of wealth of the Red Flower Society, and his status in the world is very high. Upon learning that Zhao Tai was killed, Zhao Bancheng immediately brought people over. Du Lingxi stretched out her hand to stop Zhao Bancheng, and said indifferently, your son Zhao Tai kidnapped the big star Chu Luoshue, and has now been killed by Lord Xuefu too. Slander. This is absolutely slander. My son Zhao Tai is kind-hearted, how could he do kidnapping? Zhao Bancheng was furious and didn't believe what Du Lingxi said at all. Du Lingxi sneered, what? From what you said, it was Lord Zuefutu who killed the wrong person. Zuefutu is the leader of the Blood Moon, holding the power of life and death, and can kill first and report later. Even if Zhao Bancheng is rich, he dare not be an enemy of Zuefutu. What's more, it was indeed Zhao Tai who kidnapped Chu Luoshue. Zuefutu did not kill the wrong person. Zhao Bancheng had no choice but to give in and make way. Lingyu Pavilion. This is the king of buildings in Jiangcheng, covering hundreds of acres. It is said that standing on the top floor of Lingyu Pavilion, you can have a panoramic view of the night view of Jiangcheng. Junior brother, go down a little more. Chu Luoshue, lying on the sofa, bit her sexy red lips and motioned Lu Fan's hand to rub a little lower. After being kicked a few times by Zhao Tai, Chu Luoshue's lower abdomen was tingling, like a needle. But under Lu Fan's massage, the tingling sensation gradually disappeared. Chu Luoshue, lying on the sofa, was only wearing sexy underwear. Her pair of snow-white jade legs were intertwined, and she was whimpering from time to time. Her pair of upright breasts seemed to be about to burst through her bra. Lu Fan smiled bitterly and said, sister, if you go any further, I will commit a crime. Junior brother, I just want to seduce you to commit a crime. Chu Luoshue hooked her snow-white jade legs, clamped Lu Fan's neck, and pulled him to her chest. Chu Luoshue was born with a charming body, and her voice was full of charm. Even though Lu Fan recited the Qingxin mantra several times, he couldn't suppress the fire of desire. Junior brother, I heard from master that as long as I practice the art of bedroom with you, I will have the hope of becoming a master. Chu Luoshui's jade face flushed, and she moved her sexy lips forward. The fusion of lips and teeth made Lu Fan unable to stop. Soon, the two intertwined and began to linger. As the art of bedroom was practiced, Chu Luoshui suddenly felt the Qi Hai acupoint warm, as if there were streams of energy flowing out and running along her meridians. Junior brother, I want to see your Qilin Kidney. Chu Luoshui's face flushed, she shook her sexy buttocks, turned her head and glanced at Lu Fan, indicating that he didn't need to be gentle with her. Chapter 20. Her skin is as white as snow, her legs are as soft as jade, and I feel pity for her. How could Lu Fan control himself when facing such a stunning beauty? Chu Luoshui's skin is as white as snow, tender and delicate, her waist is soft and slender, her breasts are white, tall and straight, her round buttocks are shaking back and forth, and she is very tempting. Junior brother, master said that if you don't practice your Qilin Kidney, it will be useless. Chu Luoshui's eyes were as charming as silk, her face was flushed, and she turned her head to look at Lu Fan, indicating that she didn't have to be polite. No wonder the third master said that there is no jade girl under the Qilin Kidney. Whoever encounters Lu Fan's Qilin Kidney will be in ecstasy. The next battle was particularly fierce. Soon, Chu Luoshui's seductive panting was heard in the room. Junior brother, next, it's my turn to exert my strength. Chu Luoshui flicked her long hair, and her soft tongue swirled along her rosy lips. Willow leaf eyebrows, almond-shaped eyes, a small cherry mouth, a willow-like waist like a pen, and a sweet voice. Who wouldn't be confused when seeing this? This effort lasted for more than 2 hours. Fortunately, Lu Fan has a unicorn kidney, otherwise, it would be a bit hard to bear. After the lingering, Lu Fan drove back to Shen Mansion. When he entered Shen Mansion, he saw Shen Feishue making a phone call. What did you say? The RD team was poached by Han Muqian. Shen Feishue was so angry that her body trembled and she sat limply on the sofa. This news was like a bolt from the blue for Shen Feishue. Without the RD team, the launch of new products is nowhere in sight. Lu Fan turned the car key and asked, "Wife, who is Han Muqian?" Shen Feishue frowned and said, "He is the prince of the White Lotus Group, backed by the White Lotus Society. After I repeatedly rejected his pursuit, he spent a lot of money to poach my RD team." No wonder Shen Feishue was frowning. Without the RD team, Shen Feishue would be led by Han Muqian. When the beauty products of Bail Ian Group are launched and occupy a certain market share, all Shen Feishue's previous investments will go down the drain. It has to be said. Han Muqian's move of cutting off the source of funds is really decisive. Fortunately, when he was in Yuming Mountain before, Lu Fan had developed many palace secret recipes with amazing effects. He has many palace secret recipes like this. Any one of them can set off the market. Lu Fan shrugged and smiled, "It's just a beauty formula, I'll give you one and you can beat Han Muqian." Hey, how can I attend a business banquet with only a formula but no samples? Shen Feishue sighed, looking helpless. This time when he went down the mountain, Lu Fan brought a lot of beauty products he personally prepared. Like jade dew cream, moisturizing powder, etc., everything is available. Thinking of this, Lu Fan hurriedly turned out his bag, took out a red porcelain bottle from it, turned his head and said, "Wife, this is the jade dew cream I carefully prepared. It can not only whiten and moisturize the skin, but also remove scars. The effect is amazing." Shen Feishue was full of disbelief, is it really that magical? Lu Fan handed over the porcelain bottle and smiled, "If you don't believe it, you can try it." What is this pitch black thing? Shen Feishue just touched a little ointment and was almost choked to death by the pungent herbal smell. What is this? If you taste it like this and bring it to the banquet, you will be laughed to death by your colleagues. Don't say it's applied, just smell it, you can't stand it. Lu Fan smiled and explained, "This is made of pure Chinese medicine, without any side effects. If you think the herbal smell is unpleasant, you can add some natural essence to it." There is not much time left before the banquet. Shen Feishue can only choose to believe Lu Fan. Arriving at the Jade Emperor Hotel, Shen Feishue took Lu Fan's arm and went straight into the banquet hall. In order to attend the banquet, she deliberately wore a white hollow knee-length skirt, with thin flesh-colored stockings wrapped around her legs. When she walked, her breasts swayed, instantly attracting many people's attention. The most eye-catching thing was Shen Feishue's proud breasts. But more people's eyes stayed on Lu Fan. Huh? Who is the man next to Shinfei? It seems to be her fiancé. What? Fiancé? Damn. A toad actually eats swan meat. The people who came to the banquet were full of jealousy and looked at Lu Fan with hateful eyes, wishing to eat him alive. Shinfei pulled Lu Fan and found a secluded place to sit down. But no matter where she sat, she would become the focus of the whole audience. As soon as she sat down, Lu Fan's hands became dishonest and pulled the flesh-colored stockings on Shinfei's legs. Shinfei blushed and said, "Lu Fan, what are you doing?" Lu Fan pulled a few more times and said with a smile, "Wife, your stockings are really thin, I just don't know how good the quality is." "No matter how good the quality is, you will still tear them into pieces." Shinfei stepped on Lu Fan's foot, her jade face flushed, as if she meant something. Lu Fan scratched the back of his head and smiled, "Next time, I'll be gentler." Shinfei blushed and said, "If your jade dew cream works well, I can let you be rough and tear it as you want." The lingering that night left a deep memory for Shinfei. It has to be said. Lu Fan, the master, is really fierce. I don't know why. When she thought of the passionate ripples that night, Shinfei's jade legs would involuntarily clamp together, as if she was moved. My stomach hurts so much. Shinfei suddenly felt a pain in her lower abdomen, and her jade face turned pale as snow. Lu Fan took Shinfei's pulse and frowned, dysmenorrhea. Shinfei bit her red lips and said anxiously, "What should I do? The banquet is about to start." This banquet. Shinfei also wanted to take the opportunity to promote the jade dew cream. But in her current condition, let alone promotion, she can't even stand steadily. Lu Fan held Shinfei's jade hand and said softly, "How about I give you a stab?" Shinfei blushed and smiled bitterly, "How can I give you a stab in public?" Lu Fan suggested, "How about going to the bathroom?" Okay. Shinfei blushed and had to go to the bathroom with Lu Fan's help. After locking the door, Lu Fan picked up Shinfei and gently put her on the toilet. Squeak. The tearing sound spread throughout the bathroom. Shinfei smiled bitterly and said, "Why did you tear my stockings? If I don't tear the stockings, how can I stab you?" Lu Fan twisted a silver needle from somewhere and stabbed Shinfei's Chihai acupoint. Shinfei said resentfully, "I can take it off." Lu Fan said righteously, "Take it off and then stab it, it's really a waste of time." Shinfei pouted and said, "I think you did it on purpose. Your stockings are rotten, I'll take them off for you." Without waiting for Shinfei to answer, Lu Fan took off her high heels and took off the flesh-colored stockings bit by bit, revealing her fair and slender legs. Ice-skinned and jade-like feet. Who would not want to lick them after seeing them? Seeing Lu Fan swallowing his saliva, Shinfei blushed and said anxiously, "Don't lick them. Ice-skinned and jade-like feet, I feel pity for them." Before Lu Fan finished speaking, he heard a knock on the door, which spread throughout the bathroom. "You little bastard, are you tired of living? How dare you touch the woman Han Muqian, likes?" Soon, there was a fierce sound of banging on the door from outside. Chapter 21. Dare to touch my woman, I'll kill you. A stunning beauty like Shinfei. Han Muqian has been coveting her for a long time. The reason why he poached Shinfei's RD team was to force her to submit. But who would have thought that Shinfei would fall to the point of playing poker with a country bumpkin in the bathroom? If his secretary Tang Ru hadn't told him, he would still be in the dark. Bang. With a cracking sound, the bathroom door was smashed. When the bathroom door was opened, Shinfei's jade face was flushed, her breathing was slightly panting, and her white jade neck was covered with fine beads of sweat, crystal clear. The most eye-catching thing was the flesh-colored stockings that were violently torn. How could he, Han Muqian, be the clown? "Shinfei, why did you betray me? You know, I have a special liking for you." Han Muqian's handsome face had a hideous look, and the only fantasy in his heart was gone at this moment. It seems that Shinfei was indeed fucked. And it was in the bathroom of the banquet hall. Shinfei took Lu Fan's arm and said with a straight face, "Mr. Han, this is just your wishful thinking." Lu Fan looked Han Muqian up and down, and smiled with interest. "So you are the licker." Licker? Han Muqian, the prince of the White Lotus Society, was actually called a licker. Jealousy. I can't help being furious. "Stinky boy, I'm going to smash your dog mouth." Han Muqian's eyes were red, and he raised his fist and hit Lu Fan's lips hard. Snap. The crisp slap sounded throughout the venue. Tang Ru, the secretary following behind Han Muqian, cursed angrily, "Little beast, how dare you hit Mr. Han?" Par. Suddenly, a loud slap was heard, and Tang Ru screamed, and her body flew several meters away like a kite with a broken string. "Stinky boy, if you are brave, follow me to the banquet hall." Han Muqian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and turned to leave the bathroom. At this moment, there was an uproar in the banquet hall. When Lu Fan arrived with Shen Feishue, he saw Han Muqian talking to a Japanese yin-yang master. The Japanese yin-yang master wore a badge on his chest. That was the chrysanthemum badge unique to Juju Ilio. Most people in Juju Ilio are proficient in Feng Shui Shenshu and Shaman Duanjia. Fujiwara Yuming. Hiss, I never thought that young Master Han could invite this Feng Shui master who is so powerful in Southeast Asia. Hey, young man, you'd better kneel down and beg for mercy. Fujiwara Yuming's reputation has long been deeply rooted in people's hearts. I don't know how many people have been killed by his mysterious arts because of offending Fujiwara Yuming. Little guy, you are so brave that you even dare to hit young Master Han. Fujiwara Yuming narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Lu Fan coldly. As the daughter of the richest man in Jiangcheng, Shen Feishue has certainly heard of Fujiwara Yuming's bad reputation. It is unwise to offend this person. Thinking of this, Shen Feishue hurriedly stepped forward and said, Master Fujiwara, you are master, so you don't have to embarrass a junior. A peerless beauty like Shen Feishue. Who wouldn't be confused when seeing her? No wonder Han Muqian was so angry. If you want me to stay still, I can, but I have a condition. Fujiwara Yuming looked at Shen Feishue with a squinting look, licking his lips with his bloody red tongue, his eyes full of desire to conquer. Shen Feishue hurriedly asked, what's the condition? Fujiwara Yuming smiled sinisterly, I've been a little angry recently, and I want Mr. Shen to help me relieve my anger. Shen Feishue, you'd better not disobey Master Fujiwara, otherwise, your little puppy will become a dead dog. Tang Ru was wearing a red dress, her round buttocks twisting and turning, so coquettish. Bang. Suddenly, Lu Fan kicked Tang Ru in the face, accompanied by a scream. Tang Ru's nosebleed splashed, and her body fell backwards. Seeing this, Han Muqian was furious and said, Master Fujiwara, don't do it. Swish, swish. Fujiwara Yuming pinched his hands together, and his deep and dark eyes stared at Lu Fan's eyes. After the seal was completed, Fujiwara Yuming chanted a spell and pointed a finger at Lu Fan's brow. Instantly, Lu Fan's eyes became dull, like a walking corpse. Seeing Lu Fan's dull eyes, Shen Feishue said nervously, Lu Fan, what's wrong with you? Fujiwara Yuming said grimly, he was hit by my soul-stealing technique. Soul-stealing technique? I heard that this mysterious technique can confuse people's minds. Tang Ru wiped the blood from her nose and said viciously, Master Fujiwara, I heard that if you are hit by your soul-stealing technique, you will become your puppet and be at your mercy. I wonder if this is true. Fujiwara Yuming pinched Tang Ru's plump buttocks and said obscenely, of course it's true. Master Fujiwara, can you perform for me to see more? While speaking, Tang Ru deliberately raised her chest and squeezed Fujiwara Yuming's arm. Fujiwara Yuming said with a lecherous look, what do you want him to do? Tang Ru gritted her teeth and said, I want him to lick my soles. After hearing Tang Ru's words, Fujiwara Yuming said with a stern face, why don't you do what Miss Tang said? At this moment, Shen Feishue's heart was in her throat. Could it be that Lu Fan really became a living dead? Fujiwara Yuming shouted, boy, hurry up and lick it. Lu Fan, wake up. Shen Feishue was very anxious and shook Lu Fan's arm. Tang Ru raised her high heels and cursed, little beast, lick it clean for me. Lu Fan, don't lick it. Shen Feishue was almost crying and hugged Lu Fan tightly from behind. But Lu Fan, as if he didn't hear it, slowly squatted down and took off Tang Ru's high heels. Seeing this, Tang Ru said excitedly, lick it quickly. I'll lick your sister. Lu Fan cursed angrily, swung his high heels and hit Tang Ru in the face. Bang. Blood splattered. Tang Ru's forehead was directly broken by the heel. My forehead. Tang Ru screamed and stepped back repeatedly. Han Muqian's pupils tightened, and he asked anxiously, Master Fujiwara, didn't he fall into your soul-stealing technique? What's going on? Fujiwara Yuming has been dominating Southeast Asia for many years with his soul-stealing technique, and has never failed. But this time, he capsized in the gutter and fell into the hands of a bumpkin. Soul-stealing technique. Fujiwara Yuming held his breath and concentrated, quickly forming seals with both hands, and used soul-stealing technique on Lu Fan again. Par. Suddenly, Lu Fan swung his high heels and slapped Fujiwara Yuming in the face. No way. Fujiwara Yuming, who is famous in Southeast Asia, was beaten into a pig's head. Is this not an illusion? The onlookers rubbed their eyes in disbelief. But when they opened their eyes again, they saw Fujiwara Yuming bleeding from his nose, curled up on the ground, and being kicked by Lu Fan. I told you to play tricks. Lu Fan kicked Fujiwara Yuming's head like a football. Fujiwara Yuming screamed, "Help, Mr. Han. Playing the pig to eat the tiger? It's interesting." Han Muqian rolled up his sleeves and shouted, "Stop. I told you to go crazy." Lu Fan didn't bother to pay attention to Han Muqian, but swung his high heels and slapped Fujiwara Yuming's face. Par. The crisp and rhythmic slapping sound spread throughout the banquet hall. "You country bumpkin, you really don't give me face." Han Muqian was furious, and he pushed his toes hard, and his body shot towards Lu Fan like a cannonball. Seeing this, Shinfei shouted, "Be careful." Lu Fan only thought Han Muqian was a playboy, and didn't take him seriously. He just swung his high heels and smashed Han Muqian's fist. "Break!" Han Muqian shouted and punched the high heels. Peak of the Yellow Realm. Hiss, I didn't expect that young Master Han's strength would be so terrifying. The onlookers were really frightened by Han Muqian's strength, and they retreated as if avoiding snakes and scorpions. Seeing that Han Muqian was about to take action, Tang Ru wiped the blood on her forehead and shouted angrily, "Young Master Han, cripple him." In Jiangcheng, no one has ever dared to be an enemy of the White Lotus Society. Even if there was, they would have been sent to hell long ago. But now, a bumpkin who came out of nowhere dared to be an enemy of Han Muqian. This made Han Muqian lose all face. Han Muqian was so angry that he gritted his teeth secretly, and his vicious eye swept towards Lu Fan. "Boy, you are so arrogant, do you dare to fight me one-on-one? Are you worthy of fighting me one-on-one?" Lu Fan snorted lightly, and the contempt in his eyes was not concealed at all. "Damn, you are so arrogant." Han Muqian's face turned green, and he said in a deep voice, "I am the Prince of the White Lotus Society, and I am also a peerless master at the peak of the Yellow Realm. How dare you look down on me?" Lu Fan chuckled, "Without the support of the White Lotus Society, you are nothing. What qualifications do you have for me to look up to you?" Han Muqian pointed at Lu Fan's nose and said aggressively, "Stop talking nonsense. If you are man, challenge me one-on-one." Lu Fan said calmly, "You like to be beaten so much, I can fulfill your wish, but you must bet on something. You want a prize, right?" Han Muqian narrowed his eyes and grinned, "Okay, I will fulfill your wish. As long as you can beat me, I will give you a blood Ganoderma. If not, I will blow your dog head off." Chapter 22 Female Killer How Ji. Blood Ganoderma. This is a spiritual medicine that improves blood and qi. If it is refined into a pill, it can greatly improve Chu the Warshue's strength. But this blood Ganoderma is extremely rare. Who knows, Han Muqian is not talking nonsense. Lu Fan smiled and asked, "Mr. Han, do you really have blood Ganoderma?" "Humph, my Han family started with medicinal materials. Although I am not as rich as Zhang Zhuxiao, I can still afford a blood Ganoderma." Han Muqian waved his hand, and a bodyguard handed over a rosewood box. Par. As soon as the rosewood box was opened, Lu Fan smelled a strange fragrance. "Is this 100-year-old blood Ganoderma?" Han Muqian ordered his men to put away the blood Ganoderma and turned to look at Lu Fan. "Boy, now the prize is set, do you dare to fight me?" Lu Fan spread his hands, shrugged and smiled, "What's there to be afraid of? I will definitely beat you to death." Han Muqian pointed at Lu Fan, took off his white gown and threw it to Tang Ru beside him. As Han Muqian stepped forward, the onlookers tactfully made way for an open space. Shinfei said nervously, "Lu Fan, do you really want to fight him?" Lu Fan smiled, "Why? Are you afraid that I will lose to him?" "That's not the case. I just asked you to show mercy and don't hurt his life." Shinfei smiled bitterly. She knew Lu Fan's strength. Like Han Muqian, a playboy, Lu Fan can be killed with a slap. But behind Han Muqian stood the White Lotus Society. If he was too cruel, the consequences would be disastrous. Lu Fan said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, I will spare his life." "Don't talk big, brat. Come over here and let me beat you to death." Han Muqian suddenly exerted strength in his arms, and his temples swelled slightly. Oh my god, why is his temple bulging? Practice the breath inside and the muscles and skin outside. It seems that young Master Han is not far from the Shen realm. Some martial arts masters secretly admired. Lu Fan hooked his fingers and said indifferently, "Go ahead. Take my punch." Han Muqian suddenly rushed out and punched Lu Fan. Facing the rushing Han Muqian, Lu Fan just raised his hand and blocked his fist. Click. The fists and palms intersected, making a sharp explosion. Fall. Lu Fan was frugal with words, and suddenly exerted strength in his palms, knocking Han Muqian several meters away. Screech. Accompanied by a tearing sound. Han Muqian's sleeves were torn by the energy. Puff. Han Muqian raised his head and vomited blood, and his back hit the floor heavily. Xianjing. Fujiwara Yueming's face changed slightly, and he said fiercely, "How is this possible?" Tang Ru rushed forward and helped Han Muqian up. At this time, Han Muqian's right hand was shaking violently, and his palm was cracked, and blood was flowing. Lu Fan stretched out his hand and said, "Mr. Han, I am willing to accept the loss of the bet, and bring the blood Ganoderma." Han Muqian sneered, "What blood Ganoderma? I don't understand what you are saying at all." "You don't understand, right? Then I'll let you understand." Lu Fan suddenly reached out and pinched Han Muqian's neck. As Lu Fan's hand strength became stronger and stronger, Han Muqian suddenly felt a suffocating feeling spread throughout his body, and his eyes began to turn black. If this continues, Han Muqian will definitely be strangled to death by Lu Fan. I understand. Bring me the blood Ganoderma." Han Muqian's eyes were red, and he winked at Tang Ru. If Han Muqian died, Tang Ru would definitely be buried with him. Tang Ru hurriedly picked up the rosewood box and handed it to Lu Fan respectfully. "You are a teachable child." When Lu Fan let go, Han Muqian collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. This is really embarrassing. Han Muqian was so angry that he slammed the floor, and a murderous look flashed in his fierce eyes. Tang Ru hurriedly helped Han Muqian up and comforted him, "Mr. Han, no matter how good Lu Fan is at fighting, he is just a reckless man. Without Shinfei Shue's support, he is nothing." "That's right." At this time, Fujiwara Yuming walked forward slowly and whispered, "Mr. Han, don't forget the purpose of our trip. This business banquet was organized by Han Muqian. The purpose is to launch the Jade Face Cream." Thinking of this, Han Muqian jumped onto the stage and said with a smile, "Everyone, my Bailian group accidentally got a palace secret recipe called Yuyin Cream. It has amazing effects. After applying it, it can instantly whiten your skin." Instant whitening. Isn't this a bit exaggerated? "Young Master Han, do you have any samples for us to try?" Some noble ladies were excited. Han Muqian ordered, "Xiao Ru, pass the samples down." Yes. Tang Ru didn't care about the injury on her forehead and ordered people to pass the Yuyin cream down. Some noble ladies couldn't wait to apply the Yuyin cream on the back of their hands. In just a blink of an eye, their skin became much whiter. It's amazing. It's really a palace secret recipe. "Young Master Han, can you sell me a few bottles?" Some noble ladies came forward and looked at Han Muqian expectantly. Han Muqian was very proud and laughed loudly, "Anyone who invests in Yuyin cream can get 1,000 bottles for free. Yuyin cream will definitely become a hit. Investing in Yuyin cream is no different from picking up money. If you don't invest now, when will you invest?" "Mr. Han, I'll invest 10 million. I'll invest 30 million. I'll invest 100 million. People who came to the banquet raised their hands to sign up. Lu Fan smelled the Yuyin cream and said in a serious tone, "Your Yuyin cream has a certain toxicity. If you apply it for a long time, it will cause skin ulcers at the least and endanger your life at the worst." "Nonsense. Be careful, I'll sue you for defamation." Han Muqian's eyes were evasive, as if he was a little guilty. Because of the rush of time, he did not do a toxicological test on the Yuyin cream. But Lu Fan just smelled it and said that the Yuyin cream was toxic. This is a bit too exaggerated. At this time, Lu Fan took out a bottle of Yulu ointment and said with a smile, "Everyone, this is the Yulu ointment I prepared by myself, made of pure Chinese medicine, with no side effects. No one would buy this stinky ointment." Han Muqian snorted and left with Fujiwara Yuming and others. Han Muqian lost face at this banquet. With Han Muqian's temperament, how could he let Lu Fan go easily? Han Muqian got in the car and gritted his teeth and said, "Master Fujiwara, can you bear this?" "Of course not. Anyone who offends me, Juju Ilio, must die." Fujiwara Yuming rubbed his swollen and painful face, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. People in Juju Ilio are the most vengeful. Anyone who is the enemy of Juju Ilio will definitely not survive that night. In order to kill Lu Fan, Fujiwara Yuming specially sent Haoji, the top killer in Juju Ilio. At this time, Lu Fan didn't know that he had been targeted by the assassins of Juju. In the huge banquet hall, only Lu Fan and Shinfeishue were left. Shinfeishue put away the jade Ju cream and sighed, "Hey, let's go to Lingyu Pavilion to see Luo Shui." "Okay." Lu Fan nodded and walked straight to the door. Bang. Suddenly, the door of the banquet hall was blown open by a gust of wind. Followed by, there were petals all over the sky. "Is this Juju?" Lu Fan's face changed slightly, and he hurriedly pulled Shinfeishue behind him. Shinfeishue said nervously, "What is Juju?" Lu Fan said in a serious tone, "Juju uses 9 kinds of highly poisonous substances to feed chrysanthemums, and cultivates a kind of chrysanthemum that blooms in winter, named Juju." Ding, ding. Accompanied by the sound of high heels landing. A woman in a red slit skirt appeared at the door of the banquet hall. She had charming eyes and a graceful breath. Under her slender jade neck, a pair of breasts were as white as jade, half covered and half hidden, charming and moving. There was a charming chrysanthemum inserted between her breasts. "In the next life, don't be an enemy of me, Juju Ilio." Haoji suddenly pulled out the chrysanthemum between her breasts, turned into a phantom, and stabbed Lu Fan's forehead. Chapter 23, Enchantress, don't do this. The person in front of me is none other than the top killer, the busty enchantress of Juju. She is proficient in charm and illusion. Every time she performs a mission, she kills with one strike. This time is no exception. When Haoji swooped down, her plump and sexy breasts actually trembled up and down. Dragon Claw Hand. Lu Fan grabbed with both hands, causing Haoji to grimace in pain. Squeak. With a cracking sound, the skirt in front of Haoji's chest was directly torn to pieces, revealing a white lace bra. "You are shameless." Haoji's jade face flushed, and she quickly performed a whip kick and chopped Lu Fan's head. But when Haoji performed a whip kick, her sexy skirt was exposed. The thin lace panties left a mark. "White. I like it." Lu Fan smiled evilly, grabbed Haoji's ankle and pressed her against the wall. Standing splits. Haoji felt ashamed. She had practiced ninjutsu since she was young and was very flexible. No matter how Haoji struggled, she couldn't get away. Haoji blushed and said, "Let go." Lu Fan asked, "Who sent you?" No comment. Haoji bit her sexy red lips and turned her head aside. Bang. Suddenly, Lu Fan punched out and hit Haoji's left chest. Haoji felt a sharp pain and broke out in cold sweat. Lu Fan teased, "This sandbag is good. It's really soft when you hit it." "You are so rude." Haoji's eyes were filled with tears and her face was full of grievance. Shinfeishue seemed a little reluctant, and stepped forward to persuade, "Lu Fan, why don't you let her go?" Lu Fan rolled his eyes at Shinfeishue and said unhappily, "Wife, she is a first-class killer of Juju. If I were not strong enough, I would have been stabbed to death by her. There must be no mercy to killers. Especially for a first-class killer like Juju, it is even more necessary to kill him. Hey, I'll wait for you outside." Shinfeishue looked helpless and had to turn around and leave the banquet hall. In fact, Lu Fan has been very restrained. Otherwise, Haoji would have broken his hands and feet long ago. When the door of the banquet hall was closed, Lu Fan slapped Haoji's buttocks. What are you doing?" Haoji screamed, her breasts shaking. Par. Lu Fan did not stop, but increased his strength and whipped Haoji's round buttocks again. Say it or not, say it or not." Lu Fan whipped and forced a confession. After more than a dozen slaps, Haoji felt her buttocks numb and swollen, her legs softened, and she knelt on the ground. Lu Fan's dozen slaps directly beat out Haoji's lust. Haoji felt hot all over since her debut. Haoji covered her snow-white breasts and sobbed, "Why don't you ask? Why don't you just hit me?" Lu Fan blushed, "Didn't I ask?" Hao Ji looked up at Lu Fan and said aggrievedly, "No." Lu Fan pulled a chair over and sat down, saying with a cold face, "Tell me, what is your purpose in coming to Jiangchen? Every time Zhuju Ilio comes to Daxia, he will cause a lot of trouble. I guess this time is no exception." Facing Lu Fan's interrogation, Hao Ji had to tell the truth. "Cut the dragon vein." "Where is the dragon vein in Jiangchen?" "Long Jiaobei." "Besides you, which other masters did Zhuju Ilio send?" "Sword god Yuhua Blade." Hao Ji panted repeatedly, but she answered all of Lu Fan's questions. "From Hao Ji, I learned that Zhuju Ilio has 4 gates, Zhuju 12 altars, and 36 societies. And sword god Yuhua Blade is one of the 12 altar masters. He came to Jiangcheng this time to carry out the decapitation operation. As for whose head to be cut off, it is unknown. After all, Hao Ji is just a small killer in the 36 societies and has no authority to know." Seeing that he couldn't get anything out of him, Lu Fan stood up and said, "Hao Ji, I don't need to tell you what to do next. I know." Hao Ji's eyes were as charming as silk, and she was panting heavily, and she was about to untie Lu Fan's belt. But as soon as Hao Ji's hand touched the silver belt, she was hurt by a chill. "What kind of belt is this? As thin as a cicadar's wing? As cold as ice?" Suddenly, Hao Ji seemed to think of something. "The blood pagoda. I am a gentleman." Lu Fan waved his hand to open Hao Ji's jade hand, and said indifferently, "I have done something to you. If you don't get treatment in time, you will be worse off than dead." Instead of killing Hao Ji, it is better to make her a chess piece and place her in Zhuju Ilio. If Hao Ji knows what's good for her, Lu Fan doesn't mind helping her to take the position. When Lu Fan left, Hao Ji grabbed a tablecloth and wrapped it around herself, and hurried away from the back door. As soon as he left the hotel, Lu Fan regretted it. "I should not have been a gentleman if I had known earlier." Xin Feishue, who was sitting in the passenger seat, turned her head and asked, "Lu Fan, you didn't do anything bad to her, did you?" "If I did something bad to her, I would never come out so soon." Lu Fan got into the car with a heroic and high-spirited look. Swish. Xin Feishue's face turned red. This bastard was showing off his ferocity again. It seems that he needs to exercise during this period. He has to win once. We can't always let Lu Fan plow the land. Lingyu Pavilion is located at the top of Yunwu Mountain. In addition to Lingyu Pavilion, there are many single-family villas on Yunwu Mountain. The car was stopped by a black-clad bodyguard not far into the villa area. Not far ahead, a woman in combat uniform was helping an old man over 70 years old to take a walk. "Stop. No driving ahead." The black-clad bodyguard had no expression on his face and motioned Lu Fan to pull over. Lu Fan raised his eyebrows and said, "Is this road yours?" The black-clad bodyguard looked at the time in a cold tone and said, "Let it go in 10 minutes." Xin Feishue, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said angrily, "What qualifications do you have to block the road? Miss, don't make trouble, otherwise, I will take compulsory measures against you." The black-clad bodyguard pretended to draw his gun, and his attitude was extremely tough. Lu Fan smiled and said, "Is this the so-called privilege?" Seeing Lu Fan get out of the car, the black-clad bodyguard said coldly, "You can understand it this way." Lu Fan laughed angrily, "Can you do whatever you want with privilege? Boy, I advise you not to provoke privilege, otherwise." Before the black-clad bodyguard could finish his words, he saw the old man walking forward, and turned around and scolded, "Enough. What privileges or not, this road is not mine alone, why don't you let it go?" Lu Fan looked at the old man and felt that he looked familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Qi Wufu. If you don't look closely, you really can't recognize him. Who would have thought that an old man who was taking a walk was actually the legendary military god? Qi Wufu, wearing a worn-out old military uniform and old Kyoto cloth shoes, nodded to Lu Fan, indicating that he could go. The woman who supported the old man said coldly, "If this happened in the army, I would beat you to death." "What did you say?" Lu Fan, who was about to get on the car, glanced at the woman with cold eyes. "No matter how deep your background is, you can't abuse your privileges." The woman said unreasonably, "Who abused the privileges? I just asked you to wait for 10 minutes. Hongying, stop talking." Qi Wufu seemed to be angry and coughed while holding his chest. Lu Fan frowned, "Late-stage lung cancer. My friend, how long do you think I can live?" Qi Wufu's eyes lit up, as if he saw the hope of living. Lu Fan counted with his fingers and said calmly, "A quarter of an hour." Qi Hongyin said angrily, "Hey, you little brat, what are you talking about? Dr. Sun said that my grandfather can live for at least another month." Lu Fan ignored Qi Hongyin and looked at Qi Wufu and said, "Old man, there are red veins on your nose bridge and your life palace is black. In less than a quarter of an hour, you will have a bloody disaster." Chapter 24 Assassination of the God of War. Blood disaster. How ridiculous. The God of War Qi Wufu is a founding hero who has made great military achievements for the Great Xia Kingdom. Now he is the elder of the dragon guarding pavilion, with a high position and power. Looking at the entire Great Xia Kingdom, who dares to touch Qi Wufu? If these words were spoken by the head of Longhu Mountain, Chiangmai Jinren, then Qi Wufu would naturally believe it. But these words were spoken by a young boy. How could Qi Wufu believe it? Qi Wufu thought that Lu Fan was just trying to attract attention, and did not say anything, but turned around and said, "Hongyin, let's go. Grandpa, he is so hateful, I have to teach him a lesson." Qi Hongyin clenched her jade fist and was about to attack Lu Fan. Qi Wufu said with a stern face, "What? You don't even listen to me." How dare Qi Hongyin not listen to Qi Wufu's words? She glared at Lu Fan, turned around and followed him angrily. If it were someone else, Lu Fan would not bother to care. But Qi Wufu had made great contributions to the country. How could Lu Fan sit back and do nothing? Thinking of this, Lu Fan turned his head and said, "Wife, go back to Lingyu Pavilion first, I'll follow you to see." Shenfei Shua said nervously, "Did the old man really have a bloody disaster?" Lu Fan nodded and said in a serious tone, "He was almost dead." "Then go quickly." Shenfei Shua turned around and sat in the driver's seat, driving straight to Lingyu Pavilion. In order not to be discovered by Qi Wufu, Lu Fan followed along the woods on the left side of the asphalt road slowly. When they arrived at a small garden, Qi Wufu pulled Qi Hongyin to sit down. Qi Hongyin said angrily, "Grandpa, that kid just now was so hateful." Qi Wufu smiled and said, "How is he hateful?" Qi Hongyin pouted, "He actually said that I abused my privilege. Isn't it?" Qi Wufu's tone suddenly turned cold, and he looked up at Qi Hongyin. Qi Wufu sat there, intimidating without anger. Even Qi Hongyin, who was willful and capricious, did not dare to talk back to him. Qi Wufu frowned and pondered, "Hongyin, I heard that you contacted Yu Jielong." Seeing Qi Wufu asking, Qi Hongyin nodded repeatedly, "Yes, Grandpa, Yu Jielong said that your disease can still be cured, but it must be treated with blood ganoderma. Blood ganoderma is too rare, I'm afraid it's hard to find." Qi Wufu pounded his legs, as if he had accepted his fate. Qi Hongyin said with red eyes, "Grandpa, the Han family has a blood ganoderma, and Yu Jielong has come to ask for it. Alas, the blood ganoderma can only prolong my life. Forget it, let it be." Qi Wufu sighed, slowly stood up, and was about to go back. But at this moment, a strong wind blew, and chrysanthemums fell all over the sky. Qi Wufu, who was about to turn around and leave, suddenly changed his face. "There is murderous intent. He, Qi Wufu, your death is coming." Accompanied by a series of strange laughter, a Japanese man in white samurai clothes appeared out of thin air behind Qi Wufu. "Who is it?" The bodyguard responsible for protecting Qi Wufu was about to draw his gun when his arm was cut off by a knife. Puff. Blood splattered. The black-clothed bodyguard screamed and fell in a pool of blood. Qi Hongyin pulled out her bayonet and shouted, "Who are you?" "Sword God Yu Huaren." The Japanese killer smiled cruelly and swung his knife at Qi Hongyin. Qi Hongyin hurriedly swung her bayonet to block it, and then she heard a bang. She was slashed 7 or 8 meters away by Yu Huaren's samurai sword. "A waste like you is worthy of being the captain of the Xiaolong Special Forces." Yu Huaren held a samurai sword and looked at Qi Hongyin with contempt. Qi Hongyin shouted angrily, "Come again. The light of a firefly is worthy of competing with the sun and the moon." Yu Huaren chuckled and swung his knife at Qi Hongyin. Bang. Another muffled sound came out. Qi Hongyin's body was like a cannonball, smashing onto the rockery in the flowerbed. Puff. Qi Hongyin raised her head and vomited blood, slowly fainting. "Old Qi, I'll send you to the west right now." Yu Huaren flashed and swung his sword towards Qi Wufu's head. Facing Yu Huaren's samurai sword, Qi Wufu blocked it with his arm and directly knocked him several meters away. But Chi Wufu also injured his lung meridian and started coughing violently. After a while, blood appeared at the corners of Chi Wufu's mouth. Yu Huaren said sarcastically, "It seems that the information is correct. You do have lung cancer. If I didn't have lung cancer, I could smash a piece of trash like you with one punch." Chi Wufu felt cold all over and was out of breath. It's a pity that there are no IFS in this world. Yu Huaren laughed grimly and raised his sword to slash at Chi Wufu's neck again. Chi Wufu was about to use his luck to resist, but he felt a sharp pain in his chest and couldn't get up any strength. Chi Wufu had insufficient lung qi, and he had a lot of internal strength, but he couldn't use it. "I regret it now." Chi Wufu never thought that the person he met before was not a showman, but a hermit master. But it was too late to say anything now. "Die!" Yu Huaren shouted and swung his sword. This sword would definitely cut off Chi Wufu's head. So what if he is a god of war? In the end, won't he still become a ghost under the sword? Swoosh! Suddenly, a leaf flew out of the woods and broke Yu Huaren's samurai sword. Yu Huaren's face changed drastically, and he turned his head to look. "Who is it?" "You still have time to commit suicide now." At this time, Lu Fan walked out of the woods and appeared in front of Yu Huaren. Yu Huaren looked Lu Fan up and down, and said with a wary face, "Who are you?" Lu Fan smiled and said, "Who am I? You can go down and ask the king of hell." Picking leaves into darts. The man in front of him was actually a master of the earth realm. How is this possible? Yu Huaren was scared. He took a few steps back subconsciously with the broken knife. "Boy, you are so arrogant. I am Yu Huaren, the first-class sword god of Juju. I don't believe that I can't kill a country bumpkin like you." Yu Huaren slowly moved his feet and raised the samurai sword again. Chi Wufu coughed and said, "Be careful, his samurai sword is coated with poison." When performing tasks, most of the first-class killers of Juju like to apply Juju venom on their weapons. But as a disciple of the immortal demon Dr. Tan Tai Yu, Lu Fan has long been immune to all poisons. "If your master comes, maybe I will be a little bit afraid, but as for you, I can kill you with a flick of my finger." Lu Fan picked up a leaf on the ground in the air and shot it at Yu Huaren's throat. Facing the flying leaves, Yu Huaren shouted and swung his knife to cut it down. With a bang, Yu Huaren's broken knife was broken by the leaves again. Looking at the hilt in his hand, Yu Huaren swallowed his saliva and bewitched, "Boy, with your strength, as long as you are willing to join me, Juju Elio, power, sex and wealth are at your fingertips. You don't have to work for Daxia for a few hundred yuan." Foolish. Yu Huaren actually wanted to impress Lu Fan with these vulgar things, power, sex and wealth. But now Lu Fan has already stood at the top of the pyramid. How could he take power, sex and wealth seriously? "You talk too much nonsense." Lu Fan showed murderous intent in his eyes and reached out to grab Yu Huaren's right arm. Puff. Blood splattered. Yu Huaren's right arm was directly torn off by Lu Fan. Seeing Lu Fan so fierce, Yu Hua Blade jumped into the flower pond, grabbed Chi Hongyin's neck, and said with resentment, "You little brat, if you don't want her to die, let me go. I want to see whether your hand is faster or my knife is faster." Lu Fan smiled evilly, suddenly pulled out the body knife from his waist, and slashed at Yu Hua Blade. Chapter 25. Do you need a back rub? Puff. The knife fell. Yu Hua Blade's left arm was instantly cut off by Lu Fan's knife. Body knife. Yu Hua Blade screamed, his face full of horror, and his body limply leaned against the rockery. In Daxia, the blood moon descended, and the gods and demons were forbidden to travel. And the man in front of him was the new leader of the blood moon, Xue Futu. How could Yu Hua Blade not be afraid? Lu Fan said lightly, "It seems that my knife is faster. I surrender." Yu Hua Blade knelt hurriedly and kowtowed to Lu Fan. Lu Fan said coldly, "How can you surrender without raising your hands?" Puff. Lu Fan swung his knife and cut Yu Hua Blade's throat. "You cut off my arm, how can I raise my hands and surrender?" Yu Hua Blade spit out blood and slowly fell into a pool of blood, dying with eyes wide open. "You are an elder of the dragon guarding pavilion." Chi Wufu had certainly heard of Zuefutu. But Chi Wufu had only heard of him and never seen him. "Are you Yi Puti's apprentice?" At this time, Chi Wufu covered his chest and walked slowly to Lu Fan. Lu Fan nodded, "Yes, Mr. Chi, my name is Lu Fan." Lu Fan. Qi Wufu muttered to himself, and suddenly thought of something. Are you the abandoned child of the Lu family in Kyoto? Lu Fan put away the body knife and said indifferently, yes. It seems that the Lu family is going to be in trouble. 20 years ago, in order to curry favor with the rich and powerful, Lu Longtu expelled Lu Fan and his son from the Lu family and married Zhao Wanga, the number one witch in Kyoto. 10 years ago, Lu Fan's mother suddenly disappeared. In a rage, he went to the Lu family to question her, but Zhao Wanga destroyed his unicorn bone with one palm. Now Lu Fan is in charge of the Blood Moon. With his temperament, he will definitely come to the door to seek revenge. Looking at Lu Fan's back, Qi Wufu murmured to himself, if you are born with unicorn bones, you will not be immortal. At the same time, Han family in Jiangcheng. Knowing that Han Muqian had a blood ganoderma in his hand, Yu Jielong brought Lu Xiaowan to the door to ask for it. I think with Yu Jielong's strength, Han Muqian should not dare to refuse. Miss Yu, I wonder what you are here for. Han Muqian stood aside with a teapot, bowing his head from time to time. Don't look at Han Muqian as the prince of the White Lotus Society. But in front of Yu Jielong, they can only kneel and lick. It is no exaggeration. With Yu Jielong's order, Chiang Xiahui will flatten Bailey in society. Yu Jielong took a sip of tea and said indifferently, I heard that you have a blood ganoderma. Miss Yu, blood ganoderma. Before Han Muqian finished speaking, Yu Jielong put down the teacup heavily and raised her eyebrows and said, name a price, I'll buy it. Han Muqian smiled bitterly, Miss Yu, the blood ganoderma is not in my hand. Do you know what the consequences of deceiving me are? Yu Jielong just blew a breath, and the teacup in front of her was shattered by the force, and the tea splashed everywhere. The power of the master. How could Han Muqian resist it? Han Muqian wiped the cold sweat from his forehead in a hurry, and said in a trembling voice, to be honest with Miss Yu, the blood ganoderma was won by a boy named Lu Fan. Lu Fan. Yu Jielong's eyebrows tightened, thinking, why is it this bastard again? Afraid that Yu Jielong would not believe him, Han Muqian hurriedly said, I fought Lu Fan in a duel and lost to him. After hearing Han Muqian's words, Yu Jielong was puzzled. How could you lose to him when you are at the peak of the Yellow Realm? Miss Yu, you don't know. Lu Fan pretended to be a pig to eat the tiger. I was just careless for a moment and lost to him. Han Muqian also wanted to save face, so he naturally wouldn't say that he was killed by Lu Fan in seconds. Lu Xiaowan, who was standing behind Yu Jielong, gritted her teeth and said, Miss, Lu Fan is despicable and shameless. He is best at sneak attacks. No wonder Han Muqian lost to him. Even someone as smart as Yu Jielong fell into Lu Fan's hands. Not to mention a little Han Muqian. But the blood ganoderma is related to Qi Wufu's life and death. No matter what, he must get it. Just as Yu Jielong was about to get up and leave, she saw Qi Hongyin's phone call suddenly came over. Miss Yu, please come to the Qi family quickly. My grandfather was assassinated. Assassinated? Who is so bold as to assassinate the military god Qi Wufu? When they arrived at Qi's house, Yu Jielong saw that Qi Wufu was pale and coughed up blood from time to time. It seemed that he had suffered serious internal injuries. Yu Jielong took Qi Wufu's pulse and said in a deep voice, Old Qi's lung pulse is weak and not optimistic. We must get the blood ganoderma as soon as possible to treat him. Qi Hongyin said with red eyes, You didn't get the blood ganoderma. How dare the Han family not sell the blood ganoderma to Yu Jielong? Could it be that the Han family raised the price? Captain Qi, you don't know that there is a scoundrel who plotted against Han Muqian and cheated away the blood ganoderma. Lu Xiaowan hurried forward to explain. Qi Hongyin's jade face turned cold and said coldly, Take me to see that scoundrel. Originally, Yu Jielong wanted to go with Qi Hongyin. But Qi Wufu's condition was critical and he had to use the 13 Ghost Gate needles to prolong his life. She couldn't leave at all. I think with Qi Hongyin's background and strength, she should be able to force Lu Fan to bow his head. After all, this is a good opportunity to curry favor with the Qi family. After learning from Lu Xiaowan that the person who cheated the blood ganoderma was called Lu Fan, Qi Hongyin hurriedly ordered people to find his whereabouts. Soon, Qi Hongyin locked Lu Fan's location. Lingyu Pavilion. Qi Hongyin murmured, and then took Lu Xiaowan and went straight to the top of the mountain. When Lu Fan returned to Lingyu Pavilion, he saw Shen Feishue playing with Chu Luo Shui on the sofa. Shen Feishue took off her high heels, revealing her black beautiful feet, twisted her plump buttocks, climbed on Chu Luo Shui, and tore off her lace nightgown. And at the moment the nightgown was torn, Chu Luo Shui's snow-white breasts galloped out like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins. "Xieshue, what are you doing?" Chu Luo Shui blushed and kept resisting. Shenfei smiled and said, "I want to try the effect of the jade dew cream." Chu Luo Shui said shyly, "Why don't you try yours?" "Because yours is big enough, the effect is more obvious." Shenfei said confidently, raised her sexy buttocks, and applied the jade dew cream on Chu Luo Shui's breasts. After some testing, Chu Luo Shui's breasts not only became whiter, but also became rounder and more elastic. With this jade dew cream, Shenfei will definitely dominate the cosmetics industry. Just don't know if the cost of the jade dew cream is high. If it is too high, the profit point will be greatly reduced. Lu Fan seemed to see Shenfei concerns and smiled. The cost price of the jade dew cream will not exceed 300 yuan. Shenfei said excitedly, "Really? Silly girl, how can I bear to lie to you?" Lu Fan touched Shenfei head lovingly. Shenfei pouted, "You are the silly girl. Enough of you two, can you stop showing off your affection in front of me?" Chu Luo Shui wrapped herself in her nightgown and stretched, "I'm going to take a hot shower." Before going up the stairs, Chu Luo Shui gave Lu Fan a meaningful look. "It seemed to mean that if you were brave enough, come up and fight for 300 rounds. Chu Luo Shui is really a fairy, and every frown and smile can seduce Lu Fan's soul." After sending Shenfei away, Lu Fan tiptoed upstairs and opened the door of the bathroom. The shower sprayed on Chu Luo Shui's sexy buttocks, splashing everywhere. A pair of breasts as white as mutton fat jade, covered by a layer of water mist, looming. When seeing Lu Fan coming in, Chu Luo Shui's jade face flushed, and her sexy cherry mouth slightly tilted up, wanting to invite people to kiss her. She is charming and enchanting, and her allure is constantly seducing Lu Fan. "Third senior sister, do you need a back rub?" Lu Fan swallowed his saliva and stared blankly at the stunning beauty in front of him. What Chu Luo Shui needs is more than just a back rub. No matter how good the land is, it still needs to be plowed by cattle. Since being moistened last time, Chu Luo Shui's mind is full of Lu Fan's figure, which is lingering. "Junior brother, I want a one-stop service, can you satisfy me?" Chu Luo Shui's white jade arms hooked Lu Fan's neck, and her voice was slightly teasing. Chapter 26, One Night of Sleeping with You, 100 million. Chu Luo Shui now wishes she could practice sex arts with Lu Fan every day. But the premise is that Lu Fan's body can bear it. "My unicorn kidney can keep me company with 3,000 women." Lu Fan grabbed Chu Luo Shui's soft buttocks and carried her to the sink. After a lovemaking session, Chu Luo Shui lay in Lu Fan's arms and smiled charmingly. "Junior brother, you are really fierce when you plow the land." Lu Fan smiled and said, "No matter how fierce the iron bull is, it can't do without the cooperation of fertile land." Chu Luo Shui rolled her eyes at Lu Fan and changed the subject. "By the way, junior brother, accompany me to the cocktail party later." "What cocktail party?" Lu Fan asked casually after getting dressed. Chu Luo Shui smiled and said, "In order to promote the Jade Face Cream, the White Lotus Group is preparing to select a spokesperson and hold a cocktail party. I heard that they have also invited many celebrities and internet celebrities to attend." Obviously. Han Muqian is full of confidence in Yu Yang Shuang. I heard from Chu Luo Shui that Han Muqian is going to spend 1 billion to promote Yu Yang Shuang. If he is lucky enough to be selected as the spokesperson, he will definitely make a lot of money. Lu Fan, who was waiting for Chu Luo Shui to come downstairs in the living room, suddenly saw Lu Xiaowan kicking the door and rushing in. "Lu Fan, where is the blood Ganoderma?" "What blood Ganoderma?" Lu Fan looked at Lu Xiaowan with disgust. This Lu Xiaowan is really annoying. It's like a dog skin plaster, you can't get rid of it. What Lu Fan is most unhappy about is Lu Xiaowan's tone of voice. Even if you want blood Ganoderma, at least you have to be polite to Lu Fan, right? Lu Fan, you are really good at pretending. Don't think I don't know that you used despicable means to win the blood Ganoderma from Han Muqian. Lu Xiaowan looked at Lu Fan with contempt. Lu Fan said impatiently, "It has nothing to do with you." Lu Xiaowan said arrogantly, "Stop talking nonsense. Old Qi needs blood Ganoderma to prolong his life. I hope you can donate blood Ganoderma for the sake of the overall situation." It turned out that Lu Xiaowan wanted to use blood Ganoderma to prolong Qi Wufu's life. It's a pity that with Qi Wufu's current body, I'm afraid he can't bear the nourishment of blood Ganoderma. Thinking of this, Lu Fan frowned and said, "Blood Ganoderma can't save old Qi. Don't you just want money?" At this time, Qi Hongyin hung up the phone and walked in. As soon as she entered the door, she took out a black card from her pocket. "This is the Black Dragon card of Baihua Bank. You can take as much money as you want." Black Dragon card? Chu Luoshui, who had just come downstairs, was really shocked. It seems that the woman in camouflage clothes in front of him should have a great background. As far as Chu Luoshui knows, there are only a handful of people in the entire Dashir country who are qualified to get the Black Dragon card of Baihua Bank. But Lu Fan treated the Black Dragon card as nothing. Crack. Lu Fan casually broke the Black Dragon card and threw it to the ground. Lu Fan said coldly, "Miss Qi, not everyone will rely on the powerful. It turned out to be you, kid." Qi Hongyin looked up and found that the man in front of her was the little charlatan who cursed her grandfather. Lu Xiaowan asked in confusion, "Captain Qi, do you know him? If it weren't for his curse, my grandfather wouldn't have been assassinated." Qi Hongyin's eyes were red and she glared at Lu Fan. It's really like a scholar meeting a soldier, and it's hard to explain. It was obviously Lu Fan's kind reminder, but who would have thought that Qi Hongyin not only didn't appreciate it, but instead blamed him for Qi Wufu's assassination, which was simply unreasonable. "Whatever you say." Lu Fan looked indifferent, took Chu Luoshui's hand, and walked around Qi Hongyin. Seeing Lu Fan so ignorant, Lu Xiaowan angrily scolded, "Lu Fan, can you put the overall situation first? Old Qi has made great contributions to the country. He is now critically ill and urgently needs blood Ganoderma to prolong his life. If you still have a conscience, donate it quickly." For Lu Xiaowan, this is a good opportunity to cling to the Qi family. As far as Lu Xiaowan knows, the Xiaolong Special Operations Team is selecting a chief instructor. Once selected, he will be awarded the rank of Brigadier General. If he wins the first place in the three-army competition, he will have the opportunity to become a general. Although Yu Jialong is a master of the Earth realm. But she is young after all, and lacks combat experience, far less than some old masters such as Hu Jinshuan. But if Yu Jialong can help Qi Wufu prolong his life, then her position as the chief instructor is a foregone conclusion. So, Lu Xiaowan will morally blackmail Lu Fan. Lu Fan sneered, "I still say the same thing, the blood Ganoderma can't save Mr. Qi. Lu Fan, you are so shameless." Lu Xiaowan's eyes were cold, and she suddenly punched Lu Fan's head. Bang. Lu Fan used a scorpion tail move to kick Lu Xiaowan 7 or 8 meters away. As Lu Xiaowan landed, a rosewood box on the coffee table fell heavily to the floor. Seeing that Lu Fan dared to fight back, Qi Hongyin angrily scolded, "You are so bold. Lu Fan, do you still have the lore in your eyes?" Without waiting for Lu Fan to speak, Chu Luoshui joked, "Miss Qi, is it the law for you to break into a private house?" Chu Luoshui's words almost choked Qi Hongyin to death. It was obviously Qi Hongyin who broke into the private house first. How could she have the face to talk about the law? Qi Hongyin knew she was in the wrong, but she was proud and said, "You are lousy actor, you have no right to speak." "Who are you calling an actor?" Lu Fan stared at Qi Hongyin with eyes like lightning. "I don't know why." Just by looking at Lu Fan, Qi Hongyin felt a chill on her back. "For the sake of Mr. Qi, I will forgive you this time, but it won't happen again." After saying that, Lu Fan left with Chu Luoshui without looking back. She is the eldest daughter of the Qi family. How could Qi Hongyin be threatened like this? It was a great shame. This bad breath was really hard to swallow. Lu Xiaowan, who was about to get up, suddenly smelled a medicinal fragrance and hurriedly opened the rosewood box. "Captain Qi, I found the blood Ganoderma." "But this blood Ganoderma." Qi Hongyin seemed a little embarrassed. Taking the blood Ganoderma like this was no different from stealing. Lu Xiaowan urged, "Captain Qi, there is not much time left for old Qi." In order to save Qi Wufu, Qi Hongyin didn't care about so much. Even if it ruined her future, she accepted it. Emperor Club. This is a famous den of money in Jiangcheng. In order to hold a cocktail party, Han Muqian specially paid for the entire club. Those who came to the cocktail party were either rich or noble. As for the so-called celebrity artists, they were just a foil. Huang Xiaoyang followed a rich young man and said flatteringly, "Mr. Luo, only a talent like you can be worthy of Chu Luoshui." "Yes, Mr. Luo, you are a shareholder of the White Lotus Group. I don't know how many female stars are proud to climb into your bed." I guess Chu Luoshui is no exception. She is destined to stick her butt up tonight and wait for you to pick her. Huang Xiaoyang and some other rich second generation started to make a fuss. Luo Shuangyin shook his folding fan and smiled faintly. She is just an actor. I just need to beg her hand and she will crawl over like a dog and let me play with her. That's how confident she is. As a shareholder of the White Lotus Group, Luo Shuangyin does have the confidence. In addition, he is also Han Muqian's cousin. Chu Luoshui is here. Someone shouted, and instantly attracted a lot of people to watch. Even some rich second generation stood on tiptoe and looked forward to it. Not long after, Chu Luoshui appeared at the cocktail party in a red corset dress and high heels. Her eyes were charming and sexy, and her proud breasts became more round under the light. The tight skirt wrapped around Chu Luoshui's plump buttocks. Luo Shuangyin suddenly put away his folding fan, with a proud look on his face, blocking Chu Luoshui's way. Miss Luoshui, you are so sexy tonight. Chu Luoshui smiled slightly. Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Luo. Miss Luoshui, do you know how much the endorsement fee for Yu Yang Shuang is? Luo Shuangyin looked like he had Chu Luoshui in his arms. Chu Luoshui shook her head. I don't know. Luo Shuangyin stretched out a finger and smiled sinisterly. 100 million. Chu Luoshui's jade face changed slightly. What do you want to say? Sleep with me for one night, and you will be the spokesperson for Yu Yang Shuang. While speaking, Luo Shuangyin picked up the folding fan and held Chu Luoshui's chin, arrogant and domineering.